At the Chirkefaltz orphanage, she begins a fairy tale of a handmaiden and a young lord who fell in love. The lord transformed the handmaiden into a beautiful lady. Together, they attended a ball and danced the night away, but their relationship was met with disapproval from everyone. Despite the opposition, he placed a ring on her finger. The little girl is amazed by the story's happy ending. Wow. Dahlia gently reminds her it's only a story, but the girl insists she knows the difference. The girl then poses a question to Dahlia. What if she fell for someone who became a powerful noble? A sudden gasp pierces the air. The question triggers a memory, and Dahlia stares in wide-eyed shock. She recalls panting in the arms of a dark, blue-haired man. In that memory, a single tear traced her cheek. The blue-haired man's voice echoes the little girl's question about loving a high-ranking noble. He then asks her directly what she would do in that situation. Back in the memory, she sits up in bed with a rustle. Sighing, she clutches her shoulder. She turns to look at the sleeping man beside her. Her fingers slip gently across his sleeping face. With a determined look, she clutches the sheets to her chest. And with a great whoosh, she leaps from the window. Outside, the sheet she wore flutters from the empty window frame. She lands softly on the ground below, panting as her feet tap the ground. Wearing a red cloak, she pants as she looks back one last time. Clutching a suitcase, she journeys alone into the snowy woods. Her expression is filled with grim determination. She wipes away a tear, trying to stay strong. She runs deeper into the dark, snowy forest. Years earlier, a bright-eyed Dahlia Belor introduces herself with a warm smile. She announces her first day as an apprentice handmaid, receiving a round of applause. Clap! The head maid instructs a senior maid, Thelma, to give Dahlia a tour. Her heart thumps with excitement. It all feels like a dream. She arrives at a magnificent and sprawling estate. The property is as beautiful as it is grand. Thelma explains the salary here is exceptionally high. Dahlia dreams of saving enough to open a flower shop with her sister. Her daydream is interrupted when someone calls her name. Standing beside Thelma, Dahlia's expression turns apprehensive. Thelma points out a separate, distant building, the annex. Grabbing Dahlia, Thelma gives her a stern warning. Never go near the annex. To keep her job, she must obey this rule. Dahlia nervously agrees. Dahlia gazes at the annex, resolving to be careful. Soon, she overhears constant gossip and questions about the mysterious annex. The rumors speak of the ghost of the annex, the Duke's youngest son, who is said to be disfigured and violent. People whisper that he is crazy, a criminal not to be trifled with. All the rumors paint a terrifying picture of him. Undisturbed by the gossip, Dahlia calmly arranges flowers in a vase. A young maid stands thoughtfully. She hopes not to meet anyone from the annex. She looks up in sudden surprise. An older woman entrusts her with a package. The maid hesitates, recalling Thelma's warning, but the woman insists it's a quick errand. The woman warns her to complete the task herself, praising her for not gossiping. Caw, crows watch from the trees. Rustle, caw. She walks nervously through the woods. Squeeze, she clutches the package tightly. She arrives at the ominous annex. Slam, she enters a grand, empty room. Step, step. She cautiously ascends the stairs. Clack, she enters a dark room, announcing her presence. Her eyes widen in the sudden, soft light. A young man stands across the room. Whoosh! She recalls the terrifying rumors about the dangerous and violent man. Blue flowers frame her troubled thoughts. She thinks in disbelief. This is supposed to be him. He is known as the ghost of the annex, the cursed bastard boy. As his name, Isaac Jufgenschuldt, is revealed, he finds her fascinating. He apologizes, explaining the gift she brought is a puzzle called the White Knight. He reveals a massive, completed, all-white puzzle on the floor that took him 2 days. She stares at him in stunned silence. A faint, knowing smile plays on his lips. She quietly answers, yes. He kneels beside the vast, completed puzzle. She thinks his appearance is otherworldly as he rolls up his sleeves. He asks for the book, which she confirms she has. Rustle, he takes the package from her hands. Rip, he opens it as she inwardly panics. He reveals Treasure Hunt Part 2, much to her shocked recognition. Gasp. Her reaction is one of pure shock. He asks, surprised, if she can read. After confirming she can, he asks if she went to school. She recalls reading discarded books to her beloved younger sister. He smiles, impressed that she taught herself to read. Her bright eyes meet his gaze. She wistfully agrees they might have been. He pauses, struck by a thought. She flusteredly assures him it's quite all right. He coolly acknowledges her words with a simple slip. He walks past, noting her apparent love for reading. He offers her the entire library as an apology. Overjoyed, she thanks him profusely. He stands silently, watching her genuine delight. She worries that the books are too valuable for someone like her. A hint of a smile plays on his lips. Tak, a sound catches her attention. Tak, tak, she turns and calls out to him. Tak, he dismisses their value, stating they are just decoration now. Dahlia looks nervous inside the annex library. A young man with brown hair offers her a stack of books, their eyes meeting. He insists she take them. He then asks for her name. She introduces herself as Dahlia Belor, and he softly repeats her name with a smile. As night falls over the annex, he invites her to come again. Whoosh, Dahlia walks outside, clutching a book to her chest. She recalls the rumors, realizing the man inside is the complete opposite. She remembers him as elegant and kind. Their first meeting with the books replays in her mind. Hug, she holds the books close, a gentle smile on her face. She thought he was more like an angel, seeing him sit alone in the vast library. A soft rustle is heard from an unfinished puzzle. The young man sits alone on the floor, surrounded by puzzle pieces. His gaze follows a single falling piece. His hand clenches into a fist. He believes everyone either hates him or fears him, or at the very least, looks down on him. The memory of their meeting cuts through his dark thoughts. He reaches out, wondering what that feeling was. He recalls her bright eyes and warm smile. A small, hopeful smile touches his lips. Tap, he sits in the library, wondering about her words. Crack, a sudden noise interrupts his solitude as someone calls his title. A man reports seeing someone leave the annex, but the man from the annex says, everything is fine. He explains it was a handmaid, but not an ordinary one, as a red-eyed man smirks menacingly. The man from the annex thinks to himself that she must not know the rumors. Squeeze, he nervously adjusts his collar. He gazes out the window with quiet determination. The menacing red-eyed man wonders if he could make one handmaiden his. The man from the annex calls for someone named Hoover. He decides he can take one handmaiden for himself. Staring out at the estate, he resolves to appoint one. The scene shifts back to the main mansion. Dahlia looks up with a start. The head maid informs a confused Dahlia that the annex's previous maid brought news. She is stunned to learn she will now be tending to all matters of the annex. Dahlia and Thelma stand silently side by side. Standing before the head maid, they accept the new assignment. Thelma tells Dahlia to follow her. Dahlia panics, wondering what she's going to do. She recalls Thelma's warning. The annex was the one place to avoid. Thelma asks if something is wrong, but Dahlia quickly denies it. Dahlia insists to Thelma that she wants to keep this job for as long as possible. Thelma asks if she has met Sir Isaac, and Dahlia confirms she has. Thelma agrees that he isn't a bad man. The real problem, she explains, is the Duchess and the Marquess. A family tree reveals Duchess Hermina, Marquess Maximilian, and Lady Carla all despise Isaac. It has been this way since Sir Isaac first arrived at the estate as a boy. The Duchess banished him to the annex, while the Marquess relentlessly tormented him. Clack. Dahlia questions the family's intense hatred for him. Thelma explains the prestigious Jufkensholt family would never accept him. She warns Dahlia that things will get crazy when the Marquess visits. Thelma cautions Dahlia not to get too close to Sir Isaac. She ominously states that a sad end awaits anyone involved with him. Shah. Dahlia listens with a determined gaze. Thelma shows her a hidden gate to use for annex visits. A hand surprises Dahlia by offering her a small, dark box. A sharp voice suddenly calls out for Thelma and Dahlia. Ordered to the main entrance, a confused Dahlia wonders what's happening. Dahlia watches from behind Thelma, her eyes wide with shock. Panic sets in. He will be here any minute. Gulp. A man anxiously takes a drink. Kya, Marquess Maximilian Jufkensholt, makes his dramatic entrance. A woman with dark hair dares him to take another sip. Lady Carla Jufkensholt threatens to throw away his flask. Shrug. Maximilian dismisses her warning with a defiant smirk. Gulp. He ignores her and takes another drink. Grab. Lady Carla snatches a book from his hands. The book is suddenly thrown from the window of their moving carriage. Having fallen, Maximilian screams for the carriage to stop. FWIP. She shoves a letter at him, demanding he read it. He seethes with anger, realizing what Isaac did in his absence. Huff! Dahlia pants as she runs through the woods. Huff! She continues her urgent dash, her face etched with worry. Her golden eye reflects her unwavering determination. Thelma warns her that visiting the annex will become difficult. She gives Dahlia strict orders to return before the Marquess arrives. Grab. She stumbles against a tree, overwhelmed with distress. The scene shifts to the imposing annex building. Sir Isaac stands waiting outside the entrance. A tense confrontation begins as Maximilian approaches Isaac. Slam! Maximilian violently shoves Isaac as Dahlia watches in horror. Squeeze! He furiously questions Isaac's audacity to attend his school. As Maximilian screams, Dahlia recognizes him as the Marquess. She watches the violent confrontation, her face filled with fear. In the face of the attack, Isaac remains completely calm. The Marquess stares, enraged by his brother's composure. Isaac coolly tells Max that he's been shaming himself with his grades. Flinch, Dahlia recoils at the dangerously tense exchange. Isaac calmly repeats his biting remark about Max's poor grades. He adds that it's not his fault. He's stupid, of course. Listing Max's vices, he leaves his brother speechless with fury. Rise! Maximilian lunges forward, screaming the name Maya Obrick. FWIP, Isaac easily stops his punch, asking if he's forgotten. FWIP. Picking up the torn application, he tells Maximilian to leave. He clarifies he never intended to attend that school anyway. His profile shows a quiet and unshakable resolve. Defeated, Maximilian sighs and offers one final, empty threat. The Marquess retreats down the path, defeated and alone. Step, Marquess Maximilian walks away as Dahlia hides behind a bush. Startled, she's caught sneaking by a voice from behind. Sir Isaac stands before her in the sunlit woods. She looks up, flustered and at a loss for words. He notes her poor timing and their family's difficult relationship. She insists the Marquess doesn't hate him, comparing it to sibling fights. He smiles softly, musing that hate is still a form of caring. He clarifies the difference between fighting and merciless bullying. When school is out, he explains, all hell breaks loose. He pulls her from the bushes, their faces suddenly close. Holding her, he warns her to avoid Max and his nasty habits with handmaidens. She nervously questions what he means by nasty habits. Flinch, he correctly guesses her thoughts about the heir's protected status. Shaw, the leaves rustle as they stand in a tense silence. Surrounded by flowers, his expression is filled with quiet resolve. At the mansion, an angry voice screams in disbelief. Duchess Ermina Yevgensholt rages against sending Isaac to a noble school. At the dinner table, she continues her furious tirade. Max calmly tells her he already destroyed the application in Isaac's face. The Duke, Geharin Yevgensholt, scolds Max for interfering. Max furiously accuses his father of upsetting the family hierarchy. He complains about how Isaac's presence would negatively affect him. The Duke scoffs, stating Max's poor grades are his own disgrace. Max accuses his father of using the bastard to get good grades. As Max vows to destroy every application, the Duke orders him to stop. Storming off, Max declares that Isaac doesn't even want to attend. Slam, the Duke sighs in frustration after his son storms out. Defeated and weary, the Duke calls for more alcohol. Slam, the Duchess despairs over the constant fighting about Isaac. The Duchess sends Carla to check on Max, but Carla is doubtful. But you're twins, the Duchess insists, urging her to try talking to him. Alone at the vast table, Carla lets out a weary sigh. Clack, in the servants' quarters, they gossip about the family's latest fight. Dahlia sips her tea, quietly taking in the rumors. Her thoughts drift to Isaac. They're all just human, after all. She recalls the overheard shouts of the Marquess's angry vow. She remembers witnessing the father and son's bitter argument firsthand. The thought echoes in her mind. Just like us. A voice calls her name, snapping her out of her thoughts. Her friend Adina announces they're needed to help Lady Carla's short-handed team. Her roommate Adina cheerfully invites her to go along. Adina explains Lady Carla returned from vacation early, leaving her understaffed. Adina reveals Carla is the only one who can calm the Marquess's anger. Whisper, Adina warns her to be careful before knocking on the door. Clack, they announce their arrival to a silent Lady Carla at the window. Lady Carla turns, remarking that she's never seen Dahlia before. She calls Dahlia pretty, then adds a cold, ominous, how unfortunate. After demanding her name, Dahlia introduces herself as Dahlia Belor. Adina teases Dahlia about the high praise from the beautiful Lady Carla. Lady Carla insists she is serious, telling Adina her new friend is quite pretty. Lady Carla explains that a maid's beauty is a curse, not a blessing. She leans in, specifically warning Dahlia to watch out for Max. He won't rest, she adds with a knowing smile, once he sees a pretty girl. Dazed, Dahlia is left to process the chilling and ominous warning. Back in their room, Adina finds a worried Dahlia and tells her not to overthink it. Dahlia claims she was just taken aback, and Adina assumes she means the family's fighting. She wonders aloud why a family with everything would have anything to fight about. Adina cynically explains that having so much just makes them greedy for more. An image of Maximilian's frustrated and angry face flashes through the conversation. Patting her head, Adina gently calls her naive for thinking money solves everything. As Dahlia arranges flowers in a vase, Adina agrees with her but hesitates. However, Dahlia thinks to herself, having no money is its own desperate struggle. Her thoughts drift back to a painful and somber memory from her past. Cough, the image of her younger sister, sick and weak, fills her mind. A flashback reveals her sister Laurel suffered from asthma since she was a baby. After their parents died in the war, Dahlia worked tirelessly, knowing money was crucial for her sister's medicine and survival. She did it all so they could live together. But one day, a dark thought surfaced. She had wondered if it would be easier for everyone if her sister simply died. Wobble, she was immediately shaken and horrified by her own terrible thought. The overwhelming guilt that followed forged within her an unbreakable resolution. She would protect her sister's happiness and life, no matter the cost. That very resolution is what brought her to the imposing Jufgenschult mansion. She recalls the intimidating figures of the family, the cold lady, the frightening marquess, and the ghost lord of the annex. Despite the danger, her gaze remains unwavering, filled with fierce determination. 2 months later, winter settles over the grand estate. Inside, the maid's daily routine continues in the bustling laundry room. Shada writes a letter to her sister, asking about her health and cough. Rub, she shares the good news about an upcoming vacation for the servants. Sweat, she promises to visit soon, urging her sister to stay healthy until then. Suddenly, her name is called, and she turns from her work in surprise. It's Adina, beaming as she holds up a letter from her sister. Dahlia's face instantly lights up with pure, uncontainable joy. She takes the letter, her expression softening into a gentle, relieved smile. Later, while reading the letter, Adina remarks how dangerous her sister's asthma can be. Dahlia happily shares that she's getting better medication and plans to buy her a new blanket. Holding the letter to her heart, she prays for a peaceful winter. Bang! A loud noise suddenly shatters the quiet, hopeful moment. Here he goes again, Adina sighs, as Dahlia correctly guesses it's the Marquess. Adina explains that his recent daily hunting is just a disguised protest in front of the annex. His childish tantrums are causing chaos and stress for the entire staff. When Adina blames the Ghost Lord, Dahlia quickly jumps to Isaac's defense. She argues it's not his fault he was born an illegitimate child. Adina is visibly stunned by her friend's bold and unexpected defense. Just then, Thelma appears and summons Dahlia to come with her. Dahlia bids a quick farewell to her still surprised friend. Edna watches her go, thinking how kind she is for taking Sir Isaac's side. As they walk through the hall, Dahlia asks if they are heading to the annex. Clack, Thelma stops and reveals a change of plans. Sir Isaac is being moved to the main mansion for his own safety. Nod, Thelma hands her a bag of supplies for the task. With cleaning tools in hand, Dahlia stands ready for the job, a determined smile on her face. A blonde maid, thinking of Sir Isaac, resolves to clean his room perfectly as she opens the door with a click. Clack, she enters with a cheerful greeting for Sir Isaac. Oops, she immediately covers her mouth, realizing her mistake. In the sunlit room, Isaac rests peacefully in a chair. She inwardly marvels at his radiant skin and long eyelashes. Flustered, she bites her lip in embarrassment for disturbing him. She bows deeply in apology, but he calmly tells her it's quite all right. He asks if she's there to clean, and she timidly confirms, certain he's angry. Her eyes widen when he asks if he can stay and watch. Stunned, she stammers an apology as he observes her with a faint smile. Whoa! He looks around the now sparkling room in surprise. He praises her impressive work, and she thanks him, admitting to herself she worked harder out of guilt. She wonders why a nobleman would be interested in watching her clean. He asks how long she has worked there, and she replies it's been almost 3 months. He asks about her previous job, and she reveals she worked for Duchess McFawn. He notes Duchess McFawn's reputation for having a temper, which she confirms is true. She recalls the Duchess's cruelty, whose hobby was abusing the maids. Surprised, he asks how she possibly endured such treatment for half a year. She explains she works to pay for her 6 sisters' medical bills, and he realizes she has family. She adds that she once had parents, but they died in the war. She asks specifically if she means the Wublung Civil War. Her expression darkens as she quietly confirms. A quiet moment passes between them, his gaze fixed on her. Squeeze. She clutches an envelope, regretting her words and wanting to apologize. He breaks the silence, telling her, "You're really something else, Dahlia." He recalls the war's cruelty, remarking that she managed to survive. He reflects on her incredible strength, having lost her parents and raised her sister amidst the horrors of war. Touched by his words, her eyes well up with emotion. She humbly dismisses his praise, saying many others suffered in the war. As she scrambles away expressing her hopeful outlook, he wonders if her positivity could apply to him too. She turns back with a radiant smile, assuring him it will. He watches her, a warm and genuine smile gracing his features. Dahlia quietly continues her work, folding a cloth. He stands with his arms crossed, silently observing her. A shadowed smile plays on his lips as he watches her. As she wishes him a good day and turns to leave, he calls out for her to wait. Startled, she remembers the book she borrowed and hasn't finished yet. Blush, she panics, worrying he thinks she's stolen the book. She promises to fetch it immediately, but he calmly reassures her there's no rush. He clarifies that he was simply curious, and she lets out a small sound of understanding. Beaming with joy, she tells him she would be so grateful. Thud, the door closes behind her. Slump, she collapses against the door, covering her face in her hands. She wonders if she just made a fool of herself, wishing she'd just stayed quiet. A red-haired maid approaches from the side, calling her name. The young maid has bright red hair, red eyes, and freckles. Dahlia looks up in surprise, stammering the other maid's name, Edina. Dahlia asks what she's doing here, and Edina explains it's her turn to clean the hallway, then questions Dahlia. Edina asks why she's so flushed, but Dahlia quickly shushes her before she can finish her thought. Clack! A nearby sound makes them both freeze and gasp in surprise. Click. A quiet sound signifies a new development. Clack. The footsteps of an unseen person echo nearby. Edina looks concerned as Dahlia hides her face in shock. With her face hidden by a mask, Edina questions a flustered Dahlia. Dahlia looks worried as a voice asks what she is doing there. The voice shouts in astonishment, learning Dahlia is caring for the ghost. In their room, Dahlia quiets Edina, who apologizes for her shocked outburst. Edina explains that Thelma instructed her to keep Dahlia's new assignment quiet. Dahlia looks up earnestly, asking if her friend can keep it a secret. Edina flashes a bright smile, promising that of course she can. She warmly reassures Dahlia, saying that's what friends are for. Sniffle. Dahlia is visibly moved by her friend's sincere loyalty. Edina brings up the footsteps they heard, and Dahlia agrees that since they were wearing heels, it couldn't have been a maid. They conclude that the person who overheard them must have been either Lady Carla or the Duchess. Plop. Dahlia collapses onto her bed in a panic, hoping it was Lady Carla and resolving to simply do her job well. Edina listens to her friend's worries with a pensive expression. Sweep. Edina thinks of Dahlia diligently working. Deciding they're probably fine, the two friends stop worrying about it. Carrying a book, Dahlia muses on how Isaac keeps requesting supplies one item at a time. Knock knock, she wishes he'd ask for everything at once as she arrives at his door. Sir Isaac welcomes her with a kind, gentle smile. Dahlia enters his grand study and delivers the requested ink. As he tells her he was expecting her, he thanks her and, in a kind gesture, hands her a book. He gives her the adventure story as a gift, remembering it's her favorite genre. Dahlia smiles happily, telling him she'll read it when she comes to clean. Squeeze. She holds the thoughtful gift close to her heart. She walks alone down a beautiful, sun-drenched garden path. Holding the book, she smiles and happily wonders what he'll give her next. Gasp! Her peaceful moment is shattered by a cold voice warning her to stay away from Max. Dahlia turns around nervously to find Lady Carla standing behind her. Carla smiles disarmingly, explaining she sent the other maid away so they could be alone. Wearing a revealing gown, she complains that as a new debutante, she's being dressed up to be sold off on the marriage market. Dahlia compliments her beauty, and Carla cynically remarks that the dress is sure to make men drool. Grab, she suddenly snatches the book from Dahlia, warning her that their mother would be furious. With a menacing tone, she asks if Dahlia wishes to be fired. A cold smile plays on Carla's lips as she holds the confiscated book. Walking together, Carla asks if Dahlia knows the real reason they call Isaac the ghost. She reveals it's because he swallows up whoever he takes a liking to. FWIP, she casually drops the book from her hand. Push, she places the book back into Dahlia's hands, finishing her ominous warning. Carla says the house is already chaotic enough because of Max. She turns and walks away, leaving a stunned and worried Dahlia behind. Flap. Birds fly around Dahlia as she stands alone in the courtyard, troubled by the warning. Bang, a gunshot rings out, startling the birds into flight. A single bird flies toward an open door on a balcony. FWIP. The bird zips through the open doorway. Hop, hop, hop. The tiny creature makes its way inside. FWIP. It comes to a stop on the edge of a chessboard. Isaac sits at the table, his expression dark and serious as he stares at the little bird. Heh, Isaac smirks, thinking the little bird has no sensibility. Looking down at the chessboard, he focuses on its brown feathers. His thoughts drift to an image of Dahlia, serene and beautiful amongst flowers. He pictures her in an elegant gown, a vision of grace. He recalls her bright, joyful smile as she called out to him. Holding a bird-shaped pastry, he wonders what she would do if he took her for himself. Clack, back in the present, he sits at the board as the bird flies around it. Slam! The door opens to reveal the Marquess, whom Isaac formally greets. The Marquess explains his mind is racing and he needed a break. He asks his son to indulge him in a round of chess. Isaac calmly makes a move, announcing that it's check. The Marquess admits he forgot about the bishop and asks for another round. Isaac looks down with a solemn, unreadable expression. The Marquess stands and places a firm hand on his son's shoulder. A dark shadow falls over the Marquess's stern and imposing face. He tells Isaac to get some rest before turning to leave. Thud. After his father leaves, Isaac remains seated, lost in thought. His thoughts turn to his father's title, the Conqueror of Herkman. He recalls when he first learned of his father's great accomplishments. A memory shows a small Isaac kneeling in the snow before his towering father. A close-up reveals the boy's flushed, adoring face looking up at him. He remembers wanting to be the sword that would always protect his father. Now he stands alone on a giant chessboard, surrounded by fallen pieces. A memory of his mother surfaces as he reflects on his limited usefulness. Squeeze! He clutches his chest in anguish, wondering how long his father will use him as a replacement for that woman. Grasping his head, he cries out in his mind as a sharp pain hits. Wobble! He stumbles back from the table, knocking chess pieces to the floor with a clatter. Huff! He struggles for breath, leaning heavily against the wall for support. Ha! He slides down the wall, thinking he had forgotten the past. Catching his breath, he finds himself wondering if Dahlia will visit tomorrow, lying on the floor in exhaustion. He hopes seeing her angelic face will make him feel better. The tense moment fades into a quiet, abstract transition. The scene shifts to the bustling servants' dining room. Setting the table, Dahlia realizes with a start that the footsteps they heard belonged to Lady Carla. She nervously weighs her options, wondering if she should confide in Thelma or Adina. Just then, Adina surprises her with a cheerful hug, asking if she's heard the news. Splash! Adina excitedly announces they are having horsehair crabs from the North Sea for dinner. When Dahlia seems unimpressed, a shocked Adina asks if she's never had them before. Dahlia mentions she's eaten mud crabs, earning a dramatic scoff from her friend. Boom, Adina points out Thelma's rare, eager expression, and Dahlia gasps in disbelief. Gasp! A massive, cooked red crab is brought to the table. Ta-da! Dahlia looks on with uncertainty, thinking the crab looks rather gross. Gulp! She watches nervously as Adina and another maid happily devour the crab legs. Dahlia takes a hesitant bite of the unfamiliar delicacy. The memory fades as the scene transitions to a sunny day. Beam. Dahlia shines with happiness as she goes about her work. Blink. Isaac looks up from his tea, startled by her cheerful energy. She excitedly announces that she dreamt of horsehair crabs, and he asks her to elaborate. Dahlia vividly recounts a dream of dancing on a beach with her sister while eating giant crab legs. Ha ha! Isaac lets out a genuine laugh, clearly amused by her whimsical story. Isaac asks if the crabs were really that good, and Dahlia enthusiastically agrees they were the most delicious thing she's ever eaten. Dahlia notes that since horsehair crabs are rare, something good must have happened, and she credits Lady Carla. A flashback shows an unenthused Lady Carla receiving gifts from suitors as Dahlia muses that she must have them lined up out the door. Isaac smiles, thinking that gifting her crabs was the least they could do, but he doubts Carla was very thrilled about it. Shake! Shake! Isaac shakes his head no, and a surprised Dahlia asks if he's serious. He clarifies that while they taste good, they're not to his preference, as he doesn't really care for food in general. Dahlia beams happily, explaining that the delicious food made her forget all her worries and troubles for a moment. Isaac asks if she has worries and troubles, and Dahlia looks momentarily caught off guard. She remembers Lady Carla's threatening words and thinks to herself that she can't tell him her troubles are about him. Seeing her hesitation, Isaac kindly tells her she doesn't have to share if she doesn't want to. Dahlia admits she had an upsetting incident, but confesses that talking with him like this makes her feel much better. Surrounded by an illusion of white flowers, Isaac gives her a warm, appreciative look. Dahlia blushes, flustered by his kind expression as she's surrounded by pink flowers. Isaac playfully asks if she'd rather be given more horsehair crabs, causing a flustered Dahlia to exclaim his name. He tells her there are much tastier foods than crabs and wants to introduce her to them, enjoying her happy reactions. But she primly states she's a virtuous lady, who doesn't just eat anything. With a bright, happy smile, she adds that if he were to gift her anything, she would gladly accept it. Slam. Suddenly, a man in a purple cape kicks the door open, interrupting their peaceful moment. Dahlia looks on in shock, recognizing the Viscount's menacing face as he glares at them. The Viscount, holding a rifle, smirks and asks what a maidservant is doing in Isaac's room. He mocks Isaac for not being as indifferent to women as he thought, but Isaac retorts, asking when Max will stop thinking everyone is just like him. Standing protectively in front of Dahlia, Isaac states plainly that his room was messy and needed to be cleaned. FWIP. Max dismisses his excuse with a condescending, sure, and says the timing is actually perfect. Thud, he throws a heavy sack onto the floor and calls out to Dahlia. Drip. Dahlia stares in horror at the blood-stained sack as Max explains he found a bunch of rabbits by the annex. Gulp. She covers her mouth, horrified, as he says he caught them all to be eaten for dinner. Click. Max points his rifle at her and yells at her to move, reminding her that a Viscount just gave her an order. The Viscount looks back, puzzled, as Isaac coolly says. Actually, Rip, with a dark energy radiating from him, Isaac stands and states he doesn't believe he's seen the Viscount around before. Grab. Isaac seizes Max's arm and tells him he's overstayed his welcome, while Dahlia frets that she needs to take care of the sack. Isaac sternly orders Dahlia to leave immediately, insisting that he will handle the situation. She looks back at him, momentarily stunned by his forceful command. Slam! The door is shut, leaving the Viscount alone with an angry Isaac. Max scoffs, asking if Isaac really just sent her away, adding that he could have at least made her cook them a stew. Slip. Isaac's hands grip the door handles tightly as he mutters the word, stew. The Viscount turns away with a smirk, thinking stew is actually not a bad idea. Slip. The scene focuses on Isaac's hands, still clenched tightly around the door handles. Chatter, chatter, the scene shifts to the bustling servants' dining hall, where everyone is eating. Clatter. Dahlia stares blankly into her soup, lost in worried thoughts. In a memory, Dahlia cleans a window and asks Isaac if he gets lonely living in the annex by himself. He replies that it's fine, since he has Hoover and animals that visit him, which prompts a cat-like Dahlia to wonder about them. He fondly recalls feeding a rabbit that then made a home in the storage shack, a thought Dahlia finds unimaginable. With a gentle smile, Isaac promises to show her the rabbits next time. A tear rolls down her face as she remembers the cruel fate of the animals. Her eyes widen in horror, reliving the terrible moment. In a dark, textured frame, a thought reveals that Isaac's mother and Max were the cause of his loneliness. Woo, back in the dining hall, Dahlia sees a dark reflection of herself in her soup. Her expression is grim as she thinks about Isaac, wondering if he's all right after the confrontation. When Adina asks what's wrong, Dahlia simply says she's a little tired. Adina cheerfully reminds her that she'll get her vacation in a few days, and Dahlia manages a small smile, realizing it's sooner than she thought. Gnome. Dahlia quietly eats a piece of bread during her break. She serves a dark-haired man in a grand room, who thanks her politely. He observes that she looks tired, but a startled Dahlia insists she is fine. He kindly tells her to get some rest before her break starts tomorrow, and she thanks him with a smile. Squeeze. She anxiously clasps her hands, thinking it will be the new year when she returns. In a montage of her thoughts, Dahlia worries that Sir Isaac will not need her as often when he returns to the annex, as he has another servant there with him and the dark-haired man. Surrounded by an illusion of flowers, she resolves to protect Isaac until her time off. Back with the dark-haired man, she notices his tea is cold and offers to brew a fresh pot. Clack, he sets his cup down, telling her there is no need as he has another request for her. FWIP. He opens a drawer and retrieves a wax-sealed envelope. Taking her by the hand, he explains that he wrote down something he wanted her to do. He hands her the letter, telling her not to open it just yet. A gentle smile graces his face as he holds the letter out to her. Confused by the request, she obediently accepts the envelope from him. He asks about the location of the orphanage she's visiting, and she replies that it's in Chirkefaltz. With a serious expression, he quietly mumbles that her destination is far. She asks him to repeat himself, but he quickly dismisses it, saying it was nothing. He wishes her safe travels, and a happy Dahlia thanks him as she is surrounded by flowers. Zoom. The scene transitions to a busy train station as the final call for Chirkefaltz echoes through the platform. Now on board, Dahlia sits with her luggage as the final call is announced again. She looks down at the letter with apprehension, her hands trembling slightly. Doom. She opens the envelope and gasps in astonishment at the sight of a gold coin. FWIP, she quickly glances around at the other passengers, discreetly concealing her valuable discovery. Flip. She reads the accompanying letter, shocked to learn the money is equivalent to 10 months' salary. The letter explains the money is an apology for her encounter with Max, but she thinks it is far too much. Gasp! A chibi version of Dahlia is stunned as she continues reading the letter. A memory of the dark-haired man surfaces, as his letter explains he cannot leave the estate and has little use for money. The letter continues, asking her to spend the money as she wishes and tell him all about it upon her return. He concludes by confessing that he finds great enjoyment in simply hearing her talk. Her eyes shine with determination and gratitude as she clutches her hands to her chest. Sitting by the train window, she holds the letter and silently thanks him once more. The train makes its way through a snowy, tree-lined landscape. At a cozy, snow-covered building, a small child runs outside into the night. A young girl named Laurel runs into Dahlia's arms, and they happily call out each other's names. Dahlia chides her for running and triggering her cough, but an excited Laurel says she's been waiting since morning. Laurel beams as she holds Dahlia's hand, leading her inside with her luggage. Whoa! The children of the orphanage look on with wide-eyed wonder as Dahlia presents her gifts. Ah! Laurel gazes up at Dahlia with pure adoration. As Dahlia unpacks new clothes and a toy, Laurel worries that she has spent far too much money. Laurel expresses concern over the cost of the gifts, but Dahlia gently tells her not to worry. Looking over Dahlia's letters, Laurel asks if the smart, pretty one she writes about is her master. Dahlia smiles fondly, confirming he is smart, pretty, and kind, and also a good listener who lends her books. She gushes about his kind voice and gentle speech, causing Laurel to blush and think he sounds like a doll. Badum. Laurel's eyes sparkle with excitement as she grabs Dahlia's hands. She enthusiastically asks if Dahlia fancies him, and Dahlia blushes deeply in response. Flustered, Dahlia denies it, insisting she only meant he was handsome and kind while lamenting that a man like him is out of her league. Laurel looks at her sister with confusion, asking why she believes she can't be with him. Laurel encourages her, saying she is kind and beautiful and the Lord would surely like her too, but Dahlia tells her to stop the nonsense. Unfazed, Laurel excitedly brings up a recent event to prove her point. She reminds a shocked Dahlia of Jenny from the confectionery store, who recently married a Marquess. Jolt, Dahlia sternly says her sister's name, Laurel. Seeing Laurel's wide-eyed expression, Dahlia tells her it's getting late and time for bed. A single candle flame illuminates the cozy but dark room. As she walks, Dahlia recalls Laurel's story about Jenny, who married a Marquess. The story of Jenny's whirlwind romance and marriage to a Marquess unfolds as a fairy tale dream come true for many young girls. The harsh reality is revealed, as a pregnant Jenny had to flee to a shanty town, giving birth alone before leaving Churchafaltz for good. Dahlia remembers the story of the final letter they ever received from her. The letter's postmark, glowing with a sinister red aura, was from Ankh. The grim implication of that location dawns on Dahlia. She recalls that Ankh is known as the prostitution capital of the empire. The sad story wasn't unique to Jenny. Others like Angela and Milena were also victims. So many girls who dreamed of love were manipulated by the nobility, used as disposable playthings until their hopes were shattered. Lying in bed, Dahlia thinks with fierce determination that being an orphan doesn't mean they deserve such treatment. Russell, clutching the letter she received, she reaffirms her belief that Sir Isaac is different. She remembers that he too has lived a difficult life, ostracized as a bastard child. Because of his past, she believes he understands being left behind and proves it by how kindly he treats her. She recalls his gentle invitations for her to talk with him, certain he would treat anyone he liked with absolute sincerity. A fond image of a gentle and sincere Isaac fills her mind. Suddenly, she's jolted by the realization of where her thoughts are heading. What on earth am I thinking? She chides herself, blaming Laurel's teasing as the letter slips from her hand. Clatter, the gold coin tumbles out of the envelope, startling her. She quickly picks up the coin and letter with a relieved sigh. You! Recalling her time with Laurel, she decides the money is too precious to be spent frivolously. She carefully puts the letter away, deciding to save the money and resolving to thank Sir Isaac properly when she returns. Determined, she thinks to herself that she doesn't want to return to the estate empty-handed. The scene transitions back to the bright, sunny facade of the Grand Ducal estate. Back in her uniform, Dahlia is warmly welcomed by her red-haired colleague Adina. Adina asks why she's back at work early, and Dahlia explains she needs to see Sir Isaac for a moment. As Dahlia hurries up the stairs, Adina tries to stop her, yelling that Isaac isn't in that room. Adina reveals he's already back at the annex, amazed at how quickly Dahlia ran off. With a determined smile, Dahlia makes her way down the long hall toward the annex. She clutches a gift to her chest, her expression filled with happy anticipation. Slip, she makes a final nervous adjustment to her hair. Knock knock, she arrives at a large ornate door and announces her presence. After being invited in, she enters with a polite smile, announcing her return. Her words catch in her throat as she sees a large white bandage on his cheek. Isaac turns to face her from his seat on the balcony, calmly welcoming her back despite his injury. Horrified, she realizes he's hurt and cries out in concern for his face. He casually dismisses her worry, claiming he just tripped, but she insists it must have been a big fall and offers to look, which he politely declines. Changing the subject, he asks about her vacation and her sister. She assures him her trip was fine and that Laurel is doing well. He listens thoughtfully as she adds that she was surprised by how much her sister had grown. He playfully suggests that he's had a bit of a growth spurt himself, leaving her momentarily confused. Thinking he's teasing, she smiles and points out that it has only been a couple of weeks. He leans closer, his new height making him tower over her. He looks down at her with a warm and gentle smile. Stunned, she realizes he really has grown a lot and wonders how it's possible. Da-doom. He reveals he'll be turning 15 soon, and a shocked Dahlia realizes he's younger than her. Musing that his maturity masked his age, she is lost in thought until he gently calls her name. He points out the gift she's still holding, and a flustered Dahlia snaps to attention as he offers to put it back for her. With a brilliant smile, she presents the wrapped box, explaining it's a thank you gift for all his kindness. He gazes intently at the gift she holds out to him. Now holding the book that was inside, he looks at it with a thoughtful expression. Dahlia explains that she tried to choose a book that seemed interesting. She nervously tells him it's nothing compared to what he's given her, but he quickly reassures her that's not true at all. He delights her by revealing he's been wanting to read this exact book and thanks her warmly. Overjoyed that he likes her gift, Dahlia breaks into a radiant laugh. Holding the book, he returns her joy with a gentle smile. Hug, he clutches the book to his chest, treasuring her gift. He explains that he moved back to his proper room a few days ago. Surprised, she realizes he must have been waiting for her there on purpose. Clack. Her thoughts continue as he opens a door, concluding he waited so she wouldn't have trouble finding him. She calls out his name, stopping him at the doorway. Waving from the hall, she asks if he's sure he doesn't need her services there anymore. With a slight smile, he playfully asks if she's sure about that. She earnestly replies that it's her job, and he laughs, admitting that's not what he meant. He looks away with a contented expression. Dahlia smiles brightly, telling him she'll see him around the annex. Walking through a sunlit garden path, Isaac reflects on the gift. He smiles to himself, thinking that this is the first time he's ever received a gift. He pauses mid-stroll, lost in a pleasant thought. Pause, an unseen person notes that he's back at the annex. It's Mac. A hand snatches the book from his grasp as a voice demands to know why he's leaving the estate. A furious voice demands to know how many times they have to tell him to stay away when they are present. An older red-haired woman glares at him, while a younger red-haired woman suggests to her mother that he just forgot something. Mother complains he should use servants, while her daughter notes the staff's difficulty with him and decides to inform the headmaid. Tisk, the younger red-haired woman glances back at Isaac with contempt, calling him an embarrassment. Click, clack. Isaac quietly watches the two women walk away under a parasol. The younger woman gives him one last, cold, menacing glare before turning away. Whoosh! The scene shifts to a deep, verdant forest. Rustle, step. Isaac makes his way through the dense foliage. Step! He continues walking before letting out a weary sigh. Turn! He stops as the younger, red-haired woman appears behind him, and he curtly asks what she wants. She looks at his bandaged cheek and coldly comments on his injury. She correctly deduces that Max must have been the one who hurt him. Isaac defiantly tells her to get on with it if she's also there to hit him, then tells her to piss off. She denies any intention of harming him, but he just tells her to leave. She angrily warns him to stop provoking Max, questioning what he gains from it. Isaac calmly calls her Carla, telling her she's mistaken and that Max started the confrontation. He explains Max was angry that his own suggestion was chosen during a family meeting, adding that Max has no right to be mad over a conversation he wasn't privy to. Carla dismisses his explanation and demands to know what he said to Max afterward. She accuses him of threatening Max with Maya Obrick's name again, and his silence confirms it. She pleads with him to stop provoking Max, complaining that she's always the one who has to clean up the mess he creates. He coldly dismisses her, stating it's not his problem and telling her to go home. Grab? No, she says, grabbing his arm to stop him from walking away. She furiously tells him it does concern him and threatens to inconvenience someone important to him if he causes her trouble again. Her threat specifies Dahlia Bellhor, the girl who visits his room almost every day. Squeeze, her hand tightens as she warns him against letting someone he cares for suffer. But he questions if he even has that right. Slip. FWIP, he pulls his hand free, telling Carla that she already knows. Flinch. Grab. He seizes her arm, startling her as he finishes his sentence. Exactly what I am capable of. With a terrified expression, she recalls his words, understanding why he allows her family to manipulate him and never tries to escape his fate as a bastard child. He calls her a smart girl, warning her not to do anything foolish now that she knows everything. He tells her that while he doesn't mind being manipulated, he won't tolerate her trying to control him this way. Done? He coldly reminds a shocked Carla that she is not Renee. Snatch! He yanks his arm away, leaving a stunned Carla panting as she clutches her chest. With a slight smile, he turns and tells her to be careful on her way back. Grit! She glares after him, thinking to herself, monster! Her thought echoes as a smoky apparition forms, confirming he reminds her of a monster. A flashback begins, showing the silhouette of a boy pointing a knife at a woman against a sinister red background. The flashback shows a young blood-splattered boy with glowing red eyes holding a knife and demanding to know who has come for him. In a different scene, Carla's mother sits pensively as a maid announces the arrival of her requested whiskey. The maid, revealed to be Dahlia, serves the drink as Carla's mother muses that the monster has taken a liking to a girl. With a disarming smile, Carla's mother tells Dahlia she'd like to have a word with her. Carla's internal monologue begins, revealing the price she pays while suffering under the darkness that pervades her family. Over images of a spider's web, she explains how she must feign ignorance of the sins her selfish father commits. Her thoughts continue, describing how she must ignore her murderous mother's actions and clean up her brother's violent messes. Finally, she laments being sold off as a bride to a filthy, classless family's descendant. A younger Carla stares at a bloody cake, thinking she doesn't want this fate, as the story shifts to the day she heard about an illegitimate son. The news threw the family into chaos, causing her mother to faint and Max to run away from home. A younger Carla smiles, realizing there's finally someone in the household who would be more miserable than her. The scene shifts to the lawless city of ANC, where Carla walks through the dark and dangerous streets. She looks down into a grim alley, recalling that it's where Renee, the mother of her brother's child, lives. Creek, accompanied by a guard, she enters a dark and ominous building. Startled, she watches as the guard gestures for her to wait while he proceeds alone. A spider descends from a lamp, as she realizes the overwhelming smell in the air is blood. Grab, after a moment's hesitation, she reaches for the door handle. Whoosh! She throws the door open to find a shadowy figure inside. A terrified, bloodied boy sits over a dead body and asks who she is. Horrified by the dead body, she wonders if it's Renee and realizes the boy must be Isaac. From the doorway, she asks if he is Isaac, but the terrified boy stammers that he's not. Suddenly, a different, older-looking boy appears behind her, his eye glowing as he calmly introduces himself as Isaac. Shing, the first boy, brandishes a bloody knife, again demanding to know who she is. He glares intensely, stating that only Renee knows who he is and questioning why she's acting familiar. A tear streams down her face as she sees the bloody knife and realizes with horror that he must have killed Renee. She grabs the boy's arm, declaring that she is his sister, Carla Jufkenschultz. With determination, she announces she is there on their father's behalf to bring him back. Carla's monologue concludes that she knows what lurks beneath his facade, a monster who doesn't understand the question, why? Returning to the present, Carla's mother smiles pleasantly at Dahlia, asking for a word. She asks Dahlia how she finds her work, and Dahlia humbly responds that she is still learning, but doing her best. Carla's mother praises her, relaying compliments from the headmaid and dismissing Dahlia's humble protests. Flinched, Dahlia visibly stiffens when Carla's mother brings up the whole thing with Isaac. Ha! Carla's mother laughs it off, telling her to relax and asking if she's still worried about their last conversation. Fidget, Dahlia listens nervously as Carla's mother says she's changed her mind, recognizing Dahlia's careful nature and understanding her assignment to the annex. With a knowing smile, Carla's mother steers the conversation back toward Isaac. She asks Dahlia if she agrees that Isaac isn't such a bad person, catching the maid by surprise. Dahlia brightens, eagerly agreeing that he is very sweet and kind, while Carla's mother smiles and quietly affirms he is quiet and nice. An unseen speaker pities a man curled up in a crate, noting he has no friends and no freedom. A dark-haired woman notes with satisfaction that another woman pities the lonely man. Can I ask you a favor? The scene introduces Hoover, Isaac's red-haired servant. Hoover sternly denies a blonde maid's request to see Sir Isaac directly. Isaac arrives, asking what's happening as the blonde maid greets him. The blonde maid excitedly asks Isaac to take her to the city, but Hoover explains he refused due to the Duchess. Isaac considers the request to go to the city with Dahlia, who eagerly awaits his answer. Isaac happily agrees to the outing, ignoring Hoover's protest as he goes to change. Dahlia beams with joy, waving as she promises to wait for him. A flashback shows an ornate card, the family crest, which grants servants freedom of movement. In the past, a woman with reddish-brown hair gives Dahlia the crest, encouraging her closeness with Isaac but warning her to be careful. The woman watches the snow from a balcony, thinking of the coming spring. The scene shifts to Isaac looking up thoughtfully amidst falling snow and green trees. On their outing, Isaac points to a distant mountain, asking Dahlia for its name. Looking at the snowy peaks, Isaac wonders aloud if they stay frozen even in summer. Dahlia confirms this and asks if he has never seen the mountains before. Shrug, Isaac explains with a slight smile that he has always kept at home. Dahlia listens with a somber expression, absorbing the weight of his confinement. She gently adjusts his scarf, reminding him they still have a long walk to the city. Dahlia then offers her hand to him. Isaac hesitates, looking from her offered hand to his own. Fidget, he seems flustered, leaving a confused Dahlia to wonder what's wrong. Squeeze! Isaac firmly takes her hand, reassuring her as they continue their walk together. He looks content, a gentle smile on his face as they walk through the woods. Dahlia returns his smile, her expression bright and happy. They arrive in the city, holding hands. As narration explains, it's Isaac's first visit, and he wants to see a bookstore. Dahlia consults a note, suggesting a 120-year-old bookstore in the plaza. She turns to find Isaac has vanished, leaving only a faint outline behind. Wave, Isaac calls out to Dahlia from the entrance of a nearby shop. A sign with a backpack confirms Dahlia's guess that he's entered a gift shop. Inside, Isaac asks the shopkeeper for a scarf while Dahlia looks on. FWIP. He prepares to pay as the shopkeeper calculates the total. He presents the blue family plate, causing the shopkeeper to gasp in recognition. In a panic, the shopkeeper apologizes profusely, but Isaac simply asks to take the unwrapped scarf. Back outside, Dahlia asks if he paid with his family plate, which he confirms. Isaac explains the plate works like a credit card, billing the estate later, much to Dahlia's astonishment. Dahlia recalls the reddish-brown-haired woman telling her to care for Isaac, now realizing the immense power of the crest she was given. Wearing the new, warm scarf, Dahlia smiles up at him, overwhelmed by his gesture. Her happy moment is interrupted as a shadow looms behind her. Thud, a horse's hooves land perilously close to them on the cobblestone street. Nay! A rider struggles to control his startled horse. Clip-clop, the rider quickly apologizes as he rides past. Isaac holds Dahlia protectively in his arms, having pulled her out of harm's way. Dahlia looks up at him from the safety of his embrace. Momentarily stunned, he offers her a soft, reassuring smile. Push, a cute illustration shows Isaac pushing a chibi Dahlia away from danger. A flustered but happy Dahlia spots their destination and eagerly points the way to the bookstore. FWIP. Isaac takes her hand again, ready to continue their date. Isaac and Dahlia walk arm in arm through the snowy town. Dahlia looks up at him with a warm, happy smile. In a bookstore, Isaac's hand gently covers hers as they both reach for the same book. Dahlia's narration notes that Isaac has grown bigger and stronger. Isaac hands her a book, and she recalls how pale and thin he was when they first met. He offers her a kind, gentle smile. FWIP, she turns away as he watches her with a sudden, serious expression. His kind smile twists into a dark, knowing smirk. Back outside, Isaac calls Dahlia's name and points to something in the distance. He points out a teddy bear with an extravagant bow. Dahlia agrees it's very cute. Isaac asks if she likes it, and she replies that it would make a nice gift. Isaac's expression hardens as he says they must return to the estate before the Duchess notices they're gone. He nonchalantly tells Dahlia he doesn't care if the Duchess scolds or hits him, as it will be over quickly. Dahlia is horrified by how casually he speaks of abuse, wondering if he's become used to it. She thinks angrily of the crowd at the estate, furious that no one ever protected him. Recalling a vision of a bruised young Isaac, she fidgets, realizing how difficult his life has been. Glance, Isaac spots the teddy bear in a gift box in a shop window. Dahlia looks up, her eyes wide with surprise. The scene shifts to a shop sign depicting a red potion. A shadowy Isaac, holds something behind his back as Dahlia watches. Isaac tells Dahlia he has a quick errand to run and asks her to wait. Promising to be back in a minute, he leaves as Dahlia agrees. An elderly shopkeeper confirms she has the ointment Dahlia asked for. Haha. The shopkeeper praises the scar-fading ointment and asks how a youngster like her knows of it. Dahlia says she just heard about it. Dahlia recalls learning about the ointment at her former job, where beatings made it essential for servants, and asks to buy one. Told the price is 2 billings, she reaches for her wallet, then considers using the family plate since the gift is for Sir Isaac. She decides against it, wanting the gift to be something she does for him on her own. Holding 2 coins, she thinks that as a working woman, she can afford this herself. With a determined smile, she feels proud to be able to buy the ointment for him. Whisper. 2 women nearby gossip about Dahlia's expensive-looking scarf made of snow rabbit fur. PFT. One scoffs that a maid couldn't afford it, as Dahlia wonders just how expensive it could be. A woman loudly announces the scarf costs 30 silvers, leaving Dahlia completely shocked. The woman cruelly suggests Dahlia must have stolen it, and Dahlia glares back in anger. As the shopkeeper hands her the purchase, another woman's sinister thought wonders if there's another explanation. The cruel thought continues, suggesting Dahlia used her body to get the scarf from her master, leaving her speechless. Dahlia turns to the gossiping women, politely asking them to repeat what they said. The blonde woman smirks, feigning ignorance. The woman condescendingly tells the servant girl to mind her own business. Just then, Isaac appears, walking through the town square. He calls out Dahlia's name, his expression concerned. Finding her, he says he's been looking for her everywhere. With her head bowed, she doesn't respond as he asks if something happened. She looks up, forcing a bright and cheerful smile. Assuring him nothing is wrong, she watches a tram pass by. On the tram, Dahlia holds out the gifts, asking to return them. She explains that he cannot give her such grand gifts anymore. With a sad smile, she adds that people might think she stole them. Isaac insists he only wants to gift her grand things, believing the more expensive, the better. He tells her she looked great in them, but as she thanks him, she still seems intent on refusing. Shaky tells her there's no need to explain, as he already understands. She smiles and promises to be more cautious in the future. Slip, he offers her a small box, asking her to accept one final thing. She hands him the gift, explaining that it's nothing expensive. Holding the small box, she recognizes its contents with a look of surprise. The open box reveals an elegant white-frilled lace choker. He confirms her thought, explaining he saw it on a stuffed animal and thought it would look better on her. A close-up reveals the intricate golden details of the beautiful lace choker. She's stunned by the quality, exclaiming that the fine stitching proves it's not inexpensive at all. Her thoughts are plagued by memories of cruel gossip, but she tries to convince herself she can afford it with her salary. Seeing her hesitation, he asks if she feels she can't accept it. Isaac watches her with a serious, concerned expression. Dahlia's hesitation melts away into a gentle, determined smile. She happily accepts his gift, promising to cherish it always. Dahlia then asks to hold his hand for a moment, surprising him. As he extends his hand, he says his gift is nothing compared to hers, but he wanted to give it anyway. She explains that she couldn't stop thinking about the bandage on his face and the scar beneath it. Knowing he wasn't injured from a simple fall, she asks him directly who hurt him. She presses for an answer, asking if it was the master or the mistress. Her questioning continues, finally landing on the Marquis, which his silence seems to confirm. Squeeze. She holds his hand tightly, her expression filled with concern. She makes him a promise, telling him to summon her if he is ever hurt or needs help. Isaac stares at her, his eyes wide with surprise at her heartfelt offer. With a bright smile, she admits she's not sure how she can help, but still, she urges him to send for her anyway, prompting his playful question about her running away with him. He looks at her intently, awaiting her answer to his jest. She earnestly tells him he shouldn't have to bottle up his feelings when things get tough. As a trolley passes by, he asks if she's serious, and she confirms she is. He asks again if she would really run away with him, and she unhesitatingly says yes. Holding his hand, she confesses that she has taken a liking to him. She explains that it's natural to worry about someone you favor, as he listens quietly. With a content smile, Dahlia closes her eyes for a moment. The two sit together on the trolley, holding hands in a comfortable silence. Overwhelmed with emotion, Isaac turns away, covering his mouth with his hand. The scene shifts to the Jufgenschultz estate at night. Plop, a smiling Isaac, collapses onto his bed. Lying down, he applies medicine to the cut on his cheek. Squeeze, he clutches the gifted choker, Thinking that he now has Dahlia to care for him, he smiles, believing he's a good kid who deserves happiness because Dahlia said so. Ziz, he drifts off to sleep, holding on to that happy thought. His peaceful sleep is disturbed by a dark, swirling red nightmare. A voice from his past echoes in the darkness, telling him he's not even close to being a good kid. The nightmare reveals a horrific memory of a blood-soaked woman collapsing on top of him. The woman's face is a mask of blood and terror. The story introduces his mother, Renee, a courtesan who lived as she pleased. A narration explains that she angered Duke Yufgenschultz and his wife, forcing her to flee assassins and hide in ANC. In a flashback, Renee warns young Isaac that he must not go outside, as assassins may still be looking for them. The narration concludes, they were forced to endure a horrible life in Aang. The story shifts to his older half-brother, a red-haired young man named Hoover. A symbolic image depicts two small boys standing beneath a pair of massive looming hands. In his past, Isaac was nothing more than a tool for revenge. He was a person for his mother Renee to boss around and vent her anger on. His red-haired brother Hoover was always covered in scars from enduring Renee's abuse. Pow slam, the sounds of her beating Hoover echoed through their house in Ankh. A terrified young Isaac could only huddle and wait for the violence to end. He learned to eliminate all emotions and make himself as small as possible to survive. Nudge. Hoover gently wakes Isaac, telling him the ordeal is over. Hoover tells Isaac he doesn't need to cower because their mother never hits him. He coldly tells Isaac that he is different because his body has value. Hoover's face is a mask of bitter resentment. Isaac looks up with sorrowful eyes, admitting that he envies his brother. Hoover turns away, telling Isaac to eat the leftover bread before he goes to do laundry. Isaac notes the clear resentment and jealousy in his brother's voice. A loaf of bread and a sharp knife rest on a cutting board. Nom, Isaac eats, believing this small act might reduce his chances of facing Renee's wrath. Elsewhere, Renee reacts with shock, shouting, "What?" She rages that someone named Gaharin is only taking Isaac, as Hoover tries to calm her. Hoover tries to reassure her, saying that if they wait, they will be brought along too. Glance, Isaac peeks around a corner, questioning his brother's use of we. Slap, he is struck hard across the face. Thud, Renee throws Isaac down the stairs, screaming at him for daring to associate with them. As Hoover begs her to stop, Renee belittles Isaac, calling him a pathetic excuse for a boy. Grah, Isaac clutches his head in agony, flinching as he thinks. No more. Shing, a sword is held threateningly close to his head. On the floor, a beaten Hoover declares he has had enough of their mother. Isaac watches in wide-eyed horror. Hoover weakly begs for someone to save him. Whoosh! Ignoring her son's pleas, Renee raises the sword to strike Hoover down. Snatch, Isaac grabs the knife from the table. Shink, he plunges the knife into his mother's back to save his brother. Blood splatters across his face as he thinks his own name in disbelief. Clatter, the sword falls from Renee's weakening grasp. Thud, she collapses to the floor as Isaac stands over her, knife in hand, and Hoover watches. Hoover looks up from the ground, his expression one of utter shock. Renee's lifeless eyes stare up from the floor. Hoover's shock turns into a crazed smile as he realizes it's over. He calls to a catatonic, blood-splattered Isaac, telling him it's finally over. In his nightmare, a bloody apparition of his mother clings to him, questioning if he's truly a good person. She whispers that Dahlia only likes him because she doesn't know what he's really like. Grab, Isaac seizes the apparition's wrist, defiantly saying, no. He declares that the person Dahlia likes is his true self, not the broken boy he once was. He chokes the nightmare version of his mother, vowing to no longer be haunted by the past. Ha ha, the apparition laughs maniacally even as he strangles her. She shrieks that Dahlia is the same and will eventually throw him away too. The apparition's words conjure an image of Dahlia, twisting her into a threat. Gasp, Isaac jolts awake, tormented by the nightmare. Cough, he falls to the floor, struggling to breathe. Clutching his throat, he desperately repeats Dahlia's name. A warm vision of Dahlia's smiling face appears as he begs for just a little more time. A desperate young man pleads for someone to like him more. A week passes since Dahlia and Sir Isaac went to the city. Dahlia sighs, back to her ordinary life after getting in trouble for the outing. A single new update marks a change in the estate. It's revealed that a husband has been chosen for Lady Carla. Her betrothed is the notorious Count Pig, a man whose grotesque appearance is gossiped about by the other maids. However, his looks are not the real issue. It's his inappropriate behavior towards women. The maids are his preferred victims, and those who become pregnant are immediately dismissed. Rumors even suggest he uses poison to prevent any future complications. Dahlia listens to the horrific stories with a troubled expression. A fellow maid laments that because the victims are maids, they are powerless and have no one to defend them. Dahlia grimly realizes that to the nobility, they are seen as nothing more than stray animals. She quietly fingers a piece of lace, lost in thought. An image shows her and Isaac sitting back to back, representing their separate worlds. Dahlia shakes her head, telling herself she's making their connection into something it isn't. She reminds herself that Sir Isaac is, after all, a Jufgenschuld. Lying in bed, she feels that someone like her can't dare believe they stand on equal ground. While cleaning a grand door with Adina, Dahlia walks ahead. She suddenly stops, calling Adina's attention to something down the hall. Dahlia wonders why another maid is carrying lilies when the hall is meant to have roses. Adina explains the lilies are for a death anniversary, sparking Dahlia's curiosity. The anniversary is for Lady Obrick, a name Dahlia recognizes from a past argument involving Sir Isaac. Adina explains that Lady Obrick was the Duchess's maidservant who died in an accident a year ago, and the maids bought flowers for her grave. Dahlia asks about the accident, and Adina leans in to whisper the mysterious details. Whisper, Adina reveals she was found near the annex, leading some to believe the ghost was involved. Gasp, Thelma's sharp voice suddenly calls out Adina's full name, startling them both. Thelma sternly forbids any talk of Lady Obrick on estate grounds, warning that the Duchess will not forgive gossip. She then summons Dahlia to follow her, and Dahlia obediently complies. In the library, Thelma hands Dahlia a stack of books requested by Sir Isaac. Thelma gives a strict order to deliver the books without being seen. As Dahlia turns to leave, Thelma stops her, stating that she crossed a line last time. Thelma warns her not to get too close to him, but Dahlia quietly says she already knows. With a worried look, Thelma remarks that she has been warned many times. Step, step. Dahlia walks through the woods with the books, her expression troubled. Russell, she spots the maid from earlier placing the lilies and recognizes her. Dahlia connects the pieces. Maya Obrick, the youngest son, and a death near the annex, understanding the warnings. Yet, she senses a contradiction. Feeling that one thing about the story doesn't add up, she recalls how the Viscount stopped his attack at the mention of Maya Obrick's name, a detail that still confuses her. A man with reddish-brown hair and a furious expression appears before her. She greets Mr. Hoover, who notices something in her hair, making her feel self-conscious under his watch. He scolds her about her appearance, prompting her to check a reflection where she finds a leaf in her hair. Rush. She hastily removes the leaf, embarrassed that he didn't just tell her. A look of realization dawns on her face as an idea strikes. A close-up highlights a beautiful lace choker. Wearing the new choker, she presents herself with a radiant smile. Sir Isaac watches her, a faint blush on his cheeks and a soft smile on his lips. Dahlia thanks him, thinking he knew the gift would look good on her, then offers to clean his messy room. He tells her not to bother, stopping her as he has something else in mind. He reveals he was hoping they could talk, as he hasn't seen her in a while. Dahlia notices the lilies on his desk, but he tells her to leave them, saying he will take them with him later. Isaac correctly guesses the flowers Dahlia is holding are from Maya Obrick, surprising her. He explains he heard about the incident from other servants, and she asks for details. Gasp! She panics, frantically dismissing the gossip as preposterous nonsense. With a knowing look, Isaac presumes the servants are blaming him for the incident. Flustered by his directness, Dahlia struggles to find the right words to respond. He calmly explains that he's used to the accusation, as he was the only one living in the annex at the time. While he understands being the prime suspect, she remarks that hearing such rumors must have been hurtful. Dahlia falls silent, a look of deep contemplation on her face. He tells her he knows she doesn't believe the rumors, and she nods in emphatic agreement. Poke. He playfully touches her cheek, catching her off guard. She flinches in surprise, as he teases that her cute reactions make him want to tease her even more. Surrounded by a bloom of roses, Dahlia looks back at him, utterly charmed. Isaac gazes at her with a soft, affectionate smile. Lean, he suddenly pulls her into a close embrace, startling her. Tap. He rests his head on her shoulder as she nervously asks him to step back. He confesses that while he doesn't care about his own reputation, he fears she might come to dislike him because of the slander. Lean, he holds her close, much to her surprise. In a moment of vulnerability, he admits his greatest fear is her hearing the rumors and coming to dislike him one day. He continues, confessing he would rather disappear than ever face a day where she hates him. As he remarks that the ghost of the annex disappearing would make everyone happy, she cries out his name in protest. Hug. She embraces him tightly, insisting his words aren't true and that she'd never want him to disappear. He is taken aback by her comfort as she asks how he could say such a terrible thing. A gentle smile appears on his face as he feels her warmth. Closing her eyes, Dahlia reaffirms her affection, telling him she truly likes him. He holds her and tells her she doesn't need to worry about things like that. As she hugs him, he thinks to himself that Dahlia is so innocent. He muses on how she always responds to his darkness with comforting words. Flinch, a sudden thought strikes him, his eyes widening in alarm. Blush, he suddenly realizes the nature of his feelings for her as he holds her close. Mortified, he wonders to himself if he is lusting after Dahlia right now. Scuffle, he struggles with his thoughts, chiding himself for his shameful feelings. As she asks if he is okay and notes his warm cheeks, he dismisses her concern, internally blaming his reaction on her proximity. Slip, his hand gently moves to cup her face. Batum, their hearts pound as he gazes at her lips, considering giving in just once. He leans in, his mind consumed with the thought of a single kiss. Clack, a sudden noise interrupts their intimate moment, startling Dahlia. A stern voice from the doorway notes, Isaac has a maid with him. The Duke asks what Isaac needs, explaining he has received a strange document and wants his opinion. The older man, the Duke, observes them with a sharp, calculating gaze. He remarks that he's never seen Isaac with a maid before, and demands to know Dahlia's name. Isaac steps in before she can answer, introducing her as Dahlia Balor, a maid from the main building running an errand. As Isaac tries to dismiss her, the Duke firmly tells him to wait. The Duke orders Dahlia to bring them tea, as his discussion with Isaac will take some time. Thud, closing the door behind her, Dahlia lets out a quiet sigh of relief. She anxiously wonders if the Duke saw them, and questions why Isaac acted so strangely. Rattle, her thoughts are interrupted by Hoover pushing a tea cart down the hall. Hoover brusquely tells her to move, but she explains that the Duke just asked her to fetch the tea. Confused, she tells a visibly annoyed Hoover that he would have to ask the Duke himself why she was given the order. Hoover stares at the tea cart, a troubling realization slowly dawning on him. Suddenly, understanding the implication, Dahlia looks horrified and exclaims in disbelief. Dahlia accuses Hoover of making a serious accusation, but he scoffs that all women are obvious. Grit. She clenches her jaw in silent fury at his dismissive words. Slam. She counters that Isaac was the one who showed affection first, stunning a horrified Hoover. Struck speechless, Hoover can only stammer in disbelief. Clack. The scene shifts to Dahlia serving tea as Isaac advises the Duke on tariffs within the Republic. As Dahlia pours tea, she marvels at the foreign language on the document, while Isaac points out a concern about tax subdivisions. Isaac theorizes the system was designed for profit and suggests a review for duplicate rates, impressing Dahlia with his knowledge. As he suggests investigating other dukedoms, Dahlia looks on in complete awe of his strategic mind. She gives him a small, genuinely impressed smile. The Duke quietly sips his tea, observing the interaction between Isaac and Dahlia. The Duke's sharp blue eye narrows as he watches them. Outside the mansion, under a vibrant sky, Isaac decides it's time for him to go home. The Duke commands Isaac to take the books and scrolls and accompany him, to which Isaac agrees. Slip. Isaac's hands carefully take a heavy stack of books from Dahlia. With a hand on her shoulder, Isaac kindly tells a book-laden Dahlia to get back safely. Nod, Dahlia smiles and acknowledges his concern. Russell, Dahlia, and the Duke walk together along a quiet, sun-dappled forest path. The Duke remarks that he can clearly tell Isaac cares for her, but she politely denies it. He insists it's true, admitting that despite being a poor father, he can see his son's feelings. He speaks her name, capturing her full attention. The Duke looks at Dahlia and tells her he has a favor to ask. His request surprises her. He wants to atone for his sins against Isaac. He repeats his intention to ask a favor of her. When she asks what sins he means, he confesses his failure to protect Isaac's mother, Renee. He recounts how Renee fled with an infant Isaac to a dilapidated village to escape his wife's threats. A flashback shows him finding a small, lone Isaac after discovering that his mother, Renee, had disappeared. Shake. Dahlia asks about Isaac's mother, and the Duke confirms they are still searching for her without any leads. He vows to find Renee and to earn her forgiveness, plans to build a solid foundation for Isaac's future. Explaining that Isaac cannot be his successor, he laments the lack of love between his sons, as Dahlia thinks it's not Isaac's fault. The Duke outlines Isaac's two possible paths, receiving a noble title or starting a successful business. Dahlia confidently praises Isaac's wisdom, and the Duke nods, agreeing that he is well aware of his son's intellect. He recalls his surprise when Isaac, who initially seems slow, began to rapidly teach himself the Royal Academy's lessons, stating Isaac finished in a year what took his other son 6. He leaves Dahlia to wonder what the problem could be. Sigh. The Duke looks at her grimly, asking if she hasn't noticed Isaac's problem yet. He reveals the boy is devoid of all ambition, his words hanging over an image of Isaac's lifeless reflection. He explains that Isaac wants nothing and refuses to leave the annex, preventing him from establishing the foundation he needs. He turns to Dahlia, directly stating this is why he needs to ask her for a favor. The Duke makes his request. Help the boy find his ambition, leaving Dahlia stunned into silence. Flinch, she protests her inadequacy, but the Duke reminds her that she was the one who got Isaac to go into the city. He expresses his disbelief, noting that Isaac's hatred of strangers makes his trip into town with her truly remarkable. Furthermore, he reveals that after returning, Isaac came to him personally. Dahlia is shocked to learn that Isaac asked him to ensure she wouldn't be punished for taking him out. The Duke insists Isaac is willing to take action and even leave the annex for her sake. Flinch, she is taken aback as the Duke correctly guesses she is an orphan, theorizing Isaac feels a kinship with her. As she starts to object, the Duke tells her she needn't feel pressured. He promises to provide anything Isaac needs, asking only that she encourage him to open up and accept it. Contemplating his request, Dahlia realizes he wants her to be Isaac's motivator. She internally agrees Isaac's brilliant mind shouldn't be wasted, and that the world would benefit from his ideas. She thinks to herself that Isaac is more than just his brilliance. Dahlia imagines a future where Isaac sheds the prejudice against him and is finally accepted as a Duke's son. Believing Isaac deserves better, Dahlia accepts the Duke's request. The Duke looks pleased, as Dahlia promises to do her best. Nod. She confirms her commitment with a determined smile. Dahlia asks a lounging Isaac why he refuses to take his lessons. He explains he hates people in his space, but she questions why she is an exception, while he wonders at the Duke's sudden insistence. Isaac sits up slightly, telling her she is his only exception. With a book over his face, he calls the lessons a waste of time, though she insists he'd learn quickly. He counters that he'll never use the skills, as she realizes people would only mock him for trying. Grit. She imagines the cruel insults people would hurl at him. Confused, she listens as he suggests she could just try the lessons for a bit. FWIP, he sits up abruptly as she suggests he can simply quit if he dislikes them. He asks if that's what she wants, and after she eagerly agrees, he asks why. Dahlia knows she can't reveal the Duke's orders were her true motivation. She tells him her wish is for him to be a successful, accepted member of the Duke's family. He looks away with an indifferent expression as she begins to speak. Dahlia describes the respect and awe the Duke commands, suggesting Isaac could have a similar life, but he only murmurs in response. He turns to her, pointedly asking if she would also want him to be a public figure. In a flashback, the Duke asserts that Isaac would leave the annex if it meant being with her. She gently brushes his hair from his forehead, firmly stating that she does want that for him. Her imagination conjures a vision of them dressed formally, sitting together in high society. Smiling at each other in her fantasy, she affirms her wish for his success. She daydreams of wearing a magnificent gown while he escorts her down a grand staircase. Lost in thought, she pictures the details of her extravagant dress and velvet heels. The fantasy continues as they prepare to dance in a beautiful ballroom. Back in reality, she admits she only knows the polka, questioning if nobles dance it at balls. She tries to demonstrate a dance move she saw once while attending a ball. A charming cartoon depicts their awkward attempt at a formal dance. Whoosh! The cartoon shows them striking a dramatic, if clumsy, pose. Isaac turns away, shaking with laughter, as she defensively insists her demonstration was accurate. He turns back and takes her by the hand. Pulling her into a proper dance hold, he tells a blushing Dahlia to hold on tight. He looks at her intently, repeating his instruction to hold on. As they begin to waltz, her foot lands squarely on top of his. She apologizes profusely, but he smiles reassuringly, saying he didn't feel it. He shocks her by suggesting she stand on his feet while they dance. Though she protests it will dirty his shoes, he gently insists it's fine. Now standing on his feet, he holds her close, telling her to relax. He explains that this way, she can let his body lead her through the dance. Foosh! She is startled as he begins to move them effortlessly. He smiles down at her as they glide together in a graceful embrace. She looks up at him, her expression a mixture of surprise and admiration. Step. Their feet now move in perfect harmony across the floor. Amazed, she asks when he learned to dance, and he replies it was when he first arrived. He explains he was forced to learn etiquette, but quit when people questioned why a bastard was being taught. Taking her hand, he gazes at her and agrees to do it, if it's what she wants. With a determined smile, Isaac promises to become an important member of the family and take her to a ball. A fond smile on her face, Dahlia thinks to herself that Isaac is so innocent. She compares him to a duckling who is imprinted on the first person to show him kindness. A maid with dark hair looks at the grand estate at night, thinking about Sir Isaac one day leaving to join high society. The blonde maid, Dahlia, thinks with a sad smile that Isaac will eventually forget all about her. The scene shifts to a warmly lit window inside the mansion. A man with slicked back dark hair tells a subordinate to begin lessons with Isaac, and the subordinate agrees to do his best. The dark-haired man sits at his desk, believing this is the correct course of action. He looks down with a somber expression, thinking of someone named Renee. Sitting alone, the man longs for Renee's return, wondering where she could be as a cosmic silhouette of her looms over the room. Knock knock. A woman with long reddish-brown hair named Carla announces herself to her father, who permits her to enter. Carla enters the grand room and asks who is taking lessons from the tutor she just saw, but her father dismisses her question. He reminds Carla that he has told her countless times not to get involved in family matters. He knows she didn't come to see him about that and asks what she truly wants to discuss. Carla admits she has a favor to ask her father, who questions her request. She reveals that her request is regarding her marriage, catching her father's attention. Her father reminds her that they've already discussed her arranged marriage, which she agreed to. She clarifies she only wants to delay it, not cancel it. Carla says she is willing to get engaged at any time, but begs him to postpone the actual marriage for at least 5 years. Frustrated, her father chides her, saying he's not clueless and knows she is the only one who can calm Max's temper. He confronts her about her weekend trips to the forest at dawn, demanding to know who she has been seeing there. He offers her advice from his own experience, telling her to end any silly relationship with an inappropriate suitor before it causes trouble. Rise. Carla stands up defiantly, insisting her relationship is not silly. Skiffle, she clutches her dress, declaring this is her final opportunity to experience any sort of freedom. She argues that a 5-year delay is extremely generous, considering he wants her to sacrifice her life by marrying a pig. Her father's expression remains stern as he listens. Carla looks on with a sad yet determined expression. As she pleads, her father cuts her off, stating his final offer is to deny her request. He coldly dismisses her, saying he wants peace and quiet, and she can see herself out. At the grand estate, narration explains that Sir Isaac has begun his lessons. The news quickly becomes daily gossip among the servants, helping to slowly repair Sir Isaac's damaged reputation. A smiling Isaac asks Dahlia if the servants' changing opinions are why she's in such a good mood. Dahlia explains how the false rumors used to upset her, but Isaac admits he never paid them any mind. Isaac smiles warmly, telling her that seeing her happy brings him joy. Dahlia closes her eyes, basking in the happy moment. Inspired, Dahlia says she should also start working harder to achieve her dreams, and Isaac agrees. Rub, Isaac leans close, teasingly pointing out that her waltz hasn't improved and she's been too busy to practice. He opens his eyes, clarifying he wasn't talking about her waltz practice. Dahlia's eyes light up as she asks him if he's ever heard of Wublung. Isaac recalls that Wublung is her hometown, the site of the Civil War, which she confirms. Gazing out a sunlit window, Dahlia shares her dream, to return to Wublung and open a flower shop. A surprised Isaac asks what she means as she runs off, excitedly explaining she's already saved over 1 gold toward her goal. Isaac listens intently as she calculates that she only needs to work hard for 4 more years. He processes the implication that she plans to leave, while she cheerfully adds that she'll take Laurel with her. Step, he stops her, turning her around to ask, "What about me?" He pulls her into a dramatic embrace among blooming flowers, demanding to know if she's going to leave him behind. He leans her back, reminding her of her promises to see him succeed and to attend a ball with him. A flustered Dahlia stammers as he points out she's now planning to leave alone. He calls her a traitor with a smirk as she pleads for him to let her finish explaining. With a huge smile, she explains that by the time she leaves, she will be of age and can live anywhere she pleases. He holds her hands, gazing at her as she beams with happiness. He wonders if she's suggesting they live together, but she excitedly clarifies they could be neighbors. Wobble! Isaac stumbles back in surprise as Dahlia adds that this is only if he doesn't wish to stay in Herman. Sitting by the window together, Isaac admits he'd leave immediately if he could and wants to show her where he grew up. Dahlia reminisces about the warm region of Wublung, describing its greenery, beautiful village, and lively harvest festival. She tells Isaac that those simpler parties can't compare to the grand ones held at the ducal estate. Taking her hand in his, Isaac begins to speak, trailing off. He gently brings her hand to his lips for a soft kiss. Startled by the gesture, Dahlia looks at him with wide, questioning eyes. She recovers with a warm, genuine smile, agreeing to his unspoken promise. The seasons change in an instant as winter blankets the ducal mansion in snow. With the arrival of winter, narration explains that Isaac's tutoring is progressing at a startling pace, even impressing the Duke. Meanwhile, the servants are busier than ever as preparations begin for Lady Carla's approaching engagement ceremony. The mansion prepares for a constant stream of guests for the upcoming celebration. In the midst of the winter preparations, Dahlia holds a letter with a worried expression. She clutches the letter, praying for someone's survival through the winter, while steeling herself for her busy days ahead. At a grand party, the red-haired Lady Carla and her fiancé stand together before a crowd of guests. A close-up shows the couple's clasped hands and elegant attire. Lady Carla glances aside with a serious, regal expression. From a distance, the engaged couple is seen celebrating in the middle of the crowded ballroom. Later, as the sun sets, Dahlia arrives at Isaac's annex and announces her presence. She brightly presents a basket of cookies and cake, offering him a snack for his studies. Isaac looks at the overflowing basket, commenting that he can't eat it all by himself. With a charming smile, he suggests she'll have to help him, and they sit down to enjoy the treats together. Taking a small cake, Isaac notes that the dessert seems different from their usual fare. Dahlia explains the treats were from the party, and Isaac remembers that Lady Carla's engagement was today. Confirming this, she explains that Lady Carla's engagement party has just concluded. When he asks how it was, Dahlia gushes about how beautiful the lady looked. She continues to praise Lady Carla, saying she looked as magnificent as a great queen. Isaac correctly guesses she was most impressed by the dress, which Dahlia enthusiastically confirms. Dahlia excitedly describes the exquisite dress, marveling at its countless layers of lace and pearls, and finally understanding its high cost. As she daydreams about wearing such a gown, Isaac listens thoughtfully while sipping his tea. He asks if she envies Lady Carla, and Dahlia immediately confirms that she does. She explains that wearing a beautiful dress and celebrating an engagement with someone you love is every girl's dream, as Isaac watches her with a soft expression. His next words catch her off guard, causing her to ask him to repeat himself. She stares at him, her wide eyes filled with confusion. With a gentle smile, Isaac begins to ask her a question. Dahlia sits frozen in anticipation, awaiting the rest of his words. Their eyes lock in a moment of shared intensity. Understanding his unspoken question, Dahlia beams, confessing she would say yes even without any fancy dresses. Squeeze! His hand clenches into a fist on the table as he states that any girl would be lucky to marry her, regardless of status. After a moment of resolve, he softly speaks her name. He looks her directly in the eyes, swearing to find her a dress more extravagant than any she's ever seen, and asks, "So marry me." His sudden, direct proposal leaves Dahlia utterly speechless. A close-up of his determined eyes shows his unwavering resolve. Dahlia's mind flashes to an image of herself in a beautiful wedding gown. A blushing Isaac thinks about what he would do if she said yes. A memory surfaces of a very young Isaac holding out a flower, vowing to marry Dahlia when he grows up. In the memory, a little girl named Laurel protests that Dahlia is her sister, as Dahlia tries to calm her down. The peaceful memory ends with Dahlia holding both a sleeping Isaac and Laurel in a sunlit field. Her imagination paints a picture of her, a maid, being embraced by Isaac, who asks for a future with her. As she strokes his hair, she resolves to say something meaningful before the precious moment fades. Rattle, she stands abruptly from the table, startling Isaac as she says, "All right, Glack." She sets the basket down firmly, telling a stunned Isaac to propose to her officially on his coming-of-age day if he still feels the same. With a gentle smile, Dahlia says she's certain his feelings will change by then. Isaac sits alone at the table, contemplating her words as the sun sets. He resolves to make it an official proposal. Dahlia thinks he sees her as a naive boy, but he leans in close, proving his serious intentions. Rumble, he reflects on how her casual words have ignited his imagination. He imagines their wedding day, promising to be by her side forever. In his fantasy, he embraces her, determined to make their future a reality. Back in reality, he places a hand on the rain-streaked window, remarking on the sight. Gazing at the rain with a small smile, he thinks he finally has something to look forward to. Clack, he turns as the door opens behind him. He falls silent, his expression turning serious. Lady Carla arrives, sarcastically asking why he's there. Click, clack, she walks past him, Reminding him, she asked him to keep a low profile. Plop, she sits down as Isaac mockingly congratulates her on finding the time, but she dismisses his taunt. He notes her relaxed demeanor, and she explains the engagement is political, not personal. Glance, he presses her, asking about the person she truly loves. Isaac reveals he's seen her with someone else, chiding her for her carelessness. Sigh, Carla nonchalantly admits that their father already knows. He startles her by asking if the Duke knows who her lover is, causing her to shout his name in shock. Isaac calmly reassures her that he won't say anything. Reaching out, he demands her cooperation in keeping her mother and brother away from the annex. He suggests she keep her brother, Max, occupied in the city, asking if she can't arrange it. Stand! She leaps to her feet, furiously accusing him of threatening her to steal the Duke's title. Tusk! He grabs her arm, telling her not to let her imagination get the best of her. Plop, he pushes her back onto her seat, explaining his only plan is to leave with a title in her secret safe. Carla questions if that's all he wants, and he simply confirms it. He offers his hand to seal the deal, asking if his terms are reasonable. Smack! She slaps his hand away, rejecting his gesture, stating she has no choice. She agrees, as Isaac dryly comments on her coldness. She asks why he's suddenly changing, reminding him of his vow to live quietly. He admits he has been up until now. With dawning horror, she asks if his sudden ambition is all because of the maid. Crack! A chill runs down her spine as Isaac's smile turns sharp and unsettling. He looks away, declaring that he now wants to live a proper life. Slam! Carla leaves the room, standing stunned in the hallway. Ha ha! She lets out a bitter laugh, calling him a monster and mocking his desire for a normal life. A flashback reveals that while the Duchess was sad about her son's 3-year absence, Lady Carla seemed to expect it. The household staff were secretly overjoyed by the news, but hid their relief. For 3 years, time passes peacefully under a blue sky filled with cherry blossoms. The Viscount's delayed arrival brought a sweet and quiet peace to the estate. Clap! A headmaid claps sharply, ordering the staff to line up. She reminds everyone to be on their best behavior to greet the Viscount, and Dahlia complies. A caption introduces Dahlia Balor, now 21 years old, looking serious and ready. Creak. The grand mansion doors swing open to a sunlit garden. The staff lines up to welcome the silhouetted figure of a man arriving home. The Viscount is revealed to be a young man with intense blue eyes and reddish-brown hair. The Viscount, Max, demands to know where his father is, and is angered to hear he is too busy to greet him. Ignoring the butler's protests, Max declares he will go find his father himself. He marches determinedly up the grand staircase. At the top of the stairs, he is met by the silent, imposing figure of the Duke. The black-haired Isaac offers a calm, confident smile. Surrounded by flowers, he maintains his composed expression. The reddish-brown-haired Viscount, Max, glares with fury, uttering, "You!" At the bottom of the stairs, Max confronts Isaac, calling him a bastard and questioning his presence as if he owns the place. Max grabs Isaac's cravat, yelling at him to get lost, but Isaac remains unnervingly calm. "Slip!" Isaac warns Max he'll be sorry as Max's hand slides away, leaving the Viscount stunned. Leaning in, Isaac reminds his brother with a smirk that they have an audience. Enraged, Max raises his fist, shouting at Isaac for his insolence. Grab! Isaac effortlessly catches the Viscount's wrist, stopping his attack. Max struggles in disbelief, shocked by Isaac's overwhelming strength. Holding his brother's hand, Isaac offers some chilling advice about leading the family. With a menacing look, he finishes his thought, telling Max to take better care of himself. The servants, including Dahlia, watch the tense confrontation, as old rumors are reignited. The stern Duke holds a set of scales, contemplating a change in his successor. As nobles and maids gossip, opinions are divided between the Viscount and the more capable Sir Isaac. Isaac's elegant and calm demeanor is highlighted, showcasing his noble bearing. His refined presence suggests he is better suited for the family title than anyone else. The maids gossip, with one remarking that Isaac's standing would be higher without the Duchess's influence. Bump Dahlia is roughly shouldered by a passing maid. 2 maids snicker behind her, offering a false apology as Dahlia stands alone. She sadly realizes that a few of the other servants seem to have a problem with her. While working, Dahlia resolves to ignore the jealousy she now faces, hoping no strange rumors start. A friendly red-haired maid calls out Dahlia's name. The maid, Edina, playfully offers Dahlia a bite from her fork. Edina laughs, telling a surprised Dahlia that she looked too serious just now. After Dahlia takes a bite, Edina reveals that chocolate cake is left over from the ball. Dahlia finds it early for leftovers, but Edina explains the Viscount's clash with Isaac led to him drinking heavily. A flashback shows a hungover Max leaving the ball early. unable to compose himself. Dahlia expresses her shock at his behavior, and Adina explains the Duchess and Lady Carla had to clean up his mess. Adina cheerfully reports that Count Nuit saved the day, much to Dahlia's delight. Dahlia recalls hearing the Count was kind to Isaac, though Isaac seems to find him meddlesome. Smiling warmly, she feels relieved that Isaac now has an ally, reflecting on how much has changed. Another maid approaches Dahlia from behind to get her attention. The scene shifts to the head maid's well-appointed office. Dahlia stands before the head maid, who confirms a piece of news Dahlia finds hard to believe. Slip, the head maid, dismisses her to think it over, asking her to deliver a box to the annex. She explains the master wants Isaac to have the ornate box, and Dahlia agrees to deliver it. Clutching the box, a determined Dahlia decides she must tell Isaac the news immediately. Thud, a bandaged, red-haired man named Hoover sets down a heavy sack outside. Staring, he looks off into the distance, his red eyes focused. Dahlia arrives, cheerfully greeting Mr. Hoover and startling him. He chides her for sneaking up on him, but she insists she called his name, asking why he is so out of it. She checks his temperature, noting to herself that while he's harsh, he isn't a bad person. He brushes her off and turns to go inside, but then stops her before she can leave. FWIP, he silently offers her a beautiful red handkerchief. Delighted, Dahlia admires the lovely gift, while Hoover awkwardly asks if she's sure she likes it. Clack, inside. Dahlia wonders why it's so hard for him to be friendly. Clack, she knocks on Isaac's door and announces herself. Dahlia looks surprised as a red-haired woman tells her Isaac is not in right now. The woman, Carla, explains their father summoned Isaac and asks Dahlia what she needs. Holding a small chest, Dahlia explains she's running an errand for the master. As Dahlia looks on, a caption notes that change was also coming for Lady Carla. The narrative describes Lady Carla as a woman who was once sharp as a blade and shone like a jewel. The narration continues, stating she now looks gaunter as her wedding day approaches. Dahlia thinks that while she's seeing Carla at the annex more often, she doesn't seem any closer to Sir Isaac. Carla looks out the window, her expression distant and somber. Carla asks about the errand, and Dahlia excitedly reports that Sir Isaac will be participating in the official feudality meeting. Dahlia beams with joy, shocked that Isaac is attending such an important gathering, and she confirms the news to a stone-faced Carla. She reveals a box of custom jewelry, explaining the master ordered it for the occasion. Preft, Carla scoffs dismissively at the gift, calling it extravagant. Mumble, Dahlia quietly wonders if the Duke still sees Isaac as a stand-in for his mother. Clack, a door opens, and a smiling Isaac calls Dahlia's name. Isaac takes Dahlia's hands, sweetly saying he would have returned sooner if he'd known she was there, while Carla glares from the side. Carla angrily confronts Isaac, telling him she's not there for him and criticizing his tone. Isaac remains silent and impassive in the face of her anger. He gestures dismissively, suggesting she should go for a walk. He calmly notes the nice weather, but Carla remains silent and tense. Dahlia interrupts, politely suggesting the flower beds might be inconvenient for Lady Carla to walk in at the moment. Flinch. Carla visibly startles as Dahlia mentions Mr. Hoover is currently working there. Wah-ha! Carla suddenly explodes in anger, shouting at Dahlia for being an overly talkative maid. Slam! She tells Dahlia to just look after her beloved master and storms out, leaving a stunned Dahlia and an amused Isaac. Isaac leans in close to Dahlia, who regrets having spoken up. Later, Dahlia helps Isaac choose an accessory, but he dismisses the cuffs and brooch as too showy. He says he doesn't need them since it's not a ball, but Dahlia insists the feudality meeting is very important. Suggesting he should dress up, she presents a subtle necktie pin with a dark sapphire. Isaac agrees to wear it and asks her to put it on for him, which she happily accepts. As she fastens the pin, Isaac internally cherishes being taller, allowing him to watch her without revealing his feelings. He thinks he just has to look away before she looks up, as Dahlia focuses intently on her task. He wonders how she would react, picturing himself lifting her chin to see her expression. Beam, back in reality, he gives her a bright smile and a simple thanks. Looking in the mirror, he asks for her opinion, and she agrees it works, adding that she's right as usual. A caption reveals Dahlia's private thoughts of happiness about her recent promotion. She recalls her earlier resolution to immediately tell Sir Isaac the good news. Flustered, she asks how he knew, admitting she forgot to tell him. He explains he overheard the head maid Thelma. Shrug, she says she just wanted to be the first to share the good news, but Isaac questions if it's good at all. Sigh, he pulls her into a back hug, worrying her promotion will make her even busier when he already feels he barely sees her. Facing him in his arms, Dahlia playfully tells him not to get soft on her now. Press. She places a hand on his chest, encouraging him to seize this opportunity to secure future invitations. He smiles softly and agrees to her encouragement. Dahlia gives him a cheerful wave as he prepares to leave. Isaac takes a determined step forward in the grand, sunlit hall. As he adjusts his tie, his inner voice resolves not to hurt her feelings. Isaac arrives at the feudality meeting, where nobles are gathered around a long table with the Duke presiding. Holding a report, Isaac confidently informs the council that a project is ready for its opening ceremony. Baron Dathern strokes his chin, commending Isaac's excellent work on resolving a difficult issue ahead of schedule. Count Nuit expresses his surprise, crediting Isaac's active involvement for the swift resolution. Bite, as another noble suggests moving on, Isaac interjects to ask about a canal project, causing the noble to bite his thumb in frustration. A noble seethes internally, questioning why the bastard boy Isaac sits so confidently among them. The Viscount Max fumes that no one cares about Isaac's presence and resolves to do something about it. Flinch, an older noble, tries to reassure a startled Max, acknowledging the meeting's stiffness. Other nobles flatter Max, praising his diploma and assuring him he'll learn quickly. A noble informs Max that Sergeant Yufgenschult is supporting him as the heir. Verbatim, Isaac's heart thumps as he hears the name, his expression turning serious. Max internally questions the name, looking utterly confused by the title. The noble clarifies that Sergeant Yufgenschult is Isaac, who's been learning administration in Max's absence. Max erupts in fury, accusing the council of being senile as they recoil in shock. Rattle, a council member, pleads for calm, but Max angrily tells him to shut up. Stomp, stomp. As Max rises, a noble explains that Sergeant is a title for non-nobles and their feudality. Grab, Max confronts Isaac, shouting that the title isn't for a dirty bastard child. The Duke's voice booms, ordering Max to sit down and stop his outrageous behavior. PFT, Isaac remains composed, calmly adjusting his collar with a subtle smirk. Max trembles with uncontrollable rage, his face a mask of fury. Smack! Isaac slaps Max across the face, shocking the council as the Duke screams his son's name. Isaac's inner monologue analyzes the nobles like chess pieces, noting Count Nuit's practicality and Baron Dathern's conservatism. His analysis concludes with Maximilian, represented as a solitary king piece on the board. He muses that his brother, having drunk all morning, is easily provoked and ready to explode. Isaac's hand moves a pawn as he reveals he timed the railroad announcement to trigger Max. The stage is set, and the actors are ready for the show to begin. Over a spiderweb, Isaac's thoughts invite Max to do whatever he wants. Isaac gives a knowing and confident smirk, his plan perfectly in motion. A spider's shadow looms as Isaac's thoughts confirm this is exactly what he wanted before the slap lands again. The council members look on, their faces contorted in pure shock at the violent turn of events. Isaac falls to the ground in feigned pain as the Duke rushes to his side, calling his name. A furious Count Nuit orders Max to leave, but the Viscount yells back, asserting his status as the heir. Isaac quietly apologizes, playing the part of the humble victim. Holding his face, he feigns remorse, saying he understands the Viscount's anger over his low birth. Drip, blood from his lip hits the floor as he asks pardon for his dim-wittedness. The Duke glares with cold fury at his son, while the wounded Isaac kneels beside him. Pointing at a stunned Max, the Duke furiously orders him to be taken away immediately. Grab then sees Max, who struggles in disbelief, yelling at his father to let him go. Max frantically accuses Isaac of aiming for his title, questioning the council's judgment. Slam! The door is shut on a screaming Max, leaving the other nobles to sigh and shake their heads. The Duke offers a hand to Isaac, formally addressing him as Sergeant Yufgenschult. The other nobles gather around Isaac to help him up, assuring him he is not at fault. Isaac humbly suggests that for the good of the family, he should step down from his position. The Duke immediately shuts him down, calling the idea nonsense. Placing a hand on Isaac's shoulder, the Duke reaffirms his position, blaming Max for the incident. The Duke asks the council for their agreement, and they mumble their assent to his wishes. Count Nuit voices his support, praising Isaac's 5 years of commitment and his success with the railroad. The Count then prepares to make a bold suggestion to His Grace, the Duke. He proposes awarding Isaac the prestigious medal of the Wolf's Fang. A black king chess piece topples over on the board, symbolizing a major shift in power. As the nobles agree the medal would grant Isaac formal recognition, he politely declines, stating he's undeserving while achieving his first goal. Isaac declares he only wants to be an aide, but the Duke insists on a reward, fulfilling Isaac's second goal. Isaac makes a simple request: a small study in the annex, Tiesk. The Duke agrees to the office but wonders why Isaac is still in the annex, unknowingly setting up Isaac's third goal. With a satisfied smile, Isaac makes his final request: a personal maid dedicated solely to him. A voice tells a shocked Dahlia that she won't be getting her promotion after all. A hand points at a confused Dahlia. As the voice declares there's a change of plans, the head maid, Thelma, smiles and informs a stunned Dahlia that she will become Sir Isaac's personal maid instead. Thelma explains that at the last meeting, the Duke officially designated Dahlia Balor as Sir Isaac's personal maid and approved an office for him in the annex. Thelma admits she wanted to promote Dahlia within her team, but she couldn't refuse Sir Isaac's specific request. Dahlia resigns herself to the decision, offering a quiet and somber thank you. A flashback shows a happy younger Dahlia with her mother, recalling how she worked tirelessly for her future despite financial struggles. A small pouch and 2 coins illustrate the meager savings she struggled to accumulate. Her thoughts reveal she desperately wanted the promotion for the familiar work and double pay. Step, step. With a determined expression, Dahlia walks through the grand hall. She calls out to Mr. Hoover, asking if he's there to set up Sir Isaac's new office. The red-haired man tells her to go to the new office as well, since Sir Isaac is looking for her. Sigh. She walks on with a heavy heart while Mr. Hoover watches her in silence. He tells her to get a move on, refusing to ask what's wrong, but she decides to tell him anyway. When Dahlia reveals she's now Sir Isaac's personal maid, a shocked Hoover asks why she isn't celebrating the promotion. She confesses she's unsure of her new duties, having only ever seen personal maids follow their masters around. Hoover confirms that's all the job entails, explaining it's considered easy work because it doesn't involve typical chores like laundry or cooking. He explains she'll earn 4 times the pay of an average maid just for running errands, calling it a piece of cake. Dahlia stares ahead, absorbing the surprising details of her new, lucrative position. FWIP. The scene transitions with a sweep of Isaac's hand. Isaac reflects that while Max or Carla could get what they want with a single sentence, he had to orchestrate a whole spectacle. Floppy sits down at his new desk, admitting to himself that he likes the room. Dahlia's bright smile is shown above a content Isaac, celebrating their new arrangement. Click! Dahlia enters the room calling for her lord, and he turns to greet her. Hug! He immediately pulls her into a warm embrace. Still in his arms, Dahlia excitedly confirms that she just heard the news about becoming his personal maid. She thanks him profusely and promises to do her best, earning a soft smile from him. 1 month later, click, clack, Carla strides angrily down a long, ornate hallway. She internally fumes, cursing both Isaac and her brother Maximilian. Grit, she clenches her teeth, frustrated that neither of them can seem to keep a low profile. A flashback recounts the fallout. Her father struck Max for the first time. Her mother fought with her father publicly, and ashamed Max drank himself into a stupor. Back in the present, Carla sits alone at a chaotic dining table, sighing as she realizes it's up to her to fix everything. Reaching for a doorknob, she bitterly wonders if her life would be easier if she just married the pig. Creak. She opens the door, her expression hardened with resolve. She finds Max drunk on the floor and tells him he's had enough. Max glares up at her with cold defiance. She confronts him about his month-long sulking, but he just tells her to get lost. FWIP, she tries to take his wine bottle, reminding him that their mother is losing sleep over his absence. Whoosh. He violently shoves her away, scratching her cheek as he screams at her to leave. He accuses her of enjoying his humiliation, and she can only say his name with pity. Slip, as she tells him not to take his anger out on her, he rips the bottle from her hand. Crash. He shoves her to the ground with a furious shout. Drip. As blood trickles from her cheek, he screams that she and their parents all look down on him like an insect, even more so than they do the bastard boy. He cruelly sneers that her attitude is rich for someone being sold off to an old pig, leaving her stunned. Slap. Enraged by his words, Carla strikes him hard across the face. Thud. Max collapses to the floor, and Carla stands over him, trembling with fury. She grabs his shirt, furiously demanding he repeat what he said about her being sold off. Her face bleeding, she screams at him for being a failure despite having been given everything. Grabbing his collar, Carla furiously asks if he thinks she wanted to be born a woman or to be sold off to a fat old man. She glares into his eyes, venomously stating that if she were a man, she would have surpassed a pathetic person like him long ago. Carla declares that, as a man, she would never have let their father even consider making Isaac the successor. Grab. Max violently seizes his sister's throat as she lets out a choked gasp. He tightens his grip, demanding to know what she's talking about as she struggles for air. With a pained smirk, Carla taunts him, asking if he truly didn't know how incompetent their father thinks he is. Slam! He throws her to the floor, but she mockingly laughs, saying she knows all about it before questioning the idea of Isaac as successor. A shocked Max wonders if their father truly considered Isaac as heir, not just using him as a way to motivate him. Slam! He bursts out of the room, in a furious daze. Wobble! He stumbles through the hall, muttering in denial. He runs down a long corridor, his mind racing as he refuses to believe it. Stumble as he staggers, a voice from above asks what on earth he is doing. Max looks up to see the Duke on the grand staircase, who orders him back to his room with shame. The Duke's expression is one of cold disappointment, as Max asks if what he heard is true. Max grabs his father's coat, desperately asking if he really wishes Isaac were the heir and his successor. The Duke looks down at him with contempt, stating that if Max had behaved properly, such a thought would have never crossed his mind. Slap! The Duke strikes his son's hand away with a sharp, dismissive motion. Step, step. The Duke turns his back and walks away, leaving Max standing there in shock. Lean, with a look of desperation and fury, Max lunges and grabs his father from behind. Thud! A book hits the floor, and Dahlia flinches awake, jolted from a nightmare. Isaac gently tells Dahlia she can sleep more, but she covers her face, thinking, "Oh no, not again." She stands and protests, saying she can't doze off while he is working, but he insists he's fine with it. He playfully tells her to say, leaving her looking confused and asking what he means. MMPH. In a sweet fantasy sequence, Isaac gently touches her lips, surrounded by desserts. Nom. As she nibbles on a pastry, Isaac suggests sweets will wake her up and offers her the entire dessert trolley. She feels guilty, saying she should have brought them, but he admits he didn't want to wake her peaceful sleep. Holding a tray of sweets, Dahlia reflects that it's been a month since she became Sir Isaac's personal maid. A smiling Isaac holds a book, as Dahlia thinks that in all that time, he hasn't asked her to do anything. She serves him tea while walking through his office, and he thanks her. As he accepts the teacup, his gaze lingers on her hand. He stops her, asking what happened to her hand. Holding her hand gently, he inspects the faint scar as she explains she cut it on broken glass long ago. She recalls how he held her hand with a serious look on his face for a long while before letting go. Stare. A chibi Dahlia watches other servants busily working while she sits idly. Clatter. Holding the dessert tray, Dahlia laments that her lack of work is causing her to doze off, and she desperately wants a task. Isaac calls her name, inviting her to the city, and her eyes light up as she asks if he needs her to get something. Eager to be useful, she offers to go alone, telling him he shouldn't waste his time since he's busy. He smiles kindly, explaining that he's asking her out on a date, so they both need to go. Dahlia stares in stunned silence, her mind trying to process his unexpected invitation. Blushing slightly, she asks if he is asking her on a date, and he simply confirms that he is. He gently takes her hand and kisses it, formally asking Lady Belore if she will let him take her out. She looks to the side, her face a mixture of shock and disbelief. She turns away, accusing him of teasing her again, but he insists he's serious and truly wishes to go on a date with her. She argues that just because they're going out doesn't make it a date, but he firmly states that he's telling her it is. He explains a date is holding hands and sightseeing, but she immediately refutes his definition. She insists a date is for two people who like each other, but he retorts that description fits them perfectly, causing her to protest. Flustered, she tries to explain that people who like each other would want to hug and kiss. Kiss. He leans in close with a confident smile, asking if a kiss is all that's required. Gently touching her chin, he softly asks if he can just kiss her right now, leaving her utterly speechless. He whispers for her to close her eyes, leaning in for a kiss. Step, step. He gently holds her chin, their faces inches apart. He pulls back, noting the impeccable timing of an interruption, leaving her confused. Slam! Mr. Hoover bursts in, frantically announcing that his grace has collapsed. As Hoover delivers the shocking news, Dahlia and Sir Isaac look on in alarm. In a grand hall, a group of noblemen panic over the sudden news. One man explains his grace slipped down the stairs, but was thankfully found by the Viscount. Clack, an older nobleman with a mustache, asks if the council is all present. A man with reddish-brown hair strides purposefully into the room. Step, step, a man greets the Viscount and gestures toward an open seat. Pass, the Viscount ignores the offered chair, surprising the nobleman. Done, he takes the head seat at the table, shocking the room into silence. The Viscount declares that as the heir, he will act as representative and asks for objections. A blonde-haired man named Anses Newitt objects, stating a representative is not needed. Nuit explains the current matter concerns the powerful and exclusive Privy Council. He clarifies that while fiefdom issues are internal, the Privy Council is another matter entirely. Other men express their concern, but one dismisses their worries as baseless. The Viscount scoffs at their fears, but Nuit insists the matter is significant and beyond the Viscount's experience. Clack, as Nuit dismisses the Viscount's ability, a voice apologizes for being late. Sir Isaac enters the room, and Nuit calls out his name in surprise. The Viscount angrily demands to know why Isaac dares to sit without his permission. With a smirk, he scolds Isaac for being late, and demands an explanation. Sir Isaac calmly meets his gaze, unfazed by the threat. Slam, slam, Isaac refuses to explain, citing confidentiality, which sends the Viscount into a rage. The Viscount demands Isaac either explain himself or reveal the confidential information. Isaac simply smiles and prepares to excuse himself from the tense confrontation. The Viscount calls for someone to enter, leaving Isaac to wonder what's happening. Step, 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 a line of servants enters, carrying stacks of documents. Sir Isaac calmly explains he has already prepared all necessary documents and assigned tasks. Stunned, the Viscount glares at the paperwork, realizing Isaac has outmaneuvered him again. He turns away, his expression filled with frustration and resentment. Isaac politely offers to answer any questions the council may have. As the Viscount fumes, another man interjects, asking to question the advisor first. He notes that the Privy Council issue is listed first and will be difficult to resolve. Isaac agrees, but says it's only difficult because of the Marquise's involvement. He explains that the Privy Council operates on a majority vote to pass any resolution. Shake, Isaac warns them that the Marquis is a bold and shrewd man. Isaac predicts the Marquis will use the Duke's condition to form alliances, isolating their house. Nod, the other council members glance at the documents, agreeing with Isaac's strategy. Nuit dismisses the Viscount, telling him to focus on his studies, then declares his own loyalty. He then formally acknowledges Sergeant Yufkenschultz as the Duke's legitimate representative. Ancest Nuit repeats his declaration, pledging his full support. He calls for a vote, demanding all in support to raise their hands, enraging the Viscount. An older nobleman with a mustache raises his hand in a show of support. Two other members of the council follow suit, raising their hands. The Viscount clenches his fists in fury as the vote turns against him. Later, in the rain, Thelma instructs a reluctant magenta-haired maid to take alcohol to the Viscount. Thelma informs her the meeting isn't over. The Viscount simply refused to attend today. Thelma watches the rain, admitting she's worried about what might happen while the Duke is unwell. Knock knock. The maid arrives at the Viscount's door, calling out for him. Creak, a servant quietly enters a room, announcing her presence. Slam, a purple-haired maid enters with more wine, thinking with disgust about the overwhelming stench of alcohol. He announces the drinks have arrived, surveying a grand room littered with empty bottles. Looking back nervously, he offers to leave the drinks on a nearby table. Pause as he reaches for the door. An unseen voice calls out to him. A voice from within the room coldly states he hasn't given the maid permission to leave, stopping him in his tracks. Rumble. A storm rolls in over the grand estate. Elsewhere, a brown-haired man congratulates Isaac, who modestly tells him to get home safely. Slam, Isaac enters his own room, admitting to himself that he's exhausted. His expression is grim and focused. Gazing out the window, he spots a single light on in the servants' quarters, realizing it's Dahlia's. He recalls telling her to take a break, wondering if she's up reading a book. As he remembers gently holding her hand, he hopes she isn't overworking herself by sewing. He reaffirms his promise to give Dahlia a comfortable life, stating it's a key reason he accepted his new role in the fiefdom. Squeeze. He clenches his fist, realizing that to truly provide for her, the title of Baron won't be enough. He touches the chain around his neck, pondering just how much power he should aim for. He holds a small, white seal in the palm of his hand. A memory of Dahlia's bright, happy smile fills his thoughts. Lost in thought, Isaac touches his lips with a faint, determined smile. The scene shifts back to the disheveled room, strewn with empty wine bottles and discarded clothes. A hand desperately clutches a white sheet. The purple-haired maid is revealed in a simple nightgown, his shoulder covered in dark bruises. A voice from the bed harshly summons the bruised maid. A shirtless Max sits on the bed with his head in his hand as the maid timidly answers his call. Flinched, the maid recoils as Max asks if he knows of the maid Isaac seems to cherish. Forcing a nervous smile, the bruised maid claims he doesn't know who Max is referring to. Max scoffs at his denial, while the maid insists he can't possibly know every one of the 70 servants at the estate. A jagged, broken wine bottle is held threateningly before the maid's eyes. Max holds the broken bottle to the terrified maid's neck, telling him his acting needs work. He issues a final, chilling threat: reveal the name or never leave the room again. Meanwhile, Isaac works diligently at his desk, writing by candlelight. Finishing his work, he organizes his papers and notes that the day is over. With a soft smile, he looks out the window at the rain and wishes Dahlia sweet dreams. The scene settles on the quiet servants' quarters under a starry night sky. Clack! Isaac arrives at a grand door and lets out a weary sigh. He finds Max on the floor and coldly asks where he's been crawling all day. Max looks up with a sly smile, saying he's been waiting. Spreading his arms wide, Max mockingly asks why Isaac is there so late, stating he has a question for him. Max confronts Isaac directly, demanding to know what he's really after. Leaning in close, Max questions why Isaac is causing trouble instead of staying hidden in the annex, wondering if it's for title or money. Smirk. Max offers to pay Isaac off, promising him any amount of money if he agrees to leave upon coming of age. Isaac coolly retorts, asking if Max truly has any idea how much he wants. Max asks if Isaac just called him dirty, and Isaac questions if he's being serious. With a dark smile, Isaac denies it, but admits that hearing the insult to his face is quite refreshing. Max becomes enraged, asking if Isaac finds the situation funny, to which Isaac replies it's hilarious because Max is completely clueless. Isaac calmly reveals that martial law has been declared, giving him, as the House representative, complete control over the domain. Max argues that Isaac should be generous and share power, but Isaac dismisses him, stating Max has nothing to gain from this. PF'd, as Isaac suggests Max go back to his room, Max stifles a sudden burst of laughter. He erupts in manic laughter, sarcastically congratulating Isaac on his well-delivered speech. Max spreads his arms wide, declaring that this place and all the servants belong to him. With a cruel grin, he adds that this means Dahlia Belor is also his property. As Isaac stares back grimly, Max asks if he's made his point clear. Elsewhere, Dahlia sleeps peacefully in the servants' quarters. Creak! A faint sound causes her to stir and slowly open her eyes. Seeing her roommate, Dahlia sleepily asks Adina where she's been, and the purple-haired maid apologizes for waking her. Dahlia expresses concern, asking why Adina's voice is so hoarse, but Adina dismisses it as a cold. Adina reassures a worried Dahlia that she has medicine and tells her to go back to sleep. Drip, drip, but once Dahlia's back is turned, Adina's face shows the truth: pure terror and quiet tears. Standing alone, Adina silently apologizes over and over to an unknowing Dahlia. Sobbing into her hands, Adina prays that nothing terrible will happen to her friend. Her fear manifests as a horrifying vision of Dahlia lying lifeless on the floor. Back in the grand room, Max leans toward Isaac, coldly repeating that he owns Dahlia. Isaac feigns ignorance, but Max points accusingly, mocking his terrible poker face and obvious affection for the girl. Max muses aloud that he doesn't particularly enjoy going for used goods. Max then wonders how he should make Dahlia cry, enraging Isaac, who screams at him to watch his mouth. Snicker, pleased with the reaction, Max taunts Isaac about trying to protect a girl and challenges him to show some ambition, prompting Isaac to ask what he wants. Leaning in close, Max repeats the question with a sinister smile, considering his answer. Smack! Without warning, Max strikes Isaac hard across the face. Isaac remains stoic, a red mark blooming on his cheek from the blow. Max scoffs at Isaac's lack of reaction, asking if that's how he wants to play this. Pow! Isaac retaliates with a powerful punch to Max's gut. Max, now nursing a bloody nose, tells Isaac to swear his obedience, and he will let the incident slide. Grit! He presses Isaac, asking if he's incapable of even that. Defeated, Isaac agrees, but Max smirks and commands him to kneel properly. Isaac humiliates himself, kneeling on the floor before his triumphant brother. He clenches his fist, promising to do anything as long as Max agrees to leave Dahlia alone. Step, Max cruelly grinds his heel onto Isaac's hand and demands he beg more politely. Through gritted teeth, Isaac pleads for Max to leave her alone. Max responds with a vicious kick to Isaac's ribs. Walking away, Max warns Isaac not to act like he owns the place anymore. Huff, as Isaac gasps in pain, Max issues a final, chilling threat to sell Dahlia if provoked. Lying on the floor, Isaac's eyes burn with hatred as he thinks. A horrific vision flashes in his mind. Dahlia as a broken doll, shattered in a spray of blood. After the brutal encounter, Isaac sits alone, utterly defeated. His thoughts drift to a happier time, remembering Dahlia excitedly calling to him in the library. In the memory, she holds up a leaf, proudly announcing she found a snail. She beams, boasting about the snail's impressive size and speed. Isaac smiles gently as she shows him her tiny discovery. The happy memory fades, leaving Isaac standing alone in the pouring rain. A single tear traces a path through the grime and blood on his cheek. He stands before a tomb marked by a weeping angel statue. A voice from his past echoes, acknowledging his pain. Step! He recalls a hand on the statue, the voice telling him he no longer needs to feel that things are unfair. Standing on a desolate cliff in the downpour, he remembers the voice's final promise of finding satisfaction. She sits up with a start, surprised by how bright the morning sun is. Looking at her empty room, she wonders why Adina didn't wake her up. She glances around, a hint of confusion on her face. Standing by the empty beds, she calls out for Adina, but there is no answer. Dahlia approaches another maid, asking if Thelma has seen Adina. She explains that she can't find Adina and all her things are gone, and Thelma reveals Adina left for her hometown that morning. Dahlia anxiously asks if Adina is very ill, but Thelma, turning away, says that's not it. Thelma bluntly informs a shocked Dahlia that Adina quit. Stunned, Dahlia can only say, "I'm sorry," as the harsh reality sinks in. In disbelief, Dahlia says Adina never mentioned anything about leaving to her. Thelma hands Dahlia a letter, explaining that Adina left it for her. With a worried expression, Dahlia takes the letter from Thelma. Reading the note, Dahlia confirms it only mentions that Adina had to leave abruptly. As Dahlia desperately asks what's going on, a distressed Thelma simply says her name. Thelma begs Dahlia to leave her alone for a moment. Pressing her fingers to her temple, Thelma insists she can't talk right now. Creak, respecting her wishes, Dahlia turns and pushes open a door. Filled with dawning regret, Dahlia thinks she should have never sent Adina to the Viscount's room. Clack, she enters her now empty room, clutching the letter. Dear Dahlia. As she reads, Adina's words confirm she's heading back to her hometown. Sitting on her bed, Dahlia reads Adina's apology for the sudden departure. Squeeze! She grips the letter tightly as she reads Adina's wish for her to live a beautiful life with her sister. Huddled on the bed, Dahlia desperately wonders what could have possibly happened. A sudden thought strikes her, and she pauses. Sniff! She cautiously smells the letter, detecting a faint scent. In a flashback, a red-haired maid claims something in a medicine cabinet is for emergencies. Later, the flashback shows the maid dropping a container, hoping they'll never have to use its contents. The container falls from Dahlia's own grasp, scattering small, wrapped items across the floor. Picking one up, she looks at it with dawning recognition, thinking, I knew it. She recalls the scent is from a blue rosette, a beautiful but infamous flower. Dahlia realizes the flower is used for birth control, a last resort with severe side effects. Wondering why Adina would take such a thing, she remembers Adina's hoarse voice and flimsy excuse. Duggan. Her heart pounds with sickening certainty as she regrets sending Adina to the Viscount's room. Her thoughts drift back to a harsh lesson she learned while working for the Baron. She remembers a matron declaring a vase more precious than a servant's life. Their lives, she reflects, were valued less than the estate's plates and clocks. They were treated as easily replaceable, like puppets on a string. What's thrown away, she thinks grimly, is always forgotten. Crying, Dahlia clutches the letter and whispers Adina's name in sorrow. Leaning against the empty bed, she thinks that no matter how insignificant people say they are, this is wrong. Elsewhere, a man with his feet on a desk asks about participating in a conference. From a lounge chair, Isaac dismisses the conference, but his aide insists it's important because a marquis will be attending. Isaac sits up, clarifying if it's the chairman of the Privy Council, and the aide confirms it's essential for someone from Herman to go. The aide hands over the itinerary and details for the conference. He explains Isaac must stay overnight at a station to catch an early train. Smack! Isaac throws the papers in the aide's face and tells him to go instead. Walking away, Isaac coldly states he has no desire to go to Cunningham. Slam! After Isaac leaves, his aide picks up the papers with a subtle, knowing smile. In a sunlit room, a voice calls out Dahlia's name. Isaac finds Dahlia dusting and gently scolds her, saying he told her to rest. He tells her to leave the cleaning to Hoover, but she insists she's fine. Smiling warmly, she points out that he and Mr. Hoover have also been busier since his grace became ill. Slip, her hand slides up to his cheek as she asks if he's overexerting himself, but he turns the question back to her. Dahlia touches Isaac's cheek, noting the lack of energy in his voice and asking if something happened. He reassures her not to worry, though his expression remains grim. Clack. As Hoover appears at the door asking if he found it, Isaac tells him to wait. Isaac kisses Dahlia's hand, telling her he'll be out late and instructing her to clock out early and avoid any summons from others. Smiling, Dahlia repeats his instructions back to him. She should say she has important work from Sir Isaac. Cupping his face, she reassures him that no one else ever asks for her anyway. She holds his hand, wishing him safe travels with a gentle smile. Elsewhere, Max asks Hoover if he found someone, and Hoover confirms that he did. Max hands Hoover a sealed letter, instructing him to have it delivered. To Viscount Obrick of Cunningham. Max glares menacingly, repeating the Viscount's name with a question in his tone. Hoover stands silently by an angel statuette as a vision of a crying face appears below. The narrative reveals Viscount Obrick is Maya Obrick's father as the chapter ends. Max repeats his command, ordering that the letter be delivered to Viscount Obrick of Cunningham. Shah, rain pours down on the grand estate. As Dahlia sleeps, a soft voice calls out her name. The voice calls her Dahlia again, causing her to stir. He smiles and tells her to relax and stay where she is. Stroking her hair, he explains that he needed to talk to her about something. In the library, Isaac informs Dahlia he must leave early the next morning for the Northeastern Conference. He explains he'll be gone for at least 3 days and tells her to follow Hoover's instructions while he's away. She questions his instruction about Hoover, and he cryptically replies that she will understand when the time comes. He gives her a final warning to never respond to anyone else's call, but she just laughs, saying no one ever does. He covers her eyes with his hand, seriously asking her to promise him. He insists she must promise not to go to them, as it's the only way he can leave with some peace. His hand remains over her eyes, a silent, serious plea. Dahlia places her hand over his, promising she won't answer anyone else's summons. Relieved, Isaac says, "Good," telling her that's what he needed to hear. His eye shows a cold, unwavering determination. He thinks to himself that once he takes care of this, things will be different. A new day dawns brightly over the vast estate. Dahlia thanks Isaac for walking her back to her quarters. They exchange goodbyes as he waves and turns to leave. Once her back is turned, his hand clenches into a tight fist. He calls out her name, stopping her before she enters her room. He reminds her that his birthday is in 2 months, and she gasps in surprise. Dahlia excitedly plans for the double celebration of his birthday and coming of age, asking what gift he'd like. Isaac smiles, touched that she plans to get him a gift, which she confirms she does every year. She considers getting him a book, but quickly decides against it, as he has too many. With a bright smile, she suggests a bookmark or a fountain pen. She trails off after suggesting gloves, falling into thoughtful silence. Clasping her hands, she admits that he already has everything he could possibly need. She smiles sadly, saying he probably wouldn't find any use for a gift from her. With a sigh, she says anything she could get, he'd already own a better version of. He moves closer, telling her there is something he wants. He says it's something only she can give him, and she asks what it could be. Looking directly at her, Isaac confesses, "You." They stand frozen at the doorway, his confession hanging in the golden light. Done, Dahlia's eye widens in pure shock. As a vision of a cloaked figure in the snow appears, Dahlia's thoughts drift to a confusing memory from Carla's engagement day. Her thoughts confirm the grim reality. Adina was forced to quit her job. A flashback shows their hands clasped as she recalls her own coming-of-age day. Snatch! Isaac suddenly grabs her wrist as she cries out in protest. She continues that it is her duty to obey his orders, leaving Isaac looking completely shocked by her assumption. Flustered, Isaac quickly tries to correct her, insisting that's not what he meant at all. He awkwardly backpedals, admitting physical attraction is a small part of it, but trying to explain his real point. Looking at her seriously, he says that he wants to define the nature of their relationship. Dahlia listens intently, her expression shifting from panic to nervous anticipation. Grit. He clenches his jaw, steeling himself for his confession. He closes his eyes for a moment, before looking at her with gentle resolve. He smiles softly, apologizing for surprising her and causing a misunderstanding. Promising to try again properly upon his return, he decides to postpone his full confession. "I like you, Dahlia." Back in the present, Dahlia leans against her door, overwhelmed by his confession. A faint smile touches her lips. She whispers in disbelief. It can't be. His confession echoes in her mind, but she immediately starts to doubt its sincerity. Trembling, she realizes that even if his feelings are sincere, it's an impossible situation. Despite the social rules, she can't help but wonder why she feels so happy. Shah, at Viscount Obrick's estate in Cunningham, a voice questions the arrival of a letter from Herman. An aide confirms the letter is from someone named Isaac. Viscount Obrick takes the letter, examining it with a cold expression. Crumple, he crushes the letter in his fist, calling Isaac a stubborn fool. Crackle, holding the letter over a fire, he seethes with rage over what Isaac did to his daughter. The scene shifts to the Grand Cunningham station. Isaac arrives on the platform, his expression grim and determined. His aide rushes over, announcing that he has secured a room for them. Isaac agrees, and they prepare to head inside. Lean, he later peeks quietly through a doorway. Inside, his two companions are sound asleep in their beds. Having slipped out, Isaac arrives in the pouring rain at the estate of Baron Obrick. The butler attempts to turn him away for not having an appointment. Isaac explains that his message must not have been delivered, leaving the butler confused. He then commands the butler to inform the Baron that Isaac Jufgenscholt is here to deliver his daughter's last will and testimony. Stunned by this revelation, the butler immediately allows him to enter. Done, Isaac stands silently in the grand office, facing the Baron. The Baron coolly repeats his words, questioning the claim of a last will. He scoffs, telling Isaac how many con men have come before with similar claims about wills and keepsakes. Glancing at his daughter's portrait, he says he threw out every other swindler who was just looking to rob him. He then turns, conceding that Isaac is obviously different from those other fools. With pure hatred in his eyes, the Baron accuses Isaac of being directly responsible for killing his daughter, Maya. The Baron approaches him menacingly, curious to see what ludicrous ruse Isaac has prepared, and warning him he's on the Baron's turf now. Isaac calmly suggests the Baron can hear the truth from Lady Obrick herself, which sends him into a rage. FWIP, ignoring the outburst, Isaac calmly presents a sealed letter. He holds it out, stating that it contains her final words. Snatch! The Baron violently rips the letter from Isaac's hand and stares down at the seal. Isaac reminds the Baron of his skepticism about the previous conman he turned away. Challenging him to verify the handwriting, Isaac watches as the Baron realizes, with a shock, that it truly is Maya's. The Baron recognizes his daughter's distinctive handwriting, confirming the letter is truly from Maya. His eyes fall upon the letter's simple, heartbreaking address, to Father. Her desperate plea echoes from the page, begging to be freed from that place. In the letter's ghostly retelling, Maya confesses to her father that she cannot bear being near Maximilian any longer, due to his increasingly inappropriate advances and her fear of his unclear intentions. Her spectral hand touches the page as she pleads with him to listen and to stop telling her to simply endure it. His own internal reply from the past resurfaces. He coldly told her he couldn't give her what she wanted. Remembering her tearful face, he recalls telling her to abandon her dreams as she cried out for help. The Baron's face is a mask of anguish as the weight of his past inaction crashes down on him. Flinch, the Baron recoils as Isaac coldly asks if he knew about his daughter's suffering all along. As Isaac accuses him of knowing exactly what she was going through, the Baron shouts back in feigned disbelief. Isaac explains that for Maya to send a letter in secret, she would have had to pass by his annex. He reveals he saw her multiple times, envelope in hand, looking distressed as she walked past his balcony. Isaac describes the dark, twisted expression she wore, her anger evident in every step she took. He drops the devastating truth. Max followed her that day, caught her, and locked her up before killing her, leaving the Baron shattered. Grit, enraged by the revelation that Max covered up the murder, the Baron grabs Isaac's collar and screams in denial. The Baron furiously demands to know how Isaac has the letter if he wasn't the one who killed her. Isaac calmly states that he witnessed the murder and was forced to help clean up the aftermath. Push, he removes the Baron's hand, explaining Maya was already dead when he arrived, and all he could do was hide her letter. Standing before her portrait, Isaac says he waited for the right moment to reveal the truth, no matter the consequences. With a steady gaze, he declares to the Baron that this is that moment. Isaac directly accuses Maximilian Jufgenscholt of murdering the Baron's daughter, causing him to stare in horror. He twists the knife, reminding the Baron that Max is the very heir he has sworn loyalty to, and a tear escapes the old man's eye. Turning to leave, Isaac states that the next move now depends entirely on the Baron. The Baron lashes out, accusing Isaac of being no different from Max for hiding the truth for so long. Isaac accepts the blame, telling the Baron to resent him if it provides any comfort. He turns back, pointedly asking if the Baron truly doesn't understand why he is revealing this now. Isaac questions how a man responsible for a feudality could be unaware of the latest news, prompting the Baron to demand what he means. He reveals the critical news. The Duke has been unconscious for some time, shocking the Baron. Isaac lays out the inevitable conclusion. It's only a matter of time before Max makes his move for power. He poses a soul-crushing question to the Baron, asking if he could truly obey his daughter's murderer as his new lord. The question hangs in the air, forcing the Baron to confront the loyalty he owes versus the justice his daughter deserves. This scene shifts to the dark northern forests of the Yufgenschult estate, where Hoover leads Dahlia by lantern light. Dahlia asks how much farther they have to go, but Hoover curtly orders her to be silent. He questions why she thinks they're traveling at night, and she retorts that she is asking him the same thing. Dahlia recalls Isaac's orders to follow Hoover without question, just as he announces they have arrived. Whoosh! Dahlia looks up in surprise as a secluded log cabin is revealed in a clearing. Hoover informs a stunned Dahlia that the cabin will be her new home until Sir Isaac returns. Promising to fetch whatever she needs, he steps inside the rustic cabin and adds a crucial, final instruction. He points a finger at her, sternly forbidding her from stepping a single foot outside the door. Her eyes widen slightly as she quietly processes the strict and mysterious order. Hoover demands to know if he's made himself clear, and Dahlia obediently agrees. He notes her obedience as she gives a respectful curtsy, accepting her confinement. Dahlia calmly states she's fine anywhere as long as she can work and asks for sewing supplies. She offers a gentle, reassuring smile, seemingly at peace with the strange situation. Hoover lets out a short, disbelieving laugh at her unexpectedly calm demeanor. Back at the Obrick estate, the sun begins to set on the grand mansion. The Baron holds a portrait of Maya, tenderly calling her his daughter. Overcome with guilt, he apologizes and begs her not to forgive her wretched father. He looks down at her image, asking her spirit to grant him strength for what he must do. Squeeze! He clutches the frame, mistakenly vowing to destroy Isaac on her behalf, channeling his rage at the messenger. Viscount Obrick and his men walk with grim determination. Toot, a steam engine, pulls into the Vilpassen station. Aboard the train, Isaac and his aide are fast asleep. In a dream, Isaac leans in to kiss Dahlia amidst a field of roses. The dream continues as Dahlia smiles, invitingly whispering for him to come on. Press. Isaac wakes as his aide announces their arrival at Vilpassen. Isaac internally scolds himself for dreaming of Dahlia before a crucial meeting. He reassures himself that his plan is in motion. Viscount Obrick is en route, and Dahlia is safely hidden. With a determined look, he thinks that all that's left is to see it through. A man in a purple suit approaches, formally addressing Isaac as Sergeant Yufgenschult. He introduces himself as the aide to Marquise Zirektal. As the aide relays that his lord wishes to meet, Isaac's own aide whispers a warning to be careful. Isaac smiles coolly, thinking there's no reason to refuse, and calmly accepts the summons. Now inside a private carriage, Isaac sits opposite the blonde-haired Marquise Zirektal. Isaac offers a polite greeting to the Marquis. The Marquis, a stern-looking man with a mustache and red eyes, observes him silently. At the Herman estate, someone questions the unexpected arrival of Viscount Obrick. Maximilian Yufgenschult demands to know why the Viscount has arrived unannounced, while an aide admits the reason is unclear. Enraged, Maximilian berates his butler, who timidly explains that such matters are Sir Isaac's responsibility. Smirk, Maximilian scoffs at the mention of Sir Isaac. He sneers, realizing Isaac is away at the Vilpassen meeting, and predicts he will be publicly humiliated. Maximilian confidently orders the doors to be opened. Creak. The doors open, revealing a tense and surprised Maximilian. Inside, Viscount Obrick is seated at the head of a table, surrounded by stern-faced noblemen. Maximilian looks on in confusion at the assembled lords. He demands to know the meaning of this showy and unexpected setup. He directly confronts the Viscount, demanding an explanation. Holding up a letter, Viscount Obrick orders Maximilian to explain his daughter's death. Ha! Maximilian throws his head back and laughs maniacally. He dismisses the accusation as nonsense, claiming it was an accident and that he suspected Isaac. He trails off, admitting there was no evidence to prove his suspicions. Maximilian suddenly shifts, declaring he now has all the evidence he needs right there. Maximilian's advances have become more and more inappropriate and bold. Maximilian stands in stunned silence, unable to comprehend what's happening. Whoosh! He lunges for the letter, but Obrick holds it back, stating it proves Maximilian, not Isaac, is the culprit. Maximilian shouts that the letter is a forgery, but Obrick coldly confirms it was handwritten by Maya herself. In a sudden realization, it's revealed that Sergeant Isaac Yufgenschult delivered the letter. Maximilian recalls Isaac's activities in Cunningham, seething as he realizes the scoundrel orchestrated this entire confrontation. Grit, Maximilian clenches his jaw in fury while Obrick coolly asks, "So what?" Another lord asks Viscount Obrick what he wants, suggesting a retrial. Maximilian explodes with rage, shouting about his status as the heir to the dukedom. He furiously points at Obrick, yelling that his rank is higher than everyone else's. Ha! Obrik lets out a derisive laugh at the pathetic outburst. He asks Maximilian if he truly doesn't understand the situation, prompting a furious retort. The three approvals. A flashback explains that to be recognized, a claimant must receive approval from three entities. Surrounded by his peers, Obrik declares that no lord present would ever approve a murderer as the next duke. As Obrik emphasizes his point, Maximilian flinches away in fear. Obrik grabs Maximilian's collar, mocking his assumption that his title alone would secure his position. He delivers the final blow, promising to tell the duke everything upon his awakening, which will strip Maximilian of his title for good. Viscount Obrik dismisses Maximilian as a spoiled brat, coldly promising to make him pay in ways other than a retrial. Crash! A wine bottle shatters as Maximilian lets out a scream of pure rage. Huff! Panting with fury, Maximilian repeatedly vows to kill the Viscount. Grit! He clenches his jaw, consumed by his murderous rage. His furious command echoes through the night. Bring Dahlia Belor to me right now. Meanwhile, in her secluded cabin, Dahlia sits alone by candlelight as night falls. Fizz! Her last candle sputters out, plunging her into darkness. Clara notes that her candle is gone, and Hoover won't return until morning. Deciding to call it an early night. Crackle as she rests, the sound of crackling wood outside catches her attention. Whoosh! She sits up in bed, now fully alert to the strange sound. Clack, crack. She cautiously gets out of bed to investigate the noise. Whoosh. She throws open the cabin door to see a fire blazing in the distant forest. She stands at the edge of the woods, staring into the dark expanse. With a look of confusion, she wonders what is happening. The forest fire rages, its orange glow lighting up the night sky. Her eyes widen in panic as she screams Hoover's name. Grab! She snatches her cloak and prepares to flee. She runs desperately through the dark, overgrown forest. Elsewhere, a massive bonfire of furniture burns as someone yells for Hoover. Viscount Obrik orders Hoover to yell louder as part of their elaborate ruse. The Viscount commands his men to throw more furniture and books on the fire to make it look like the building is burning. Sigh, two men complain about the effort to find one maid, but resign themselves to following the Viscount's direct orders. One of the men kicks the beaten Maximilian, suggesting they burn the annex if Dahlia doesn't appear soon. As Hoover continues to shout his own name, Dahlia emerges from the woods, calling out to him in relief. Huff! She pants for breath, exhausted and scared from her run. Huff! A tear streaks down her face as she stares at the chaotic scene before her. Viscount's men stand over the battered and defeated Maximilian on the ground. Grab! Two guards seize Dahlia as the Viscount orders them to take her. He commands them to take her straight to his chambers as the camera pans up to the grand estate. The guards hold the terrified Dahlia as the Viscount repeats his order to take her away. Thud! She is thrown to the floor of a luxurious room as the guards announce her capture. Viscount Obrik asks his men why they took so long, and they explain she was hiding in the woods, leaving Dahlia utterly confused. Grab! The Viscount orders her to be brought closer, and the guards roughly grab her. Let go, she screams, struggling against their grip. Dahlia is held before the Viscount, powerless to escape. Grab! He roughly seizes her chin, condescendingly noting her face is slightly above average. He coldly orders his guards to leave them alone, and Dahlia's eyes widen in terror. In turn, he violently spins her around as she cries out in protest. Grab! She desperately clutches a guard's arm, begging him not to leave her. She pleads for help as the guard pulls his arm away. The Viscount stands menacingly behind her, raising his hand as the scene fades ominously. Grab! Back at the conference, Marquis Ziroctal shakes Isaac's hand. Marquis expresses his wish to speak more, but Isaac politely suggests arranging a formal meeting instead. Isaac smiles coolly, declining a longer stay by stating he has urgent matters to tend to at Herman. Back in the Viscount's chambers, Dahlia sobs, covering her face in shame. She sits broken on the floor, surrounded by shattered glass. The Viscount's hand grips her shoulder from off-screen. He pulls her away as she thinks to herself that, at the very least, she used to have her dignity. In a painful memory, she recalls crying at a humble table, knowing that despite being poor, her dignity was all she had. A man offers a quick way to make money, but she tells him to move. Pat, Pat! She recalls being harassed and looked down on, then a shining of defiance. Drip. A shirtless man with red eyes glares, blood dripping from his hand. Clutching a shard, she recalls surviving as a handmaiden while a hand grabs her throat. Cornered and terrified, the blonde-haired woman warns the shirtless man not to come any closer. She grabs a wine bottle in desperation as a sharp sound echoes her fear. Thud. She collapses to the floor, her long hair spilling around her. The assailant's hand clenches as he thinks that he wasn't planning on killing her. Dazed, she hears his threats to make her meet Maya's fate and begs for help. In her moment of crisis, She thinks of a gently smiling Isaac. Slam! A woman in a blue dress bursts in, yelling for Maximilian. She coldly orders Maximilian to let go, but he just scoffs at her. Looking over his shoulder, Maximilian smirks, asking if she is threatening him. He points an accusing finger, questioning her right to barge in with her maids. T.S.'s, he uncorks a bottle of perfume with a sinister smile. His eye widens in shock and pain after being sprayed. As Dahlia collapses with a cry, the red-haired woman orders Thelma to take her away. Maximilian clutches his face, screaming that his eyes are burning. The woman tells him to stop being dramatic, dismissing his pain as just perfume. She holds up the bottle, revealing it was made for just such an occasion. She asks if he wants to hear something interesting she learned, while creating the perfume with her servants. Click, clack, she explains her furniture hides quests to maim or kill and tells him to get himself together. Grit. Maximilian clenches his fist, his face contorted with rage. Squeeze. He furiously seizes the name Carla. Pow. He viciously punches a man who just appeared, sending him reeling. Thud. The man collapses, face down on the floor, unconscious. Huff, huff. The man who was punched is seen again, looking ragged as Carla watches in shock. Huff. The man pants heavily, his face bruised and his eyes filled with rage. Thud. He collapses as Carla rushes to his side, screaming for Hoover. The scene transitions to a peaceful view of the grand estate at dawn. Lying in bed with a bandaged head, Dahlia cries softly in her sleep. Carla watches over the sleeping Dahlia with a serious, unreadable expression. She gently wipes a tear from Dahlia's face, quietly urging her to wake up. Elsewhere, Isaac stands outdoors with a grim and concerned look on his face. He stares at the charred remains of the massive bonfire from the previous night. Dahlia wonders why she thought of Isaac's kind smile in that terrifying moment. She reflects that Sir Isaac is now Sergeant Jufgenschuld, an important advisor. As an accomplished secretary, he's busy maintaining his prestigious titles. She clutches her dress, realizing he doesn't have time to save a mere servant. Despite knowing this, she sadly wonders why she feels so upset. She recalls watching him from afar, surrounded by nobles and dignitaries. She remembers herself in her simple maid's uniform, a world away from his. A symbolic image shows her resolve to be sweet and cathartic amidst shattered glass. Her eyes open, revealing a clear and determined gaze. Carla sits by her bed, calmly informing her that she's finally awake. Dahlia weakly greets her as my lady, and Carla confirms she remembers her despite the head injury. Carla reassures her she's safe in her room, adding Max has been hiding ever since. While changing the bandage, Carla muses that he's probably too embarrassed to show his face. Dahlia tentatively asks why she was helped, and Carla repeats the question back to her. With a knowing smile, Carla asks if it's so strange, revealing she is Maximilian's twin. Carla explains her self-serving deal with Isaac. She protects Dahlia, and he gives her whatever she wants. Lying in bed, Dahlia confusedly asks about Sir Isaac, as Carla concludes her explanation. Carla directly asks Dahlia if she has feelings for him, causing her eyes to widen in shock. Carla watches her reaction with a knowing, gentle smile. As Dahlia hides, Carla admits that she too was once scared of Isaac. She warns that beneath his angelic exterior, a monster lurks, questioning why Dahlia would favor him. Peeking from the covers, Dahlia gently wipes a tear from her eye. Carla reasons that if Dahlia still cares for him, then her warnings will be meaningless. She looks out the window thoughtfully, admitting she just doesn't know anymore. Dahlia trails off, saying she doesn't know, as the sky outside glows with the dawn. The scene lingers on the treetops against the early morning sky. Elsewhere, Hoover approaches Isaac from behind, addressing him as Sir. Isaac, looking out at the grounds, asks if Maximilian was responsible. Hoover confirms it was Max and reports that Dahlia is safe in Carla's room, but hurt. Isaac's expression hardens as Hoover confirms that Dahlia was injured. He turns his head slightly, his face set with cold determination. Isaac gives a command. Find every last person who helped Maximilian. Hoover asks what he intends to do with them. Holding a small white piece, Isaac states that anyone still loyal to Max will be a future problem. Squeeze! He clenches his fist as Hoover reminds him he needs the Duchess's approval to fire staff. Isaac smirks, noting that rule only applies if the Duke is married. Hoover is left speechless by the chilling implication. Isaac tells Hoover to get ready, vowing to bring this all to an end. The scene shifts to the exterior of a grand chapel under a starry night sky. Inside, Viscount Obrick sits alone in the pews, deep in thought. He clasps his hands, beginning a solemn prayer. Back in her room, Isaac watches over the sleeping Dahlia, speaking of pain and the cries of the people. He continues his vow over the unconscious Dahlia, speaking of a night drenched with tears. His words conclude that the time for retribution has come as the gates of judgment open. A statue of a blind angel holds a sword and scales, with a book labeled Obrick as the vow concludes. Confess your sins to her. Isaac's gaze is resolute as he vows to make them answer for the sins they thought were forgotten. The scene transitions to a bright, clear sky, marking a new day. A grand estate is shown under the morning sun. Sunlight streams through a window of the mansion. Mumble, mumble. Inside a lavish room, empty wine bottles litter the floor. A drunk Maximilian lounges on a sofa, muttering that he just needs to get rid of Isaac. Hick! He glares resentfully into the empty room. Clack! A door opens as he drunkenly thinks of his father. A servant stands formally in the doorway, addressing Maximilian as Sir. He delivers stunning news. The Duke is awake. Blink! Maximilian's eyes widen in disbelief. He calls out for his father. As the servant explains, the Duke wishes to see him. Stumble! A suddenly sobered Maximilian scrambles to his feet with a hopeful grin. Hoover watches him with an expression of pure contempt. He tells Maximilian they will need to walk a ways. Hoover repeats his statement, preparing to lead Maximilian away. Hoover supports the stumbling Maximilian as they walk along a secluded forest path. Leaning heavily on Hoover, Maximilian weakly calls out for his father. From a distance, Isaac watches them with a cold, unyielding gaze. An unseen person finds the red-haired man, saying, "There you are, Max." Isaac stands by a tomb, asking Maximilian if this is his first time seeing Lady Obrick's grave. Turn! A startled Maximilian spins around to face Isaac. Slam! Isaac violently throws Maximilian to the ground. Squeeze! Maximilian's hands are bound as he struggles and demands to be released. Thud! He is left tied up on the forest floor. Maximilian looks up to see Isaac standing ominously over him. With a faint smile, Isaac asks if Maximilian recognizes him. Maximilian breathes Isaac's name in dawning horror as Isaac praises him for remembering. Isaac states he was worried Maximilian would be too drunk and needs his complete attention for their talk. Smirking, Isaac adds that there is little difference between Maximilian's full attention and his distraction. Maximilian looks up anxiously as Isaac wonders how much he'll truly understand. A sudden, horrified realization dawns on Maximilian's face. He furiously accuses Isaac of planning this all along, but Isaac calmly asks what he means. Maximilian screams that Isaac is trying to get rid of him to become the Duke. Sigh. Isaac listens patiently as Maximilian laments that his father raised Isaac without suspicion. Bang. A gunshot echoes in a stark, bloody vision. Maximilian gazes upward, his face cast in shadow. Hiss. A dark wisp of energy floats by as Maximilian looks on in shock. Isaac calmly holds up a revolver, his expression unreadable. Click! He cocks the gun, dismissing Maximilian's ducal ambitions as a misunderstanding. FWIP. Isaac spins the weapon, musing that he's always preferred things just right. He elaborates. The right amount of responsibility, inheritance, and power. Isaac coldly informs the bound Maximilian that he could have been Duke if he had just stayed quiet. FWIP. He aims the gun directly at Maximilian, stating his problems are none of his business. Bang! The bullet strikes the ground right beside Maximilian, who cries out in terror. Huff, huff, Maximilian pants, his face pale with fear. Isaac's eyes are cold as he reveals the true reason. Maximilian should never have touched Dahlia. Bang! Another shot rings out as Isaac recites the name Joanne Briley. Bang, bang, bang! More shots pepper the ground around Maximilian as Isaac lists more names. Vera McDowell and Maya Obrick. Whiz! A bullet grazes Maximilian's cheek, drawing blood as Isaac says Edina Jacques. Isaac asks if the names of the women he harassed are familiar, while a terrified Maximilian begs him to stop. As Maximilian pleads, Isaac coldly remarks that his victims probably begged him to stop too. Isaac's gaze darkens as he concludes his list of victims with Dahlia's name. Squeeze, Isaac tightens his grip on the gun, stating he has no desire to be a hero. Twirl, he expertly spins the revolver, deciding Maximilian needs a taste of his own medicine. He levels the gun, promising retribution before Maximilian dies. Maximilian stammers in disbelief, as Isaac calmly confirms his chilling promise. Wiggle, kick. Maximilian struggles against his bonds, pleading for his life as Isaac says he's been left with no choice. With a final now, Isaac shoots the ropes, freeing a panicked Maximilian. Screaming Isaac's name, Maximilian scrambles to his feet as Isaac and Hoover watch. Maximilian furiously demands to know who cares about those girls, and what Isaac expects him to do now. He proudly declares his own titles, Maximilian Jufgenschultz and Viscount of Hermann, as Isaac takes aim. He screams defiantly that Isaac is nothing compared to him. His rant continues as he stands near the angel statue atop the tomb. Stumble, he trips and falls backward over the stone sarcophagus. The wing of the stone angel looms over his fall. He lands with his head and neck bent at a sickening, unnatural angle. Crack. The sound of his neck breaking echoes as Isaac casually remarks, "Oops." Lying broken and bleeding at the foot of the grave, Maximilian's last thought is of Lady Obrick. With Maximilian's body at his feet, Isaac orders Hoover to wipe it clean. FWIP, he snatches up Maximilian's blood-red jacket. His boot comes down firmly on a rocky ledge. He stands poised at the cliff's edge, holding the jacket. A close-up reveals his cold, unyielding gaze. His expression shifts to one of deep concern. He watches the sleeping Dahlia, whispering her name. Standing over her bedside, he starts to voice his thoughts. He gently touches her face, regretting he couldn't come sooner. Gasp! Dahlia bolts awake from a nightmare, grabbing onto Isaac's hand as he calls her name in alarm. Huff! She pants heavily, still caught in the grip of her terror. Huff! Her hand trembles as it clutches his. He looks down at her with sorrow, offering a sincere apology. Holding her hand tightly, he takes the blame for her injuries. He lowers his head in guilt while sitting beside her. His thoughts turn murderous as he considers killing her attacker. To the sleeping Dahlia, he asks if she would understand his actions. He justifies it with a single thought. She is his. Leaning close, he confesses that she is the person he loves. His expression hardens with renewed resolve. Hoover now stands alone on the cliff, looking down at the scene. Thud. Elsewhere, the Duke lies still with his eyes closed. A single, sharp blue eye snaps open. Isaac and Hoover walk together through the estate's lush gardens. Hoover glances sideways at Isaac, his expression stern. A maid approaches and asks Isaac if he is searching for Thelma. Whisper, she leans in close to share a secret. Isaac asks who else knows, and she reveals it's only 2 servants. She confirms that not even the Duchess is aware of the situation. The maid and Hoover stand by, awaiting orders. Isaac gives the maid a serious task she must complete for him. The sky fades into a dusky, star-dusted evening. The Duke rests alone in a magnificent dark blue chamber. He lies in bed, his breathing shallow and labored. Isaac enters the room, stating that he heard his father asked for him. He addresses the Duke formally, then corrects himself to father. Sitting at the bedside, he questions if this meeting concerns the will. Noticing his father's struggle, Isaac offers to speak for him. A chilling smile plays on Isaac's lips. He coldly announces that Max is dead, causing his father's eyes to widen. Pat, he places a hand on the Duke's chest and admits to being the killer. The Duke's eye is wide with horror as Isaac promises he will soon follow. Isaac cruelly says he'll finally see Renee, whose memory his father tried to find in him. Clenching his fist, he reveals how infuriating that was, calling Renee a devil. With ice in his veins, he makes a final confession. He killed her too. His expression is one of absolute and unwavering conviction. The Duke gasps for air as Isaac berates him for his fickle kindness. He scoffs at his father's actions, calling him a hypocrite. He looks around the opulent room, remarking that his father has everything. Cough. Gag. As Isaac finishes speaking, the Duke begins to choke and gag violently. Ha! With a faint smile, Isaac muses that he now has someone who loves him. He leans back on the sofa, declaring that from now on, a gloved hand reaches for a wine glass. He is Duke Jufgenschultz. His declaration hangs in the air. From this point on, he is Duke Jufgenschultz. Elsewhere, Hoover stands beside Thelma, telling her there is something she must do for him. Nod, Hoover gives his orders, telling the man to go to Vilpausen and inform Marquis Zerachtal that it's time to make good on his promise. Isaac instructs Thelma to get the help ready without the Duchess finding out. He adds that when the doctor arrives, she is to bring all the servants to the room. Thelma and a bespectacled doctor look on with serious expressions. Kneeling beside the Duke's bed, Isaac bows his head in feigned grief. The doctor addresses Isaac as Sergeant, but Isaac silences him with a quiet hush. He announces that his father has finally found silence, adding that his suffering is over. With a somber expression, Isaac watches over the Duke's still form, mumble. The other servants gasp in dismay, one whispering, "Oh no." The doctor approaches the bed, asking to be allowed to take a look. Isaac stands up from the bedside. He discreetly wipes a tear from his eye as two maids watch with pity. Click! The doctor checks his pocket watch with a grave look. He announces to the assembled staff that Gehern Jufgenschuldt has died. The scene shifts to the exterior of a grand house under a colorful sky. Creak. A large wooden door opens into a sunlit room. Isaac stands alone in the now empty study, surrounded by scattered books. Plop, he collapses onto the wooden floor. Pat, his gloved hand rests on the floorboards as he takes in the silence. His gaze is sharp and shadowed with hidden thoughts. The scene shifts to a memory of Dahlia standing in a sun-drenched room as Isaac watches from a distance. Dahlia! He sits alone in the study, smiling as he calls her Dahlia Jufgenschuldt. He corrects himself, now calling her Duchess Dahlia. A doctor addresses Dahlia as Miss Belore, encouraging her to try walking slowly. He asks if she feels dizzy, and she confirms that she does not. The doctor declares that she is well enough to return to her usual life. Dahlia and Thelma share a warm, relieved smile while holding hands. As Thelma brushes her hair, she tells Dahlia things are about to get busy. Dahlia asks what she means, and Thelma explains there's a big matter for the estate to attend to. Dahlia assumes it's the funeral and says she should attend, but Thelma quickly dismisses the idea. Dahlia insists, pleading with her eyes. Thelma looks concerned, asking how she can say that after all she has endured. Dahlia looks down with quiet determination. Clenching her fist, she states that it's for her own sake. She explains she doesn't want regrets and wishes to be respectful until the very end. Thelma listens with a stern expression. Thelma clarifies she isn't talking about a funeral, as preparations are over and people want to move past the uncertain death. A stone cross stands tall against a bright, cloudy sky. As Thelma puts her hair up, Dahlia asks what the event is. Thelma simply replies that there is just one important thing left. The scene transitions to a grand cathedral under a purple and pink sky. Inside, key figures have gathered. Duchess Irmina Jufgenschuldt, Lady Carla Jufgenschuldt, and other relatives. High-ranking officials of the Jufgenschuldt dukedom stand together with grim expressions. The Solomons, identified as the Duchess's family, make their appearance. Sir Isaac Jufgenschuldt stands coolly to the side. A woman with reddish-brown hair, concealed by a veil, makes a simple statement. In a grand hall, families dressed in black gather for a solemn occasion. A red-haired woman asserts that her son, Max, was the sole heir to the dukedom. A mustached nobleman addresses the assembly, noting they no longer have a designated heir. He proposes they follow customs and choose from the Jufgenschuldt bloodline, to which the red-haired woman agrees, vowing to select a suitable candidate herself. She declares that her family, the Solomons, will rule by proxy until the new heir is trained, but her plan is immediately met with an angry outburst. A man named Baron Dathern argues the Solomons lack the rank to rule, only to be told to watch his tongue. The red-haired woman challenges the Baron for a better suggestion, while two men nearby clear their throats nervously. An older nobleman with light reddish-brown hair steps forward, confidently stating that he has a suggestion. A man with pale orange hair begins to speak, proposing to consider the son of the late Duke. He continues, revealing there is another candidate who fits the criteria. The room ripples with shock at the implication of his words. Sergeant Isaac Jufgenschuldt. The red-haired woman explodes with rage, demanding to know what was just said. She furiously accuses Baron Obrick of joking about the heir, but he stands firm. She then challenges him on Isaac's questionable origins. She scoffs at the idea of a bastard child becoming the Duke. The woman and another lady decry the suggestion as a disgrace to the family legacy, but they are silenced. Ancest Newitt stands to defend Isaac, stating his loyalty is proven and that they are disgracing him. Count Ancest Newitt passionately argues that times are changing and power should go to the capable, formally introducing himself to the assembly. He then declares his official intention to support Sergeant Jufgenschuldt as the next Duke. Three other noblemen rise in unison, voicing their agreement. As others murmur in agreement, the red-haired woman lets out a dismissive laugh. FWIP, she snaps open a fan, smugly stating their support is useless. She explains that the royal family, the Jufgenschuldt family, and the knights must all agree before anyone can assume the title of Duke. FWIP, snapping her fan shut, she confidently declares that neither the family nor the royals will ever support Isaac. The veiled woman with reddish-brown hair, accompanied by two masked men, stands and voices her agreement. Her determined blue eyes shine from behind her veil. The red-haired woman is left completely stunned by this unexpected betrayal. She shouts the veiled woman's name, Carla, who calmly offers to state her declaration in full. Carla Jufgenschuldt begins her formal statement as part of the direct bloodline, but her furious mother demands to know what she is doing. Grabbing her daughter, she asks what Isaac said to her, but Carla calmly explains she is being realistic for everyone's benefit. As her mother stands speechless, a nobleman whispers to another, questioning how they will get the crown's approval. Creak, the massive doors at the end of the hall begin to swing open. Slam, a figure silhouetted against the light makes a dramatic entrance, causing someone to gasp. A blonde-haired man with a mustache and striking red eyes smiles, apologizing for his tardiness. The nobles are shocked to see Marquis Ziraktali, who announces he has brought a gift for them. He holds up a golden envelope, bearing a prominent wax seal. The glowing seal of the crown is recognized with a collective gasp from the room. A woman denies what she's seeing, but another confirms that it is indeed the royal seal. The Marquis reveals the letter is a direct command from the crown regarding the new heir. He announces the message is addressed to Sergeant Isaac Jufgenschult. Stand, Isaac rises to receive the decree as others stand in deference. The royal message is passed from one gloved hand to another. Holding the decree, Isaac declares that this fulfills all the necessary conditions. He turns to his shocked mother, addressing her directly and leaving her speechless. Framed by golden flowers, Isaac smiles. Confident in his victory, he holds the royal decree, humbly acknowledging his own youth and inexperience. Standing beside the Marquis, he asks for everyone's continued support to ensure the family and dukedom thrive. In a grand hall, a woman walks down the aisle as a final thought lingers, hoping for compassionate oversight. The scene shifts to a bright, sunny day at an elegant estate with a grand fountain. A woman with reddish-brown hair and a parasol states that she kept her word. She reminds Sir Isaac of his promise, and he confirms it has already been handled. Surprised, she learns he sent a direct message from the Duke, which she knows will be undeniable. She holds her parasol, her expression unreadable as she gazes forward. A close-up reveals her intense and determined blue eye. Isaac notes her lack of excitement and asks why she isn't happier. She worries her mother will become hysterical and try to marry her off, but Isaac dismisses her concern. He looks at her intently, reassuringly stating, "You have me." She stares back at him, stunned into silence by his words. He offers to help her avoid marriage, but she finds his sudden kindness unsettling and tells him to stop. He smiles, clarifying he has no intention of being cold and knows what she'll ask for next. She's taken aback when he claims to know the pain of being separated from a loved one. He gives her a gentle, knowing smile. She internally wonders if the maid's influence is the cause of his sudden change. Her thoughts continue, questioning what the future now holds for that maid. Isaac cryptically tells her it's not her marriage her mother will be busy with. A look of dawning realization crosses her face as Isaac confirms her unspoken question. With a smirk, he declares that the upcoming marriage is his. She looks at him, asking if he is truly okay with that decision. Striding down a hallway, he states that he doesn't care. The ultimate decision is his. Click, a door opens into a lavishly decorated room. He finishes his thought, revealing he has only one person in mind. A close-up focuses on the intricate pin on his cravat. In another room, a smiling blonde-haired woman is framed by a beautiful array of flowers. Sir Isaac gazes fondly in her direction. The blonde-haired woman sits peacefully in a grand chair. Surrounded by flowers, her gentle smile lights up her face. Later, Thelma styles the blonde-haired woman's hair, who asks why she's doing it. Thelma calmly replies that she is following Sir Isaac's orders. Surprised, the woman learns she must also change and switch rooms, questioning Isaac's motives. It's announced that the Duke has granted her the title of Baroness. She looks utterly stunned by the sudden news. Thelma confirms it, addressing her as Dahlia and welcoming her to the nobility. Thelma formally introduces herself and pledges her service to Lady Belore, shocking Dahlia. Thelma explains 5 handmaidens have been assigned to her, but Dahlia begs her to stop as a knock sounds at the door. A maid enters addressing Lady Belore, prompting Thelma to correct her with her own name. 2 maids present new clothes as Dahlia reels from being called Lady. Thelma instructs the maids to display the clothes for Dahlia, who pleads with her to stop. Confused, Dahlia says only the Duke can grant titles, which Thelma confirms is correct. Dahlia demands to know how Isaac could do it, only to be told the Duke has passed away. She stands in quiet shock, processing the devastating news. Nod. As Dahlia asks to wait a moment, Thelma silently confirms her suspicions. Dahlia realizes the stunning truth. Sir Isaac will become the next Duke. She reflects on all the suffering he endured and realizes he will now be master of the house. Clasping her hands, she thinks thankfully that this is a wonderful turn of events. Her joy is cut short as a new, troubling thought begins to form. Seen from outside, Dahlia stands in her new room, surrounded by her new attendants. Isaac smiles softly, thinking of Dahlia and what she will say. Isaac asks Dahlia if she likes her new room, and she nervously corrects herself from sir to master. He offers her a gentle, knowing smile. Stepping closer, Isaac holds her arms and compliments her dress. FWIP as he reaches for her face, saying it's just as he imagined, she flinches away. Her wide green eye reveals her surprise and a faint blush. He casually asks what she did today, to which she replies, nothing much. Now seated on a sofa, she explains she read and wrote a letter, piquing his curiosity. She reveals the letter was to her little sister, and he immediately asks about her health. Dahlia smiles, saying her sister is doing well now that it isn't winter, and Isaac agrees. He then suggests her sister should come live with them, leaving Dahlia stunned. He explains she can't get proper treatment where she is, and would benefit from being here. With a confident smile, Isaac declares that arranging such things is easy for him now. Slip, he takes her hand as she flinches, promising to do anything for her if she just asks. He tells her she no longer needs to work, acknowledging how tiring it must be. As he asks for her thoughts on his offers, she remains completely silent. Dahlia reflects on Isaac becoming the Duke, and all the grand gifts suddenly showered upon her, initially assuming it was a reward for her care. Later, surrounded by maids, Dahlia voices her discomfort with a new dress, disliking how much it reveals. A smiling maid enthusiastically reassures her. The maid thinks that the revealing dress will make Sir Isaac like it more, a thought which clearly unsettles Dahlia. Her mind races with cautionary tales of other women who got involved with nobles, making her question the maid's true meaning. She realizes with dawning horror that this isn't simple kindness, and that her fears are not just in her head. Looking at Isaac, her troubling thought solidifies. He is treating her like his mistress. She feels a pang of sadness, unable to enjoy being courted by the man she likes under these circumstances. Dahlia gently pulls her hand from his grasp, insisting she can handle things herself. He asks about her ceremony tomorrow, offering to help with anything she might need. Surprised by her offer, Isaac looks at her with a curious smile, his shadow looming behind him. He takes her hand once more, pulling her to her feet. Step, step, step. He leads a hesitant Dahlia away from the sofa. Done, a wave of shock hits her as she realizes where they are going. He leads her toward the large, ornate canopy bed. With a sudden pull, he yanks her forward as she cries out in alarm. Flop, they fall back onto the bed in a shower of golden flowers. Isaac lies back, looking completely at ease. Tap, he gently touches her nose and suggests they get food after they wake up. She lets out a small gasp, surprised by his casual intimacy. Lying beside him in the moonlit room, Dahlia stares at the ceiling, wide awake. Isaac rests peacefully, his eyes closed in sleep. Tap, she cautiously reaches out to touch the faint scar on his cheek. She whispers to him, "My lord," quietly asking if he's asleep. Leaning closer, she repeats her question, wondering if he is truly unconscious. She gazes at his sleeping face and finds the sight fascinating. She muses that while he's grown up, she can still see the boy she first met in his features. Lost in thought, she admires how beautiful he still is. A memory surfaces of her younger self watching over a younger Isaac from a rooftop. Another memory plays of them holding hands, learning to dance together. She recalls watching him ascend a grand staircase, realizing he had risen to a high place far from her. The memory shifts to his perspective, looking down at her from the top of the stairs. His thoughts from that time reveal he knew her wishes had come true, yet he felt there was more to it. Back in the present, a thoughtful smile graces Isaac's face. Dahlia, surrounded by pink flowers, thinks to herself that despite her wishes coming true, she now finds herself making new ones. His memory drifts to a tender moment, fearing she will belong to someone else. Squeeze, his eyes clench shut as a single thought screams, "No!" Dahlia turns away, her expression hardening with resolve. As Isaac sleeps, Dahlia gently touches his cheek, asking if he's truly asleep before she acts. Blushing, she looks at his sleeping face and confirms her hopes with a whisper. Surrounded by glowing blue flowers, she leans in and kisses him. Flustered, she stammers an apology, but he simply tells her to call him Isaac. Her wide green eye reflects his face as he moves impossibly close. He presses her down onto the grand, moonlit bed. He pulls back from a deep kiss, their lips barely parted. MMPH. He kisses her again as she weakly protests. Ha. He breathes her name, Dahlia, his voice filled with passion. Huff. She pants, blushing deeply as his hand caresses her face. Lean as he moves to kiss her again, she frantically calls his name and pushes him away. Pressing her hands against his chest, she desperately tells him, "You can't." He pauses, looking down at her with a hint of confusion. A faint, knowing smile plays on his lips. Kiss, he gently touches his lips to her forehead, telling her to relax. Holding her hand, he promises not to force her, but hints at a condition. His grip tightens as he warns that his patience has its limits. He declares that if she makes this mistake again, he will see it to the end. Her eyes widen in confusion as she questions the meaning of the end. Knock knock. An attendant named Hoover interrupts, and Isaac tells him to wait outside. He rises from the bed, leaving Dahlia to lie there alone. Staring at the ceiling, she echoes his ominous words in her thoughts. In silhouette, a man and woman stand apart before the imposing ducal mansion. Lying in bed, Dahlia wonders if he would truly be okay with her proposal. The ornate canopy bed seems vast and empty with her lying alone. She finishes her thought asking herself if he would mind having her as his lover. Step, 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 as Hoover reports Marquis Zerektal's sudden departure, Isaac wonders what he's up to. Step? Isaac intercepts the Marquis near a large window, questioning his late departure. Rumble, the Marquis turns, formally addressing Isaac as the new Duke Jufgenschult. The Marquis coolly states his business is concluded and he must move on. Isaac offers a simple, stoic acknowledgement. When Isaac questions his early departure, the Marquis tells him not to worry. He vaguely implies his absence won't change anything. Isaac formally wishes him safe travels. Pause. Just as he's about to leave, the Marquis stops. From the grand staircase, he asks Isaac an unexpected question about his engagement status. Confused, Isaac asks where this line of questioning is coming from. The Marquis bluntly suggests Isaac marry Elise Zerektal. He clarifies pointedly that Elise is his daughter. Isaac is stunned into silence by the audacious proposal. His eyes widen in sudden, dawning comprehension of the Marquis' true intentions. A notice reveals that the cost of the royal document has already been paid. Isaac realizes the Marquis was never interested in money, but something far more valuable. He understands the Marquis wants control of the dukedom, but Isaac vows to protect his marriage, the very reason he became Duke. Rumble. The Marquis calls the situation abrupt. He advises Isaac not to leave the position of Duchess vacant for long. The Marquis insists Isaac will become untouchable as his son-in-law. His voice echoes through a grand hall, reminding Isaac of his need for power. Marquis formally invites him to learn under his tutelage, but Isaac remains impassive. With a polite smile, Isaac humbly declines, stating he is unworthy of the Marquis' daughter. The Marquis scoffs, declaring that as Duke Jufgenschult, Isaac is more than worthy. Isaac coolly asks if the document from the crown can be rescinded. The Marquis reveals he was the one who issued the document and can therefore take it away. Smirk, he dismisses Isaac's concerns as useless. Isaac realizes he's being blackmailed, noting how cunning the Marquis is for leaving him no room to refuse. Grit, he clenches his teeth, trapped by the man's scheme. Clenching his fist, his thoughts turn to the one person who matters, Dahlia. A memory of a joyful Dahlia appears, sharing that attending events with someone she adores is every woman's dream. Her bright, happy smile fills his memory. He laments the cruel twist of fate. To marry Dahlia, he must first marry Elise Zerektal. The Marquis presses for an answer, as Isaac's expression hardens with silent resolve. Isaac bows his head gracefully, accepting the undeserved offer with gratitude. The Marquis laughs, delighted that his plan has succeeded. The Marquis proposes announcing the engagement at the ceremony, and Isaac quietly agrees. Urging a quick wedding, the Marquis seals the deal with a handshake. Rumble, Isaac agrees to his wishes with a stoic expression. Overhearing the conversation, Hoover cries out in shock at the news of an engagement. Isaac confirms the news, but orders him to keep it quiet among the staff. He gives a final firm order. He does not want Dahlia to know. Alone, Isaac scoffs, determined to prevent the marriage from ever happening. Squeeze, he clenches his hand, vowing to find a way out of the engagement. He resolves to become untouchable once he is formally named Duke. His hands clasped together, a picture of quiet determination. As his thoughts race, Hoover flinches when Isaac suddenly lurches forward in his seat. FWIP. Isaac quickly stands up, his decision made. He reaffirms his plan, deciding it will be fine as long as Dahlia remains unaware. Gripping the balcony railing, he vows to handle the entire situation himself. Elsewhere, a maid finds Dahlia sewing and scolds her for doing such work. Snatch. The maid takes the sewing from Dahlia, warning they'll be in trouble if she's seen. Thud. The maid drops a stack of books, telling Dahlia to read instead of work. The maid carelessly calls her the master's lover, leaving Dahlia stunned and demanding to know what she said. Slam. The maid flees the room, leaving Dahlia alone with the hurtful words. Her resolve crumbles as she collapses onto a sofa in despair. In a surreal vision, she feels trapped and judged, questioning her purpose in the mansion. A familiar voice calls her name, and she sees Thelma looking down with concern. Recognizing the maid, Dahlia listens as Thelma asks if she's unwell. Thelma watches her closely, waiting for a response. Dahlia looks up with pleading eyes, asking Thelma to treat her as she did before. She begs her silently as Thelma looks on. Conflicted, with quiet desperation, she repeats her plea to be treated normally again. Her thoughts drift over a lavish feast, admitting she considered indulging in her new life. She compares herself to a herbivore unable to become a carnivore, feeling utterly out of place. She reflects on the simple things, like her dislike of drinking. Lost in thought, she recalls how she only has eyes for Isaac, and how she felt too guilty to waste the decadent sweets provided for her. Her true desires are revealed. She wishes to work, to clean, to feel useful. Her deepest wish is to feel the satisfying ache of a hard day's labor and fall into bed exhausted. Framed pictures of various flowers hang on a patterned wall. A magenta-haired woman in a maid's uniform reflects on how Adina never received help from her family. An ornate, gilded frame captures the image of a noble lady from behind. Standing small in a grand hall, Dahlia looks at the portrait, thinking life is impossible without the master. Clutching a small picture frame, Dahlia feels her existence is being squashed with each passing day. A hand pours dark tea from an elegant, white and gold teapot into a matching cup. Thelma offers a cup of tea to Dahlia. Dahlia, now wearing a yellow gown, sits with a somber expression. Her green eyes are wide with worry and sadness. Flinch, Dahlia is startled when a voice calls her name, prompting Thelma to quickly ask for confirmation. In the lavish room, Thelma asks Dahlia if she's all right, and Dahlia quietly says she is. Thelma offers to touch up her makeup, insisting the master can't see her looking unwell, and Dahlia forces a weak laugh. Holding her teacup, Dahlia musters a faint, determined smile. Clack! She sets the cup down, telling Thelma she can't continue like this, and will speak to the Duke herself. With newfound resolve, she announces her intention to be reinstated as a maid. While Thelma doubts he will allow it, Dahlia confirms she has already planned what to say. She asks Thelma to notify her as soon as Isaac returns. Slip. Thelma gently takes Dahlia's hand in a comforting gesture. Dahlia looks up in surprise as Thelma nods, promising to come and get her. A grateful smile spreads across Dahlia's face. Under a starry sky, a grand carriage waits outside the ducal mansion. Clack, Isaac steps out of the carriage. He gazes up at the brightly lit mansion upon his return. Two maids gossip in a grand hallway, revealing that the Duke is engaged to marry Elise Zirichtal. The maids whisper cattily that it's too bad for the maid mistress, who is now fated to rot alone in her room. Through a window, Dahlia sits alone, looking like a ghost in her own room. As the maids crassly regret not trying to seduce Isaac, an enraged Thelma appears and shouts at them. Step. Thelma approaches the gossiping maids, sternly reminding them she's warned them to be discreet and threatening to report them. Thelma sharply orders the two maids back to their rooms. Sigh, she lets out a weary breath after they've gone. She gasps, startled to see Dahlia standing just behind a nearby pillar. Dahlia steps forward, her face pale, and asks a stunned Thelma if the rumor is true. Surrounded by a vision of blue flowers, Dahlia asks with unnerving calm if he is really engaged. Grit. Thelma clenches her jaw in silent anguish. Thelma apologizes, explaining the Duke ordered everyone to keep it a secret, and Dahlia grimly accepts that it's true. As Thelma calls her name with concern, Dahlia turns away, insisting that it's all right. She forces a smile, claiming the engagement has nothing to do with her, which leaves Thelma speechless. Thelma finds it bizarre that he would marry another after everything, but Dahlia simply looks down. Dahlia acknowledges that she understands why people would gossip that she seduced him, causing Thelma to cry out her name in protest. Waving a dismissive hand, Dahlia reassures her that it's okay, as she's used to such rumors. She explains that she could always endure the gossip before. Recalling how Isaac always had her back, she admits she felt safe knowing he would protect her from slander. Gazing into the distance, she resigns herself to the idea that they simply wanted different things in the end. Thelma looks on with a pained and worried expression. Grab. Thelma takes her arm, suggesting she rest, but Dahlia politely refuses. Squeeze. Dahlia clenches her hands together, stating she wants to go see him now. Her face set with determination. She says she fears her resolve will weaken if she waits any longer. Thud. As the grand doors open, she stands before Isaac and formally addresses him as Your Grace. Isaac greets her with a confident smile, saying her name, Dahlia. Isaac greets her warmly, saying her name. He explains his late arrival, but she notes his prolonged absence. Lean, he moves closer, and she asks if he missed her. Her green eyes watch him with a serious, unreadable expression. Closing her eyes with a faint smile, she quietly confirms that he did. As he rests in her lap, she asks about his day, and he mentions a woman named Carla sped things along. Dahlia inquires about Lady Carla, and Isaac calls her ruthless. As he praises Carla's management skills, Dahlia quietly listens. Dahlia internally acknowledges that such skill is admirable. She touches his face, announcing that she has a favor to ask. Jolt, he sits up instantly, promising to do anything for her. Dahlia calmly requests to be a maid again. Her expression is resolute as she awaits his answer. Confused, Isaac asks why she would want to work instead of relaxing, but she insists she wishes to. He assumes she's thinking of her sister and offers to bring her to the mansion. Slip, he takes her hand, suggesting they can live together in the remodeled annex. As he details his renovation plans, Dahlia firmly interrupts him. She confronts him directly, stating she heard he is engaged. Isaac's pleasant expression vanishes into a grim line. Squeeze! He grips her hand tighter, asking who told her. With knowing eyes, Dahlia notes that he doesn't deny it. Isaac quickly tries to explain that the engagement isn't what she thinks. He admits he ordered the staff to keep it secret to avoid any misunderstanding. He looks at her desperately, swearing that he is telling the truth. Rise, Dahlia stands to leave as he calls out her name. He stands before her, pleading for her to believe him. Isaac confesses his love, declaring she is the only one he wants as his duchess. He reveals his plan to get rid of his fiancée, but Dahlia remains unmoved. Before he can promise to make her his wife, she cuts him off. Dahlia firmly tells him that he cannot do that. She reminds him of his duty as duke to marry a proper noblewoman. She begs him to stop giving her false hope for an impossible future. Crying out, she asks how she could ever marry him, leaving him stunned. She gently cups his face, reassuring him that it's all right. She clarifies she isn't blaming him, but insists their situation cannot continue. Slip, she pulls her hand away, warning him of the scandal their relationship would cause his future wife. Isaac dismisses the servants' gossip, claiming he doesn't care what they think. Dahlia rejects his sentiment, stating she doesn't want to be misunderstood or idle. Her confession hits him hard. I am not happy. Isaac's world glitches as he reels from her shocking words. As he struggles to comprehend, she looks away from him. Squeeze! She clutches her hands, reminding him that every good thing has a price. She declares her service is the only thing she has to offer him. She knows, however, that even that won't be enough. Dahlia confronts him with the truth. She is not his mistress. Step he approaches in disbelief as she announces her return to the servants' quarters. She also requests that Thelma be reinstated to her former position. He turns away, coldly asking what she'll do if he refuses. She declares that her status as a maid doesn't give him the right to control her. Her eyes burn with defiance as she prepares to state her ultimatum. Isaac stands alone in the vast room after her departure. Covering his mouth in thought, he grimly accepts her decision, telling her to do as she pleases. As Dahlia walks away, she internally apologizes for only doing things her way. She stops before the grand doors and gives a formal bow. Pause. Her hand hesitates on the door as Isaac's voice calls her name one last time. He tells her he never once thought of her as his mistress. She quietly acknowledges his words, saying she knows. Isaac touches the blue gem at his throat, a faint, sad smile on his lips. The scene flashes to Dahlia, now holding a sword with a severe expression, asking if he has anything to say. Turned, she faces him from the doorway, ready to deliver her final words. Her face shadowed, she tells him he has always been like a younger brother to her. As she declares he was nothing more or less, Isaac stares back in utter shock. Creak. With the doors now open, she leaves him standing alone in the hallway. Slam, the door shut with finality. Plop. Isaac sinks into his chair, utterly defeated. Hiding his face, he whispers in disbelief that it can't be true. He tries to rationalize her words, believing she only said it to sever ties because of his engagement. He resolves to treat her with sincerity and prove he can cancel the engagement. He lets out a determined breath, a plan forming behind his eyes. He imagines a role reversal, picturing a noble Dahlia betrothed to another man while he serves as her butler. Squeeze, he clenches his fist, realizing that in that situation, he would kill everyone, and then himself. Sigh, he buries his face in his hand, overwhelmed by his violent thoughts. A ghostly hand appears, caressing his hair as a voice asks, "See?" A vision of a woman with long, reddish-brown hair stands behind him, taunting that Dahlia was ready to leave him. Smirk, the apparition smiles as Isaac weakly tells her to shut up. She leans over him, pityingly asking if he still doesn't understand. The ghostly woman whispers the cruel truth. You are incapable of being loved. Grit, he clenches his teeth as she adds that he can't be loved by anyone. He furiously swipes his arm, screaming for her to shut up as glass shatters around him. Huff, he pants heavily, his face a mask of rage and despair. Stumble, he leans on the chair, desperately trying to deny her words, insisting he knows the real Dahlia. A dark, chilling smile spreads across his face as his sanity begins to fray. He falls to his knees amidst the debris, sobbing and begging Dahlia to like him. This scene shifts to Dahlia's determined green eyes. Lying in her lavish bed, she stares at the ceiling and declares that this is the end. She resolves to move to the servants' quarters tomorrow, hoping Thelma's presence will make the transition easier. Her mind replays the memory of Isaac, asking if she had anything else to say. She answers the memory in her thoughts, telling herself she'll be okay and will forget in time. Curled up in the large, lonely bed, she scolds herself to stop being dramatic and not to cry. A memory surfaces of a happier time in a garden, where she muses how ironic it is that they were happiest when he was an outcast and she a maid. Gazing at a portrait of her former self, she wonders if things would be different had she been more materialistic. She recalls a past moment with a young, dejected Isaac, knowing that a prideful version of herself would have abandoned him long ago. In a symbolic vision, she and Isaac stand on opposite sides of a line drawn between them in the grass. Her expression is firm, as she accepts that they must both fulfill their respective duties. Slam, her mind conjures the image of a cell door closing, trapping her inside. A large hand, representing Isaac's, grips the bars, caging her in. Her eyes widen as she looks back through the bars, trapped. She awakens to see Isaac looking down at her with a chillingly calm expression, and she quietly calls his name. Gasp! Her eyes fly open in terror. Huff. She sits up in bed, panting heavily, realizing it was all just a terrible nightmare. Waking in a lavish, sunlit room, a confused Dahlia sits up in bed. Realizing it's not her room, she hears Isaac's voice telling her to sleep more. She turns to see Isaac standing by the door with a serious expression. He looks at her with concern, remarking that her head must hurt. Dahlia stares back at him, her expression wary and unsettled. Addressing him as Sir Isaac, she listens as he bows and asks for her forgiveness. Clack, he places a potion vial down, admitting he used it to bring her here asleep. Stumble, she tries to rise, but falters as he tells her the potion's effects will linger. Her green eyes widen in shock and dawning horror. Now standing, she gazes silently out the grand window. His hand gently touches her neck from behind as he explains he's been thinking. He holds her shoulder, deciding that they simply need more time together. FWIP, he turns her to face him, asking her to wait for him to resolve things. Clunk, clunk. She finds the door locked as he offers the assistance of Thelma and Hoover. Clunk. The sound of the lock echoes her despair as he mentions sending her money. Turning from the door, she desperately pleads with him not to do this. She retorts that he took the words from her mouth, but he reminds her of a promise they made. He looks at her intensely, his hand on his jeweled cravat, reiterating their promise. She looks back, completely bewildered, and asks what promise he's talking about. Don't you remember? He asks, gesturing softly. He reminds her of Carla's engagement day, when she admired the wedding dress. Holding her chin, he recounts his promise to propose and her vow to accept, even without a dress. Her mouth falls open in stunned protest, but she's cut off. With a soft smile, he confesses that her words are what have kept him going. He drapes a white cloak over her shoulders as she looks on in shock. He holds her tightly, questioning how she could ask him to leave after everything, while she begs to be let go. Embracing her from behind, he whispers that his birthday is almost here. Floppy sits her down in a chair, stating he will soon be of age. He leans in close, his shadowed face filled with grim determination. Scrit, scrit. The scene shifts to Isaac, now with dark blue hair, writing diligently at his desk. FWIP, scrit. He closes a book with a stern, focused gaze. Slam! The doors fly open to reveal a furious Carla in a red uniform. She stares in disbelief, demanding to know if he's out of his mind. Isaac calmly tells Carla to be more specific, chiding her for playing dumb. She angrily recounts seeing guards abduct a girl from the annex, which she now knows was his favorite maid's room. He looks up coolly, asking what her point is. Leaning over his desk, Carla bluntly tells him he's lost his mind. She fumes that she assumed he had ended things with Dahlia after hearing of his engagement to Elise Zirichtal. She questions his recklessness, but he coldly tells her to mind her own business. Carla reminds him of his duties as a duke, but he closes his eyes wearily. He glares at her, angrily asking if she thinks he enjoys any of this. He laments that Dahlia now looks at him as if he were a monster. As Carla tries to reason with him, Isaac insists that if he doesn't proceed, Dahlia will suffer. Slump. He collapses onto his desk in despair, covering his face. Carla reminds him of how desperately she fought to escape her own arranged marriage. Recalling her past, she explains she did it all because there was someone else she wanted to be with. He looks up, remembering he told her he understood her feelings back then. Rattled, he stands up in a rage, demanding to know how she dares to speak to him this way. Looking out at the estate, Isaac declares he will marry Dahlia. His hand reaches out, as if grasping for the distant future he envisions. He convinces himself that Dahlia just needs time to accept their fate. A troubled, red-haired man declares with grim determination that the two of them will be happy. Isaac states with cold resolve that she doesn't need to do a thing. The scene shifts to Dahlia, slumped over a table in a lavish, lonely room. Utterly defeated, she lies still, her face hidden in her arms. Rattle, rattle, a sound echoes through the quiet room. Clack. The sound of a locked door confirms her imprisonment. An unseen voice calls her name, trying to rouse her from her despair. Dahlia looks up to see Thelma standing before her with a somber expression. Thelma's face is a mask of pity and concern. Pointing to an untouched meal, she asks if Dahlia has refused to eat again. Thelma warns that starving is no escape, while Dahlia weakly apologizes. Dahlia confesses she's too distraught to eat, fearing she'll just throw it up. Thelma offers a glimmer of hope, revealing she has a letter from Dahlia's sister. Dahlia's eyes widen in surprise at the news. FWIP, Thelma uses the letter from Laurel as leverage, asking her to eat in exchange for reading it. Dahlia's gaze hardens with a flicker of renewed will. Clack, Thelma sets the food tray down before her. As Dahlia finally begins reading the letter, Thelma quietly serves her meal. Thelma smiles gently, noting that the letter says her sister's health is improving. Dahlia smiles fondly at the news, remarking how much her sister has grown. Her smile fades as the grim reality of her situation sets back in. Holding the letter, she wonders how she can explain her imprisonment to her sister. Thud. The heavy doors close as Thelma departs, leaving Dahlia under the watch of two guards. Rattle, clack, a symbolic vision shows Thelma herself chained to a chair. Walking away, Thelma thinks back on her hope that Master Isaac was different. She recalls how she rallied the other servants to support his ascension to power. Her thoughts turn bitter, condemning him for getting engaged and imprisoning Dahlia. Looking toward the annex, she begins to believe all nobles are just the same. Her expression firms as she resolves that she cannot let things continue like this. A new day begins in a different, sun-drenched room. Jolt, Carla sits up in bed with a startled expression. Shake, shake, she urgently tries to wake Hoover, telling him to get dressed. Elsewhere, Thelma asks a butler if he's seen Mr. Hoover, only to learn he's looking for Lady Carla. Clack, the doors swing open to reveal Carla standing there. With a sly smile, she coolly asks the two servants what the matter is. Thud, sigh, she closes the door behind her with a weary sigh. Ahem, she clears her throat, her face flushed with embarrassment. The red-haired Hoover is revealed, looking serious as he adjusts his shirt. Carla questions Hoover about his recent business with Isaac, demanding to know if it concerns their land. After she offers to help, Hoover curtly dismisses her and shows himself out. Clack, as the door closes, Carla muses that he's never been the friendly type. A small smile plays on her lips as she admits that's what she likes about him. Thwack, a newspaper is slapped onto a desk, revealing an article released by the Zirktal family. An aide reads the article to Isaac, which spins the engagement as a truce and questions why they weren't notified first. The aide fumes, stating the public announcement proves Zirktal sees Isaac as his inferior. In a separate meeting, Isaac asks Hoover what he's found on Elise Zirktal, who reports she's a typical high society daughter. Hoover describes Elise as ruthless and status-obsessed, but so careful to avoid scandal that he's found no weakness to exploit. The red-haired Hoover concludes he has no good reason to call off the engagement. Thelma looks aghast, desperately asking what will happen to Dahlia. While walking with Thelma, Hoover reveals there's no weakness to exploit with the Zirktal girl, and they must be cautious. Thelma fumes, asking if the plan is to imprison Dahlia while the Duke marries, but Hoover suggests he'll just divorce his new wife later. With a worried expression, Thelma retorts that such a thing is easier said than done. In A Dark Memory, Isaac thinks to himself that they will simply get rid of the problem. Hoover recalls his tense conversation with the grim-faced Isaac. Sigh, Hoover lets out a heavy breath, burdened by the situation. At Dahlia's door, Thelma reports to Hoover that she's eating a little but is still lethargic, which he finds understandable. Hoover asks about the books he brought her, but Thelma dismisses the idea that she'd be in the mood to read. Thelma looks at him with firm conviction, insisting that Dahlia cannot continue living this way. Hoover gazes toward the room with a somber, pensive expression. The scene shifts to a hand writing a letter to someone named Laurel. Dahlia writes to her sister apologizing that she won't be able to visit Churchafaltz this year. Grit, she clenches her teeth, struggling with the words she has to write. Scratch, 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 she continues the letter with frustrated haste. Overwhelmed, Dahlia collapses onto her desk in despair. Rattle, rattle, clack. The sound of the door opening startles her. Hoover stands in the doorway, asking what she is doing. Dahlia explains she was told to try on dresses, but states that she doesn't wish to wear them. He looks at her intently, asking what she is so disgruntled about. As Dahlia sits at her vanity, she asks Hoover if he came to pick a fight, but he insists he's just trying to understand. He points out that becoming a duchess is a coveted title, but she scoffs at his reasoning. With a slight smirk, Hoover challenges her, asking if she truly believes Isaac can't make it happen. He reminds her that Isaac, once a ghost in the shadows, is now the Duke, and is more than capable of making her his duchess. Dahlia stands her ground, declaring she doesn't want to be defined solely by her relationship with Sir Isaac. She firmly states she refuses to live her life branded as a woman who traded her body for a title. Hoover asks if she's told Isaac this, and she confirms she has, every single time he visits. She explains their conversations go in circles, with him promising her the world if she'll just wait and showering her with adoration. Hoover leans in, prompting her to continue by asking, and then Dahlia reveals that he then watches her until she falls asleep before leaving in the middle of the night. A silent scene shows Isaac sitting vigil by her bedside in the dark, just as she described. Geez, Hoover laments that it's useless trying to understand someone blinded by love. As Hoover paces, he remarks that Isaac has always been strange, casually brushing off Dahlia's protest. He declares his right to talk smack about his younger brother, stunning a shocked Dahlia. Realizing they are brothers, Dahlia touches her chin in thought, admitting she had no idea. Smirk, Hoover observes that for someone who claims to like her so much, Isaac reveals very little about himself. Dahlia looks away, conceding that his secrecy is very characteristic of him. FWIP, Hoover turns to leave, offering her a piece of advice since she clearly doesn't reciprocate Isaac's feelings. His expression turns deadly serious as he prepares to give his counsel. He advises her to pretend to love Isaac and promise to wait for him, lulling him into a false sense of security to get him to let her out. Shake! Dahlia refuses, arguing she'd become a concubine, but Hoover cuts her off, asking who said she had to stay. Dahlia's eyes widen as she understands his plan. Put Isaac's guard down and then run away. Hoover grimly states that a ploy like that is the only way to make Isaac give up. His determined expression reinforces his belief in this desperate plan. Clack! The heavy door shuts, and Hoover stands in the hall with 2 guards. Walking away, he silently apologizes to Isaac for what he's about to do. His mind flashes with a bloody vision, as he resolves that he doesn't want to see Isaac become a monster. He is determined to prevent Isaac from bloodying his hands any further. Left alone, Dahlia sits on her bed, contemplating Hoover's risky advice to act gently and lovingly. Dahlia considers Hoover's plan, thinking it's not a bad idea, but hesitates. She falters, realizing such a betrayal would break Master Isaac's heart. Clasping her hands, she wonders if manipulating him is truly the only way to escape. With her hands still clasped anxiously, she questions if she must play with his feelings. As night falls, Dahlia eventually drifts off to sleep in her lonely room. Her eyes flutter open, waking in the moonlit darkness. Startled, she sits up and turns to find someone sitting in her room. She finds Isaac has fallen asleep in a chair, while watching over her again. Approaching quietly, she gently tries to wake him. Huff, gasp. She's startled as he suddenly moves, still asleep. Ah, gasp, he cries out in his sleep, clutching his head in agony as she calls to him in alarm. He finally wakes with a pained breath, murmuring her name. Cradling his face, she offers to call a physician, but he insists he's all right. He dismisses his outburst as just a nightmare, leaving her to question what he saw. Tap. She rests a hand on his shoulder as he confesses that his mother curses him in his dreams. As she embraces him, he reveals his mother's curse, that he will never be loved. Dahlia immediately tells him it isn't true. He looks away grimly, admitting there's more to the nightmare. In his dream, His mother's haunting voice tells him he will leave her. He recalls the nightmare of his mother banishing him before laughing cruelly as he collapses in despair. Back in the present, he tells Dahlia how his mother's sharp voice echoes painfully in his head. Dahlia gently cups his face, reminding him he has his brother Hoover and Lady Carla. She hugs him tightly, telling him he isn't alone and not to dwell on such a terrible dream. Leaning into her embrace, Isaac sadly states that she hates him, but she immediately denies it. He asks if she's sure, and she firmly reassures him that she doesn't hate him. A small, hopeful smile appears on his face as he looks up at her. Standing before her, he begs her to say she loves him, to say she won't leave him, but she can only stammer his title. Plop, he pushes her backwards, insisting her claim of seeing him as a brother was a lie. He looks down sadly, acknowledging it was different and asking if her past affection was just charity for a pitiful boy. As she looks up at him, conflicted, he confesses that he was okay with her pity. In fact, he liked it. A memory flashes of a happier time. With a younger Isaac and a smiling Dahlia in a sunlit garden, he admits that he sometimes acted pitiful on purpose, just so he could hear her. Leaning closer, he finishes his confession. "Tell me you love me." Clutching her hand, he vows to do anything for her, to make her the most honorable bride in the world. He desperately promises to give her a life of beauty and fulfill her every desire. Internally, Dahlia considers what would happen if she just told Isaac what he wants to hear. But as she hesitates, she admits to herself that she just can't bring herself to say the words. Placing a hand on his cheek, she thinks with sorrow that she simply can't lie to him. Gazing at his pained face, she realizes that despite everything, she still wants to protect him. Her internal conflict rages as she wonders what to do when she likes him but can't say it. Isaac's eyes widen, as if he can sense the shift in her heart. As they kiss in a fantasy sequence, Dahlia fears that if she treats him with the affection she used to, she will be the one ruined in the end. The vision of their kiss becomes a close, intimate moment. The vision ends with him pinning her to the bed in a passionate embrace. The scene shifts to a bright, sunny day at a lavish estate called Orchland. A blonde woman in a fine red gown and jewels asks about a place called Ankh. As a ring is placed on her finger, she confirms that her future husband is from the city of ANC. She looks away with disdain, thinking that while she knew he was a bastard, she didn't realize his situation was so dire. With a severe expression, the blonde noblewoman looks on, thoroughly unimpressed with her engagement. Surrounded by roses, the blonde noblewoman resolves to see for herself if her fiancé is a worthy man. A sealed letter arrives, containing a formal request for Elise Ziraktal to visit. Lying down, Isaac clutches his collar, thinking to himself that she's being hasty. As Isaac reclines, Hoover asks what he should do, while Isaac internally surmises that she wants to inspect the little bastard boy for herself. Shielding his eyes, Isaac gives a simple command: turn it down. Holding the letter, Hoover states that the only time he plans to see her, Isaac finishes the thought with cold determination. The only time he'll see her is to break off their engagement. The scene transitions to the estate under a starry night sky. An unseen woman calls out for Thelma in the hallway. The head maid confronts Thelma, pointing out that she has been clocking out very late recently. She continues her scolding, warning that it sets a bad precedent for the junior staff. With a troubled expression, Thelma offers her apologies to the head maid. The scene shifts back to Dahlia, who recalls something she once read in a book. She sits alone in her room, cast in the shadows of the barred window. Dahlia reflects on her changing allies, Thelma, who once sided with her, and Mr. Hoover, who urged her to escape. Lying in her bed, she admits that things are no longer how they used to be for her. In a memory, she embraces Isaac, admitting that ever since that day, he's been the one constant she can't let go of. His hand gently cups her face as he vows to make her his duchess, no matter what. He leans in close, whispering for her to just wait a little bit longer. As he sleeps peacefully, Dahlia's thoughts reveal he never says a word about the divorce that must happen first. She is once again shown sitting alone and imprisoned in the dark room. Whoosh, a past memory surfaces of Dahlia writing to her sister Laurel, regretfully explaining she can't visit for the holidays. In a much happier time, a younger Dahlia excitedly announces that Sir Isaac's birthday is near. She beams, adding that it's his first birthday since becoming the Duke. Step, step, step. Hoover rushes down a grand hallway with purpose. Slam! He bursts through the doors, shouting an urgent report about Herman Station. Standing at his desk, Isaac immediately asks if this is about Elise Ziraktal. Hoover confirms that she's on her way, having forced her way in after they explicitly turned her down. With a wry smirk, Isaac notes that the wedding is next week after all. He coolly orders a worried-looking Hoover to prepare the servants for her arrival. A striking woman in red heels arrives as Isaac watches. her arrival bathed in golden light. The blonde noblewoman Elise makes her grand entrance, adorned in fine jewels. Hoover formally welcomes his lady to the estate. With a practiced smile, Isaac introduces himself as Duke Isaac Jugenschult. Elise returns a confident smile, adjusting the intricate bow on her gown. She extends a gloved hand toward him. In the sunlit garden, Isaac formally kisses her hand. Stepping inside, Elise offers a polite but hollow compliment about his grand home. Over tea, Elise passive-aggressively notes the estate must have been lovely in the summer and forgives him for turning down her previous request to visit. Taking a sip of tea, she claims to understand, recalling how busy her own father was when ascending to his title. Clack, setting her cup down, she adds that it was hectic for her father, even though he was directly in line for the title. Isaac listens silently, his expression unreadable as he holds his teacup. He offers a slight, knowing smile. He cuts to the chase, stating that he imagines the circumstances of his birth are displeasing to her. Elise praises his directness, noting with a smile that it will make their conversation short. Smirk, Isaac correctly deduces that there's something she wants from him. Crossing her arms, Elise confirms there is one thing she would like him to guarantee. She looks at him intently, demanding he not cause a ruckus during their marriage with any, quote, woman-related problems. In her thoughts, a silhouette of a man cavorting with two women appears. As she notes that fidelity should be a given, she concludes her thought with disdain, lamenting that the nobility have no morals and even tend to brag about their affairs. In a grand room, the blonde noblewoman Elise sits with an air of cold authority. She stares forward, stating that if he promises fidelity, she'll overlook his illegitimate birth. Shrug, Isaac closes his eyes with a placid smile, easily promising her that much. His expression darkens as he adds that he also agrees marriage should be strictly monogamous. Elise listens intently, her gaze fixed on him from the side. She takes a slow, deliberate sip of her tea, considering his words. As night falls, the scene transitions to a different part of the estate. While a maid brushes her hair, Elise wonders aloud what that boy is hiding behind his grand facade. The maid asks for clarification. Elise firmly orders the maid to look into it for her. She gives a final stern command to report back to her immediately. She adds that if the maid uncovers anything related to another woman, she is to report back instantly. The maid with light brown pigtails smiles obediently, accepting her orders. Elsewhere, other maids ask her to stay and tell them more about her home, Orchland, but she politely declines. FWIP, turning away, the maid sighs in frustration that she hasn't learned anything useful and needs to find something before Lady Zirektal gets angry. Suddenly, the head maid confronts her, demanding to know why she is late again. Slide, the maid apologizes as the head maid points out the disheveled state of her skirt. The head maid tells her to do her job properly, despite being busy with the annex, a place the maid realizes she's never heard of. Clack, 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 thud. She walks down a dark corridor to investigate, then stops dead in her tracks. It's Thelma, who has just realized something critical. She's found a way for Dahlia to escape. The scene shifts to a symbolic chessboard, where a white queen stands surrounded by pawns. Hoover, the blue-haired man, is revealed to be the one strategizing over the board. With a gloved hand, he pushes a chess piece forward, making his move. Tap, crash. The white queen piece is violently knocked from the board, shattering on the floor. In a sunny garden, an unseen person calls out to a stern-looking Elise. A woman with long, reddish-brown hair approaches, noting it's been over 8 years since they last saw each other. Flinch. She then mentions hearing that Elise broke off her engagement to the Baron. FWIP. The woman asks if she can help, but Elise waves off her concern, telling her not to worry. Slip. The woman leans in with a worried expression, offering an apology. She clarifies she is sorry about her friend's spouse. Elise smiles slyly, reminding her friend that her turn for marriage will come after the Duke's wedding. As they walk arm in arm, the woman says she doesn't know about that. She recalls Elise's sharp advice that now is not the time to be waltzing around like a man. The woman gestures in frustration while Elise maintains a composed demeanor under her parasol. She suggests that perhaps Elise should retire for the afternoon. Elise internally rejects the idea, thinking that she can't because she hasn't found it yet. Her friend turns and asks if she happened to lose something. Surrounded by roses, Elise cryptically replies that it's too big of an object to simply lose. Clack. Clutching a rose, her expression darkens with grim determination. Inside, Dahlia is surprised to find Thelma standing in her doorway. Thelma instructs her to get dressed, saying they are going for a walk in the garden. This scene shows the estate exterior, with guards posted on the balconies. Step, 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 Thelma confidently leads a hesitant Dahlia through the garden. Leaning close, Thelma whispers Dahlia's name and tells her to lower her voice. A confused Dahlia asks for an explanation as they continue walking. Thelma points to a scarf tied on a tree branch, explaining that a trail of them leads to the station. She reveals that this hidden path is the only route to avoid the guards. Dahlia's eyes widen as she processes the shocking revelation. This is her way out. Thelma looks back at her with a serious, unwavering gaze. As Dahlia stands on a balcony, Thelma's voice echoes that she cannot stay locked up forever. Dahlia looks down into the garden, her face cast in shadow as she contemplates the dangerous offer. A brown-haired maid warns a blonde woman that her disappearance will cause trouble, but the woman insists she will be fine. Isaac watches with a stern gaze, calling Dahlia's name to get her attention. Dahlia looks back at him with conviction, telling him to worry about himself, not other people. Sigh, the brown-haired maid closes her eyes in frustration, thinking she's seen it all before. She recalls the sad pattern of girls disappearing from the estate after getting involved with their masters. Believing she was mistaken about Sir Isaac being different, her hope crumbles. With newfound resolve, she decides she can no longer stand by and watch the privileged act without consequence. Grab! The brown-haired maid urgently takes Dahlia's arm, trying to stop her. Dahlia looks over her shoulder, coldly stating that the wedding is in 2 days. Russell! The maid holds onto Dahlia, pleading for her to listen. She steps back as Dahlia pulls away from her grasp. Their way is blocked by a blonde noblewoman and her entourage, who declare this part of the grounds off limits. Dahlia's eyes widen in alarm at the unexpected confrontation. The blonde noblewoman with striking red eyes looks down at her, stating, "There you are." Again, the red-eyed woman calmly confirms she has found who she was looking for. In a darkened room, the blonde noblewoman questions her maid about the annex. Her maid confirms a servant visits the annex daily, prompting the noblewoman to ask if she's having an affair. The maid clarifies that the servant was just running errands with a basket, not having an affair. The noblewoman deduces someone must live there, as a man beside her questions if she really thinks it is his lover. With a confident smirk, the blonde noblewoman holds her chin. She muses that while the Duke owns the estate now, he was forced to live in the annex as a boy. Lying in bed, she concludes that hiding someone in that very annex is a rather obvious move. She commands her maid to find the annex, but the maid explains the other servants are too tight-lipped. Ordering her maid to be useful and find the woman before the wedding, she is asked what her plans are. Plop! She falls onto her pillow, declaring she will simply kick her out. She sits up, vowing to ensure the wedding happens, furious at being lied to, but certain he is the best match in the Empire. While acknowledging he's an eligible husband, she refuses to accept him with a mistress. She calmly plans to make the woman leave on her own, confident a bit of money will solve the problem. Back in the garden, the red-eyed noblewoman observes Dahlia with a stern, calculating gaze. She internally judges Dahlia's subservient posture, thinking that despite her clothes, she is unmistakably a maid. With a sharp glare, she finds this meekness surprisingly irritating. As her attendant suggests they leave, she dismisses him, insisting this won't take long. She approaches Dahlia and the brown-haired maid, demanding to know who owns the annex. Dahlia stammers that she is not the owner, only for the noblewoman to press further, asking if she's a guest. With a distressed expression, Dahlia denies being a guest. The noblewoman mockingly guesses if she's a relative or a friend, as Dahlia struggles to explain her presence. Dahlia remains speechless, unable to define her relationship. The noblewoman smirks, concluding that Dahlia understands her situation is shameful. Adjusting her white gloves, she says, "Very well." She walks past a stunned Dahlia, offering to spare her the trouble of explaining herself and the reason for this treatment. She viciously strikes Dahlia across the face. Dahlia reels from the blow, her expression a mixture of shock and pain. The blonde noblewoman glares down at her with cold contempt. The brown-haired maid shouts in horror, calling out Lady Ziraktal and demanding to know what she is doing. Grab! Lady Ziraktal forcefully seizes Dahlia's chin. She leans in close, her eyes filled with menace. A different maid and a male attendant watch the scene unfold with shocked expressions. Slap! The brown-haired maid is also struck, screaming for it to stop. Thud! Dahlia collapses onto the stone path, completely overwhelmed. A blonde noblewoman coldly questions another woman, calling her a leech. Her eyes blazing with fury, she asks if the woman's family knows she sells her body. She scoffs that while others might accept a duke having a courtesan, she will not. As Dahlia kneels before her, Elise reminds her that the wedding is in 2 days. Tossing 2 coins, she orders Dahlia to be gone from the estate by then. Dahlia stares in stunned silence as Elise demands to know if she's been understood. Turn. As Thelma rushes to Dahlia's side, Elise coldly walks away with her maid. The maid protests that she was only supposed to tell her off, but Elise found her irritating. Thelma helps Dahlia to her feet, asking if she can stand, while Dahlia insists she is fine. Sitting alone by a large window, Dahlia quietly reassures herself that she's all right. She stares at the 2 coins in her palm, her gaze hardening as she looks out a barred window at a fiery sunset. Dahlia's resolve strengthens as she stares out from her prison. The scene transitions, showing birds flying freely against the crimson sky. Behind the bars, Dahlia's expression is one of pained determination. Her eye reflects the fading light as the sky darkens to a starry night. Knock knock. Hoover arrives at a door and asks someone to fetch Thelma for him. Thelma appears and asks what he needs, to which he simply replies, yes. His request is simple and direct. He needs ink. Dahlia remains behind the bars, her face set with grim purpose. Her eye glints with a newfound resolve. At a jeweler's shop, an unseen person decides on a purchase. Clack. A man in a black suit and hat stands expectantly before a door. It's Isaac, smiling as he holds a purple ring box. A day before the wedding of Isaac and Elise, the grand estate is shown. Isaac warmly shakes hands with a visiting nobleman. He presides over a formal dinner with several male guests. Isaac listens to an older man with a mustache while holding a glass of wine. He takes a quiet, contemplative sip of his drink. His attention shifts to another man with reddish-pink hair across the table. Later, the man with reddish-pink hair stands before Isaac in his office. When asked if he's nervous for the wedding, Isaac smirks and says it isn't that. He reveals that today happens to be his real birthday, surprising his guest. Tack, he explains that, while the papers say otherwise, this is his true day of birth. With a gentle smile, Isaac states he simply wants to spend it without any fuss. Russell, the man, apologizes profusely, realizing he's burdened the Duke on a special day. He formally congratulates Isaac on his coming of age, which Isaac accepts with a slight nod. The moment fades in a soft, hazy transition. Clack, Isaac asks Hoover if his schedule is clear for the rest of the day. Tap, Isaac places a hand on a red-haired man's shoulder, startling him. The man calls after him as Isaac walks away down the hall with purpose. Clack, Isaac throws open a door, calling Dahlia's name. Entering her room, he apologizes for being busy and promises to be with her now. He stops short, seeing her and saying her name with concern. Dahlia stands with her back to him, unmoving. Isaac's expression softens into a warm smile as he looks at her. Hug! He steps forward and embraces her from behind. As he holds her, she thinks to herself that he does remember, while simply saying, "Of course, master." She turns with a defiant, knowing smile, a smudge still visible on her cheek. Isaac's gentle expression vanishes, replaced by sudden shock and concern. Holding her face, he furiously demands to know who hurt her, but she insists she's fine. Isaac touches his neck in shock. With a faint smile, Dahlia reassures him. He offers her something for the mark on her cheek. Holding up a small tin, he asks if she remembers it. Recalling when he first gave her the scar ointment, she declares it's now unusable. He explains that after so long, the medicine has become poison. When he offers to throw it out, she quickly stops him. Isaac's expression sharpens as he realizes something is off. He internally questions why Dahlia, who never dressed up, has gone to such lengths today. Dahlia admits her dress feels awkward, explaining it was the simplest one she had. Taking her hand, Isaac tells her he disagrees. He confesses that her beauty left him speechless and filled him with happiness. She reveals she dressed up for him, as she couldn't wish him a happy birthday from her confinement. A deep blush spreads across Isaac's face. He embraces her tightly, believing she finally understands his heart. Pulling back, he gently calls her name. Isaac kneels down on one knee before her. Dahlia looks down, confused, as she asks what he is doing. He announces that he has finally come of age. Surrounded by yellow flowers, he asks Dahlia Balor to marry him. Holding a blue ring box, Isaac smiles with unwavering confidence. The mood shifts as the room grows dark. Dahlia's hand reaches for the box as she joyfully accepts his proposal. As he moves to place the ring on her finger, she stops him, saying she also has a gift for him. Clack, she opens another box, revealing a simple diamond ring. Curious, Isaac asks what it is, and she tells him to close his eyes. She directs him to stand in a specific spot, Russell. A soft sound makes him wonder if what he's hearing is possible. She softly tells him he can open his eyes. They stand opposite each other in the dimly lit room. His eyes widen in astonishment. Dahlia stands before him, her hair unbound, with a gentle, serene expression. She stands barefoot, having shed her formal gown. Her voice echoes her request to be held in his arms. She repeats her plea, asking your grace to embrace her. Stunned, Isaac asks what she is doing. They stand inches apart, their faces close. He blushes as their lips are about to meet. Isaac's face is flushed with emotion and desire. He gently holds her face, his gaze fixed on hers. He leans in and kisses her deeply. Her eyes are wide as the kiss continues. They embrace passionately in the middle of the room. Whispering her name, he lays her down on the bed. The scene transitions with a cascade of blue flowers. Lying in bed, she begins to pose a hypothetical question. Isaac rests his head on the pillow, listening intently. Touch, she caresses his cheek, asking what he would do if someone became a high-ranking noble. Dahlia smiles down at him with a knowing, enigmatic look. She leans over him. Their bodies close in the quiet intimacy of the bedroom. Her final thought lingers, a farewell to her beloved lord. As Isaac sleeps, Dahlia leaves the room, bidding him goodbye forever. Gasp! Isaac jolts awake with a start. He sits up in bed, looking to the empty space beside him. In the vast, opulent bedroom, Isaac finds himself completely alone. Getting out of bed, he calls out Dahlia's name with growing urgency. Pause. He stops mid-stride, a look of unease crossing his face. He searches for her through the window, his worry mounting. Slip. His hand brushes a small, dark stain on the vanity. Gripping his head in disbelief, he frantically denies the possibility. He stares ahead, trying to convince himself that it's impossible. His eyes fall upon a letter left for him on the dressing table. He picks up the envelope, addressed to my beloved lord. In a flashback, Dahlia writes about the sunset, predicting the first snow would soon cover Harriman. She muses that a wedding accompanied by snow would be grand. The letter describes him as a handsome groom beside a bride in a dazzling white dress. Reading her words, Isaac's face darkens as she declares she cannot be that bride. In her letter, she explains, she is too simple and poor to stand by his side as he grows more powerful. A memory flashes of him relaxing, completely unaware. She recalls questioning her fate, wondering why she had to be a poor orphan. A single tear falls, as she laments not being born into an elegant family like his fiancé. Standing before a closed door, she writes that all she could give him was her heart. His hand clenches a post as he reads her confession of self-hate and inferiority. The letter concludes that the love she could neither give nor receive is making her ill. Taking a step forward, she declares in her writing that she is beginning to understand. As he stares at the letter, she stands cloaked in the hall, writing that she must leave to find solid ground. Her voice echoes a final, heartbreaking farewell to her night star and her love. The memory fades in a wash of light. Dahlia walks away from the estate under a fiery, snow-dusted sky. With a look of solemn resolve, she thinks to herself that she truly loved him. Isaac stands in the falling snow, reaching out in despair for the woman who is already gone. He stands alone and defeated before the estate's guest house. A voice calls out to him as he stares blankly into the snow. A red-haired man reports that the overnight snowfall has erased her tracks, making it impossible to trail her. The man advises Isaac to head to the ceremony hall, but Isaac just clutches her letter. With a grim expression, Isaac internally vows that is the last thing he will do. He gives a single, desperate command to the red-haired man: find Dahlia. Wobble! Isaac sways as he orders a complete search of the estate, village, and every vehicle leaving Harriman. Overcome with grief, he breaks down, crying that if they don't find her, he will. Toot, the sound of a train whistle signals a departure. Blink. Dahlia sits on the train, her expression weary but determined. Clunk. A little girl beside her notes her exhaustion, but Dahlia insists she just needs sleep. Rattle. The girl offers to tell her a story, just as Dahlia once did for her. Clunk. As the girl begins a tale of a handmaiden and a young lord, Dahlia listens quietly. Rattle. The girl smiles, recounting how the two loved each other against all odds. Clunk. She continues the story of the lord making the girl a lady and taking her to a ball. Clunk. The girl finishes happily, saying they watched the sunset together. Clunk. A somber Dahlia stares ahead, the fairy tale ending a stark contrast to her reality. A maid's employment is tied to a one-year contract, and they are forbidden from marrying or having children. They are also not allowed to have relationships or any contact with men, nor can they leave the estate grounds. Their work is closely supervised by a matron. If a maid fails to comply with these rules, the narration details the first two rules. Lady Carla and Mr. Hoover's orders are absolute, and no one is to speak of the broken engagement. Whisper, a woman with a sly smile, states the final rule. To a group of maids, she forbids them from ever entering the annex. A new maid asks if there's a ghost, but another whispers they'd prefer that to what's actually there. A senior maid interrupts, sternly telling the others to stop hazing the newcomer and return to their duties. From a tree branch outside, an owl-like bird watches a maid through the estate window. The senior maid glances back with a resolute expression. Perched on a sunny branch, the small bird seems to ask, "How are you doing?" Flutter the bird takes to the sky. It soars over a bustling port town, identified as Wublang. As Dahlia works outside an inn, a voice asks her to clean a table, and she agrees. A woman calls for Dahlia to take an order, which she promptly accepts. A coworker calls out, offering Dahlia the 6 beers she ordered. Dahlia smiles brightly, carrying a large beer mug through a crowd. Later that night, a young girl with blonde hair named Laurel greets Dahlia, noting her late return. Laurel says she wanted to have dinner together, and Dahlia apologizes for the busy night. Embracing the girl, Dahlia explains that since Margot gave them a room and work, helping is the least she can do. Laurel yawns, wishing she could grow up faster to help Dahlia. Cough. Laurel is suddenly racked by a violent cough, startling Dahlia, who calls out her name in alarm. Dahlia tells the ailing Laurel to take her medicine and go to sleep, but the girl resists. Laurel asks if she can stop, insisting she only has a light cough and feels fine now. Dahlia agrees she has recovered well in Wublang, but insists on the medicine to be safe. Laurel quietly complains that the medicine is too expensive. Dahlia acknowledges that she isn't paid well at her jobs, while giving Laurel a spoonful of medicine. Laurel worries about their dream of opening a flower shop, but Dahlia tells her not to worry. With a confident smile, Dahlia reminds Laurel of her savings, assuring her she can afford both the medicine and their dreams. As Dahlia soothes her worries, the scene focuses on a familiar blue box on the dresser. Inside the box rests the beautiful diamond ring from Isaac. Clack, Dahlia closes the ring box with a contemplative look. In the purple light of her room, she worries that her savings are dwindling and her earnings are low. Squeeze, she clutches the box, thinking of it as a last resort as she vows to get by. In the bright morning sun, Dahlia walks through a courtyard, happily holding a bouquet. A man at the flower shop shows her a newly arrived plant she's never seen before. Smiling warmly, Dahlia announces her return from the market with arms full of flowers. An elderly woman greets her affectionately, touching her cheek with a smile. As evening falls, Dahlia sits alone at a table in the quiet inn. The inn owner, Margot, asks Dahlia if something good happened, but she says no. Margot is happy to see Dahlia smile now, noting she looked sicker than Laurel when she arrived, which Dahlia credits to her. Clack, Dahlia greets a new arrival, but stops short when the woman in a large hat calls her by name. Stunned, Dahlia exclaims, "Ma'am," as Lady Carla takes her hand with a pleasant smile. Margot looks on curiously, asking Dahlia if she knows the woman. Lady Carla explains she was in the region on business and thought of Dahlia. She says she knew Dahlia was alone and wanted to check in on her. Squeeze! Lady Carla holds her hands as Dahlia thanks her, saying her new work is tough but fun. Dahlia happily tells her that Laurel's health has greatly improved since their move. Hearing Dahlia's spirits are lifted, Lady Carla's expression turns cold and menacing. Feigning shock, Lady Carla questions the name Laurel, and Dahlia confirms it. In a dark inner thought, Lady Carla wonders with shock. She's alive? Sensing the strange reaction, Dahlia internally questions what is happening. Just then, Laurel appears on the stairs, calling for Dahlia and asking about her medicine. Laurel looks up with wide, innocent eyes, finding Dahlia with her unexpected guest. Lady Carla stares in utter disbelief, her face a mask of shock. Tremble, she visibly recoils as Dahlia stands protectively before Laurel. Composing herself, Lady Carla abruptly says she must leave, prompting a confused Dahlia to call out after her. Slam! The door shuts forcefully, leaving a baffled Dahlia wondering what just happened. Laurel tugs on her dress, quietly calling Dahlia's name to get her attention. With a startlingly serious expression, Laurel warns Dahlia not to listen to her.